This girl is a top-ranked hunter, and she's assembled a squad made up of the absolute best of the best, plus one rookie nobody has ever heard of, to clear an insanely dangerous dungeon. The moment they step inside, a huge cockatrice attacks them. The veteran S-rank hunters immediately snap into formation and take defensive positions like the professionals they are. But the rookie? Our guy sees a monster and apparently decides defense is for weak people. He charges straight into the attack. The squad is still trying to figure out whether this kid is incredibly brave or simply out of his mind, when with a single punch, he slams the overgrown chicken straight into the ground. The S-rank hunters stand there completely speechless, still processing what they just witnessed. Meanwhile, Seo Dojin casually walks over to the crater and finishes the monster off with a kick like he's taking out the trash. At this point, the entire squad is questioning what exactly they just saw. They immediately turn to their leader, asking who exactly this guy is and why he's so strong. The problem is, she has no idea either. She's never seen anyone this ridiculously strong before. So, who exactly is Seo Dojin? Well, he used to live in another world that was destroyed by monsters far stronger than these. Monsters infiltrated the world, causing it to succumb to despair. People fought until their last breath to safeguard the place they called home. Among those brave souls was the protagonist of this story, Carcerian Le Vandeiyan, who fought against the menace just as viciously. Many years passed with him battling countless monsters, relentlessly piling up dead bodies with the only blade he had, and not an ounce of fear in his heart. Then finally, a day came when he fought Aaron's brother from another mother. That bastard was one tough nut to crack. The battle was brutal, but he eventually took down the piece of shit. In the aftermath of the battle, he too succumbed to death. But fate had other plans. With his soul drifting through this endless void, he met a human boy hailing from some planet known as Earth. The boy's name was Seo Dojin, who was on the brink of death for some unknown reason. Before dying, he wanted to make a simple request to Vandeiyan, who immediately refused even before listening to what this boy wanted to say. After all, bro just wanted to die peacefully. He was done with all the shit. He lost his country to the monsters, lost his loved ones, and eventually died a dog's death. While this boy Seo Dojin didn't really want to live either, he desperately wanted his family to have a good life. Well, it seems like Vandeiyan is finally ready to listen to this dude's request. The boy lights up like a kid in a candy store and musters up the courage to say he wants his family to live peacefully. And so, our boy gladly takes on the job to protect this boy's family, and finds himself on Earth. Now rocking the body of that teenage boy Dojin, our guy is on a mission to infiltrate Namsan Gate, which is ranked C for obvious reasons. Only registered heroes are allowed to enter, so the automated machine keeps blaring at him to scan his ID card, which our guy obviously doesn't have. He simply crashes through the guarded and authorized building to enter the gate, triggering the security alarm blaring about the infiltration. Once inside, he starts walking around trying to find monsters to smash. That's when he stumbles across a party of heroes, folks who have official licenses and permission to be there. They assume our boy is someone who got lost and offer to show him the way out, especially since they're heading for the exit too. Dojin stays silent, giving off a weird vibe. Even these heroes can tell something's off. He's wearing casual clothes and doesn't look like a hero at all. Sure, porters nowadays dress more casually, but our boy's outfit is way too simple for its own good. And what's up with that bag on his back? For all they know, he's probably just a clueless porter who got abandoned by the party he originally came with. Then again, they're not so sure. Dojin finally speaks up, acknowledging why they're feeling super skeptical, but makes it clear he came here on his own without any hero's party. Hearing this, one of the heroes sighs, understanding the reason behind our boy's presence. He has seen plenty of cases where people catch a hard boner to become a hero and hunt monsters after watching some flashy TV commercials. But that burst of motivation can get someone killed real fast if they barge into gates recklessly without going through legal procedures. First, you need to get officially certified as a hero. Then you go through training and testing. Not to mention, this gate is C rank for a reason. If you're a rookie just starting your career, you better go find an F rank gate before you lose your life for real. After listening to this dude yapping and generously handing out advice no one asked for, Dojin makes it abundantly clear he doesn't need shit. Naturally, the crew of heroes is bewildered by this kid clapping back with such a cold tone. After all, they were just trying to help. So they get a bit pissed, but the leader tells his comrades to hold their horses. If the guy doesn't want help, then fine, leave him be. The leader is confident this kid will eventually learn the hard way why you don't cover your ears when someone wise is talking. They hope he finds out just how unforgiving these gates are, unlike the TV shows that glamorize being a hero like it's the second coming of Christ. Soon enough, Dojin finally comes across a giant troll staring him down, ready to eat him alive. The monster unleashes an attack, only to miss and hit the ground. Bro moved so fast the troll couldn't even process what the hell happened. Then he balls up his fist and delivers a devastating punch, hard enough to blow the orc's face clean off. It's basically something out of One Punch Man, or Omni-Man on a killing spree. Now that the monster's out of the picture, here comes the juicy part. Time to loot, baby. First, he grabs the sword that bastard was carrying. Then he uses that same sword to dig further into the monster's body and extracts a shiny gemstone, It's actually a low-grade magic stone, so insignificant that Dojin never even bothered with them before in his previous life. But since he's broke right now, he's got no choice. Suddenly more monsters swarm the area, pissed after seeing their buddy decapitated. Dojin turns around and chucks the gemstone so fast it literally blows one of their heads clean off. The other two dumbasses charge in like they've got some death wish they want fulfilled. Well, Dojin's more than happy to grant it. While he's wrecking havoc, we cut back to the crew of heroes trudging through this monster-infested territory. Currently, their minds are still stuck on the encounter they had with that young man. The orange-haired woman is actually worried about Dojin's well-being, fearing he might end up dead. But the leader of the pack assures her that's highly unlikely. If he is some unauthorized guy who barged into the gate, agents from the control center will find him soon enough. Those agents on missions are always B rank or above. And since this gate is C rank, there's no way in hell he's dying here. As long as the kid steers clear of recklessly rushing at monsters, he's got no chance of losing his life. The Baldy agrees with his leader's assessment. He's pretty sure the arrogant brat must be trembling in fear, waiting for the agents to save his ass from doom. Well, the story is pretty much the opposite. It's our guy who's literally making these plus-sized sandbags shake in fear. One punch and the prey is down. He's so fast they can't even touch him, let alone crush him under the weight of their blades. He appears right behind one of the dumbasses and delivers a kick so hard it demolishes the guy's head. With all the suckers down, he grabs one of their swords and proceeds to harvest the sweet magic stones all for himself. After a while, he's done stuffing his bag and ready to leave. Though honestly, he's pretty disappointed with today's grind. It's basically dead weight in his bag, all those low-grade gems. Right then, one of the agent guys finally spots him and calls out to his buddies. Before our guy can fully turn, those suited men give him a tough stare down. First, they explain they're from the gate control center and suggest he show his hero registration card. If he's unregistered, he has to come to the control center with them. Our guy isn't sure about that, which makes the suited dude tense up even more and get colder, insisting he cooperate and follow the proper procedures. The only response the suits get is annoyance etched all over our guy's face, and all this unnecessary drama killing his mood. Then again, bro ain't got the energy to argue. He just turns to leave. Since words aren't working, the suits threaten handcuffs if he refuses to comply. Physical force may be used if necessary. One of the more impatient ones dares to grab our guy's hand and threatens him with the injuries he'll sustain if he refuses to cooperate. What's worse, all responsibility will be on his shoulders. So it's everyone's best interest to solve things with words, not violence. Seems like Dojin's done with all the yapping, so he grabs that bastard's hand back and warns him to stop sticking out like a thorn in his path. This chilling warning makes the poor suit guy instinctively scared. A chill runs down his spine. The other two bastards pull out their magic-infused batons. They're actually grade 4 magic staffs, powerful enough to subdue an orc, but they don't have enough power to hurt our guy physically. So he aggressively twists the bastard's hand, making him whine like the whiny bitch he is. Bro then issues a final warning. They better leave now if they don't want to lose the last shred of dignity they have left. Eventually, duty-bound suits are forced to retaliate with violence. They try their best to tag our guy with the magic staffs, but none succeed. Our guy delivers a crushing blow right into the back of one bastard, then hits another in the belly. Next, he focuses on the guy in glasses, the last man standing. The last dude senses what's coming and gets tense. Dojin blurs away, vanishing into thin air, causing the bastard to panic at literally seeing a man disappear. Then, out of nowhere, comes a sneaky punch right into the gut, making the bastard stagger backward in pain. Seems like Dojin is tired of all the bullshit and agents chasing him, so he finally starts thinking about registering as a hero after all. The agent assures him that as long as he avoids shady or illegal stuff, no agents will be out hunting him. Dojin then questions this thing called a rift, a question that completely throws the agent off. Quick context on how this world operates. There are multiple passages connecting to another world where strange monsters live. These passages are scattered across the world. The gemstones harvested from monster corpses are used as new energy sources, making them highly coveted. Because of this, the government oversees these passages to maintain full control over each one. Every government-controlled and open passage for heroes is called a gate. Passages that aren't controlled or enclosed are known as rifts. Back to our boy, who finds it ridiculously annoying that these suits follow him everywhere, accusing him of trespassing no matter which gate he passes through. The poor agent explains that if an unregistered hero enters a gate without permission, the control center is automatically notified, and agents waiting nearby are dispatched immediately. Since our guy is thinking about entering a rift, the agent makes it clear these aren't as easy to access as any gate. Trespassing into a rift results in a strict punishment, no warnings, no plea deals. Dojin isn't interested in hearing any of that, so he grabs the poor guy by the face and throws him aside like a trash bag. By now, the poor agent regrets not calling headquarters. This shit's way over his pay grade. Before leaving, Dojin takes one last glance at the trash agent lying there, thinking about what a weakling this dude actually is. The weakling seems to have a fractured arm and is busy shouting threats, promising to catch our boy and put him behind bars. The scene transitions to Seoul, Gasan Digital Complex in Gyeongcheon District. This giant building is now known as the Hero Complex. Here, all trades related to magic stones or anything found in the gates go down. And nowadays, this place is busier than ever. Dojin can be seen heading toward one of the stores that deals in buying and selling magic stones. Upon entering, he's greeted by this Gen Z bastard, busy scrolling through brain-rotting Insta-reels. When Dojin says he wants to sell some magic stones, the cunning shop owner immediately starts preaching about his business, claiming this branch offers the highest prices to their clients. He even goes as far as saying they're the best in the whole country. Dojin finally puts all the low-grade gems smeared in monster blood on the counter, causing the store owner to put on this sour expression like he just got boned from behind. He's seriously grossed out by all the blood stuck to the stones. Regardless, he doesn't complain and moves forward with the transaction. Dojin is asked if he wants some coffee while the stones are being processed. A little while later, he is sipping coffee while the shop owner carefully cleans the blood off the stones. Afterwards, the owner calculates the total amount due. There are 12 low-grade magic stones, 16 medium-grade ones, plus 5 upper and lower-grade stones as well. After deducting a 40% commission, Dojin is set to receive around 5.5 million won. Well, our boy isn't too comfortable handing over 40% as commission. It just feels unfair because he did all the hunting and wasted his time. So how the hell does this bastard think he's entitled to nearly half the money? The shop owner proudly claims he's being generous, charging only 40%, especially since every competitor in this business charges 45% or more. He's so confident that he even offers Dojin to take his stones back if he doesn't like the price. After all, no one else will offer more, or at least that's what this bastard claims. Our guy ain't falling for that trap and starts stuffing his precious stones back into his bag. Seeing his tricks aren't working, the bastard grabs Dojin's hand before he leaves and demands compensation for the appraisal and the coffee he drank. It's 30,000 won for the appraisal plus an extra 10,000 for the coffee. Not to mention, all the blood he had to wipe off ruined his expensive towel. With everything added up, Dojin supposedly owes the guy around 350,000 won. Dojun isn't giving in to these unreasonable demands, no matter how hard this crazy bastard pushes. Seeing nothing's working, the bastard stoops to street-level tactics and threatens Dojin with the C-class heroes he has as his guards. Right then, those big guys barge in through the back door, asking why they were called. If anyone's causing trouble, they're ready to deal with them. Dojun in response shoots a sharp glare at the bastard, who stares right back with the same intensity. A while passes, and the scene cuts to the terrified, sweaty face of the shop owner, who had been acting cocky like he was the main character. But he got a reality check when Dojin took down his 3 pigs, without breaking a sweat, making it clear who the real MC is. My guy then walks up to the counter and smoothly negotiates the commission down to 1%, no questions asked. We all know there's no arguing when someone like Dojin is staring straight into your soul like that. So the deal goes through, and Dojin walks out with a fat stack of cash for the haul he collected with his sweat, or rather, his fists. His grandma and sister are both in total awe at the huge amount of money. Grandma even suspects Dojin is pulling a fast one with fake bills. But the guy quickly clears that up, saying the money came from lending cash to a friend who started a business that ended up doing really well. Grandma isn't sure if her grandson even has a friend like that. He tries to convince Grandma with another lie that it was a childhood friend. Eventually, Grandma stops asking questions, at least the big ones. Meanwhile, Dojin's sister is super proud of her big brother for making their family rich. The doting brother pats her and gives her hope about the luxury life they'll be living from now on. The little girl just jumps around happy to be rich. Watching her so happy, Dojin realizes he's actually making progress fulfilling a promise he once made. He remembers the words of the owner of the body he's possessing, whose one dying wish was for his grandma and his half-sister Yoon-young to live safe and happy lives. That poor guy disappeared right before Dojin could say anything, and when he woke up, he had become Seo Dojin. Now his only mission is to make sure this little family lives safely and comfortably. For that, he wants to buy the safest house in Korea, which currently costs 110 billion won. For him, making money won't be an issue as long as he gets his original strength back. This world shares a lot of similarities with the one he came from, the one that was destroyed. The only big difference is that rifts, gates, monsters here are all marginally weaker than the world he once saw fall. To him, who held the title of Sword God in his previous life, this place is nothing but a sandbox. So far, he's only been fighting at 1/10 of his original power. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door, and the visitor says he wants to see Seo Dojin. Bro stands up and decides to answer. As he opens the door, he finds 2 thugs standing outside. These guys are here to claim a debt Dojin owes, an insane 48 million won. Seeing this, Dojin's sure these are loan sharks. The real Seo Dojin borrowed money from before he left this world for good. Though it was supposed to be just 5 million won originally for his grandma's hospital bills, these guys are charging crazy interest to demand 10 times the original amount in no time. They know he's been making money through gates lately, so they want him to cough up the cash since it's all documented in the contract. But the only repayment these bastards get is a jaw-busting punch right in the big guy's face. That single punch sends the poor thug flying, leaving his partner with his jaw hanging in disbelief. Our guy then gives the scrawny bastard a deadly stare to remind him that over 9 million won has already been repaid. So if you do the math, these bastards should be paying him interest. With another punch that makes the bastard cry like a bitch, Dojin tells him to tell his boss that Dojin's coming to pay a visit. The scene then cuts to the shopping mall, bustling with life. There, we see sweet little Eunyoung lighting up a kid in a teddy bear store. Dojin brought her here for a shopping spree. Today she's free to get anything she wants. You know, our boy wasn't always that soft-hearted Pookie in his previous life. It's the original Dojun's memories that revitalized his dry emotions. It makes his heart warm up to see how kindly Dojin treats Eunyoung, even though she's only his half-sister. So he wants to keep doing the same, and make sure to give all the love he can muster for this little girl. The little girl finally chooses a stuffed toy she really wants. It's a small but cute bunny. She picks it modestly, making sure she's not being extravagant. But Dojin picks a way bigger stuffed toy for her. He doesn't want her to hold back at all. It's her day, and she can pick whatever her heart desires without thinking twice about money. They both treat themselves to some good food too. As they enjoy their meals, an unfamiliar voice calls out our boy's name. It's a middle-aged woman followed by a bunch of bodyguards. This chubby MILF seems like yet another trash talker who loves to hate on our boy. First, she points out his lousy sense of dressing. Then she questions the girl sitting next to him. She's bold enough to throw a jab, saying he must have knocked someone up and had this girl, just like how his mother brought him to this world. Of course, these sharp jabs infuriate our boy beyond anything. Meanwhile, the little girl has no clue who this lady is or why she's trash-talking so casually. This MILF then promptly turns her attention to the girl and asks her name. The girl introduces herself as Lee Eunyoung, which makes this trash MILF realize she's Dojin's sister. Out of habit, the woman throws a jab at her clothes too, calling her a mess. This bitch isn't sparing her deceased mother either, and all of this is just getting on our boy's nerves real bad. But for some reason, he's holding it all in, not trying to get aggressive with her provocations. Even this MILF is pretty astonished at how Dojin is keeping his composure, not falling for her traps. So this bitch decides to go one step further. This fat piece of work is bold enough to ask a child the meaning of harlot. Well, that's the last straw. Dojin snaps and calls her an ugly woman who belongs to a tribe of orcs. Of course, the woman is left wide-eyed and mind blank after getting caught off guard. Let's have a little context to understand why Dojin has been tolerating this woman only so much. You see, Dojin was born an illegitimate child and lived in poverty. At the tender age of 7, his mother died, and he barely made it to his father's house. With his father marrying a new woman, he was shunned by everyone. It only got worse after his father's legitimate wife gave birth to a son, and Dojin was ignored completely. Things got so bad that he got kicked out of the very house he lived in. So he lived with his half-sibling at his grandmother's house. As our boy reflects back, he feels pity for the original Dojin who had to endure all this and still tried to keep a smile on his face like he had no pain in his life. But now he wants to change everything. Seems like this woman is his stepsister, which explains why he was trying to hold himself back. But he won't tolerate her no more. He recalls how he shared a roof with this orc of a woman, and she's just as disgusting as ever. Not only is her personality messed up and her appearance orc-like, she's also dumb as hell. He further crushes her spirit by dropping brutal bombs on how she's a wreck with an inferiority complex. That's the only reason she projects her insecurities onto others by calling them ugly. She's just a gold digger obsessed with others, and that's the real truth the world should know. As he continues to crush her under his sharp jabs, the entire shopping mall watches them like they're the center of attention. The orc lady is totally annoyed and about to lose it, but then Dojin's stepmother walks in. Seeing her mom, the orc lady approaches her like the whiny bitch she is, complaining how this kid just shut her down with words. But this mother is aggravated to see her daughter whining like that and shuts her up with a cold glare. Not gonna lie, bro's got one heck of a stepmom. At first, I even thought the orc lady was his stepmom. The hot mama turns her attention to our boy and greets him with utmost grace. She's inviting him to come back home and hang out for some fun, but Dojin knows all too well that this facade his stepmom is putting up is fake. After all, she's the one who caused the most misery and unrest in the 12 years he lived with them. The woman continues reminding Dojin of things he never wants to remember, triggering his PTSD and making him go full serious mode. With a tone colder than your mother's jokes, our guy tells this bitch to get the fuck lost. That's a major slap to her dignity, being shit-talked by someone younger than her. She just twirls around and leaves with the last bit of dignity she has left. For real though, she wasn't expecting him to clap back so sharply. She's left wondering if he's the same guy who would just lower his head even when she slapped him for no reason. Her bitch of a daughter follows along, with their bodyguards also following the both ladies. Honestly, these guards played the perfect role of mannequins in this ordeal. Let's shift our attention to our boy. Seems like these two girls totally ruined the time our duo was having. So our boy decides to be on his way too. The way he reacted to his stepfamily was intentional. He wanted to make one thing clear: the Seo Dojun who couldn't even speak up for himself is gone. It's high time his trash family realizes that. We then cut to a Mercedes zooming down the road. Inside the car, we see both the trash mother and daughter. The daughter is pissed at her mom for just walking out quietly instead of putting Dojun in his place. As she vents her frustration and curses our boy for the humiliation they suffered, the mother orders her manager to answer why Dojun is still alive. Well, Baldy has no clue how this dude is alive. It doesn't match the reports. The woman blares at the top of her lungs about the bullshit this man is spouting. How the heck could he be alive if they made sure the job was done and clear? The poor guy assures her he'll look into the matter again and make sure this time the job is executed properly. Meanwhile, the trash daughter has no clue what her shady mother has been plotting all along. She's rattled hearing talk about killing and dying. Eventually, the mom poses a question to her daughter, wondering if she has feelings for Dojun. This catches the fat pig off guard, making her blush and flustered. Actually, she's worried about Dojun dying because if grandpa or dad find out, they're gonna be in serious trouble. The mother grabs her daughter by the mouth hard enough and drills her to stay the hell away from her business. The mother is dead set on claiming Dojun's life, with no plan to spare him, especially not after how he dared to talk back to her. Getting rid of him is the best revenge she can think of. A decade ago, the world took a turn to chaos with the appearance of the Rift. This terrifying dimension gave birth to monsters, spawning from the portal, armed with the objective of slaughtering humans upon sight. Their terror didn't stop. It was ceaseless, and eventually demolished the world, scarring it with destroyed cities engulfed in flames. However, just like the appearance of the dark forces, there came the emergence of the light in the form of valiant warriors called the heroes. With their emergence, the first discovery of mana stones was made from the dead bodies of the defeated monsters. Back to the present, Dojun's going somewhere, reflecting how mana stones quickly shifted the world's dependence from traditional energy sources. Because of their key role, countries decided to center their attention towards the emerging rifts, basically claiming priority over them so they could extract resources. With the current state of the world in motion, all of its industrialization is completely reliant on the concept of gates and the dependence of heroes. And because of that, the profession that can be classified as a hero reaps high rewards. A consistent high salary can only be achieved via becoming a proper hero. Dojun's arrived at his destination, and it's actually the Yongdongpo HCS capital establishment. I know that's a mouthful, but you guys will see why he's come here soon. He finds himself entering the building, and upon first glance, the boss and his clowns look like your average run-of-the-mill thugs who want to scare people with their ugly faces. But Dojun is pretty chill about the situation. The boss puts out his cigarette and points out our boy's audacity to not only beat the crap out of his goons, but also to show his face at the door. It really shows that Dojun really doesn't give a flying fudge about anyone. He cleverly tells the organization's owner that in reality, it's actually Dojun himself who found himself at a real loss. That statement is ridiculous from the point of the view of the boss, so he seeks clarification on what our guy means. Dojun clarifies that actually, he's come here to receive his well-deserved compensation. After all, he's endured mental, physical, and materialistic losses all this time because of the existence of these clowns. With his strong and serious words, the boss has noticed one significant change from the boy's personality. Something about the kid has changed. He's no longer the soft-spoken spirit or the gentle person he was. Then there's the added evidence that this same kid destroyed the lackeys he sent to his door. All things considered, the boss's leading suspicion is that Seo Dojun must have experienced a unique kind of awakening throughout his experiences in the gate. Despite knowing this, Dude still decides to act arrogant and tells Dojun that his newfound confidence because of his awakening will become his own undoing. The hypocrite calls our boy for being overconfident in his abilities, and to back up his claims, he brings over a bunch of grumpy men to intimidate him. Of course, he can pack all the muscle he needs, but to the experience of the sword god, they're practically insects in comparison. The boss is talking out of his ass and states that even those awakened people end up getting killed like deadweight and low-class heroes in the end. The funniest part? Bro is under the assumption that Seo Dojun is nothing beyond the level of a D-class hero, and that his organization can easily stomp on someone as weak as that. Meanwhile, Dojun is just chilling on the sofa in the background while five guys are staring him down. Without showing even a hint of amusement, he orders the boss to sit the heck back down. The boss is astonished to hear him continue to speak in his previous tone, while Dojun emphasizes with a serious face that he's not done talking. Hearing him say something like that, one of the guys decides to get his balls tripped up and challenges Dojun. Amusingly enough, our boy happily takes off his glasses, adding more to his confusion. And then he hammers a Mike Tyson ballistic universal machine gun rocket punch 9000 in his damn face. The dude is sent flying from the impact while his friends are at a loss for words. But that's not all, because the beating is shared among the group as Dojun knocks down another one. Keep in mind that while he's beating their asses, he's calmly making his points too, sharing his knowledge of the boss's secret shady business underneath the cover of a money-lending business. Dojin aims to punch down an orange-haired punk and proves his knowledge of the counterfeit identification business he pulls. Having landed his punch, he tells the boss that he's in search of a hero identity to officially register as one and make money. Ducking the strike of the final guy, Dojin returns the blow with triple the love. And that's how he made the entire group sleep with his special sleeping routine. Works 100% of the time. Dojin continues his demands, stating that he's in need of a foolproof identification that doesn't cause any trouble for him in the future. The boss is left starstruck by what happened in the span of a few seconds. Our boy reminds him that he's only got one day to forge the identity for him. Some of the men didn't intervene in the fight, by the way, which is a compliment to the NPCs because they're the type to challenge God while being a level 1 rookie in most stories. The boss is out here tripping for life as he begins to question and assess Dojin's skill level. At the least, this guy appears to be B-class in strength. Bro is so lost in his thoughts that he has to be reminded by the kid to snap out of it. He happily accepts the job too. Finally, Dojin grabs his shoulder politely and contrasts it with an intimidating expression on his face. He wants to know if Hong Hee-ju, his stepmother, ordered a hit on him. Of course, this is actually pretty much the case, evidenced by the conversation she had with her daughter and assistant earlier. The boss is at a loss for words until Dojin forces his grip so hard that the guy yelps in pain. Even his scrubs are looking helpless for their boss. I have to say they should really change their barbers too. Anyway, the boss breaks down and reveals her heinous strategy. This cruel scheming woman actually wanted to suck the life out of Dojin's bank account, forcing him to so much financial instability that he doesn't have any other way but to take his own life to escape from it. Now that is a definition of an evil fucking plan, especially towards your son, even if cast away. Those were her orders. Dojin hears this, and after enough of his begging and crying, he lets the man free, questioning if that's also one of the reasons they locked him inside the gate. The boss turns into an innocent little guy who had nothing to do with that incident, even going as far as to reveal that he wouldn't get paid for the execution if he died inside the gate. That's probably one plausible reason why he couldn't have done something like that, and it already has Dojin thinking. He utters the words Kang Cholwoo, which is actually the name of the guy who brought him to the gate in the first place. Effectively, Dojin wants to know every last piece of information of the guy until tomorrow. With his 2 demands stated, he leaves politely, completely changing the atmosphere of the room from which he first entered. After that conversation, Dojin is left with a deep contemplative state again. The real Seo Dojin only had one desire. He wanted to protect his little sister and his beloved grandmother no matter what. On top of everything that happened, it just adds another layer of misery and shows the kind of life the poor kid had to endure while being helpless. But not to worry, because the sword god is ready to do what he must in order to set the record straight. The following day, guess what? Our boy's officially registered. And he's also got a B rank rating, which is convenient, unlike all the other stories where the main character just has to be at the lowest possible rank for style points. Tapping the card on the machine, he proves the card's legitimacy because it recognizes his identity into the system. However, it warns him that the rank is still lower than the dangerous quest he's about to take. This is actually pretty annoying to our boy, who thinks that maybe he should have peeved the bastard to assign him a higher rank so that he couldn't run into these problems. Despite the system's repetitive warnings not to enter the gate far above his level, Dojin doesn't give a damn and goes anyway. Let's talk about the specifics of the Night Island gate. It's actually just a B-rank gate, but the logic doesn't mean a B-rank hunter can survive it. Heroes are always recommended a class higher than the gate rank for mission safety. Anyway, the scale of the dungeon is considered rank D, which means it's spread out and will be difficult for solo hunting. The good thing, however, is that it's in the form of tunnels, which means to some capacity, solo hunting won't be that hard for him this time. Because of the gate's scale, it is highly recommended that an A-rank hero take on the task. But the words risk and danger don't exist in our boy's dictionary. If anything, the worst that could happen is that he'll have to face off against an entire fleet of monsters in a narrow tunnel with little to no room. Dojin smiles at his first opponent, which is a giant serpent with a chaotic purple aura. For most heroes, this would be a sign of terror, but for him this is a sign of good luck, as he prepares his gauntlets to get the battle started. Oh, and by the way, the serpent has a bunch of its friends too, and their tongues remind me of the Alien movie. Anyway, they do their best to attack, but it's pointless because our boy is such a killing machine that he snatches and collects the mana stones like the monsters never even existed. The Black Killing Viper is a class of monster that is known for its hyperactive paralysis poison that can knock anyone down even with the slightest contact. With that in consideration, Dojin charges to propel himself at bullet speed and launches full swing. In a short span of time, he's about to slice and dice the creature all over its body, splashing blood until he severs the monster in half. With the creature defeated, Dojin notices his equipment. The gloves he purchased are ensuring the poison doesn't get in contact with him, and for the price of 300,000 won, they're holding their ground. Returning to the hunting session, Dojin turns his attention to 4 more of these ugly limbless lizards and begins blasting right through their heads with his powerful speed. More and more blood splashes out until the vipers are sent to the afterlife. Dojin stands there, busy searching for a bunch of magic stones by clawing from the monster's flesh. To his disappointment, there isn't any magic stone around. But this is according to the rules of the previous or the original world. And in that, these monsters only have a drop rate of 3% for mana stones. This means that he's got to hunt down at least hundreds of them for good loot. Walking his way along, he discovers Mr. Bonehead. You might be thinking it's the boss, but Dojin's got a different opinion, and as he asks the oversized serpent if he's the boss monster, because definitely the snake will answer like a good friend. Anyway, Dojin thinks it's a good thing this big guy appeared because he won't have to worry about getting lost anymore. Spiraling into an immediate strike, he plans to end the battle quickly to return home. But then, an unexpected thing happens. Despite having successfully landed a brute strike, his punch doesn't have any effect on the creature. Bro just gave him a tattoo on the head instead. While he's in the air and unable to dodge, the creature bashes him into the wall with its tail. Dojin sits there having crash landed. It probably gave him a reality check about the boss monster's strength, I think. The creature whips out its poisonous fangs and hisses at him like the average girlfriend when she's hungry. The creature attempts to bite him down, but luckily he evades the attempt. Using the momentum of his evasive maneuver, he bolts right back into motion with a powerful punch that connects with the creature's body and leaves more cracks against its hard shell. From this second attack, one thing has been made clear to him. The boss monster has an unusually tough exterior, making it a greater challenge than the rest of the vipers he disposed of. The shell is so powerful at his current level that he can't penetrate with one strike alone. This reverses the situation on him, making him question if he should aim for a different battle strategy. At his original strength, the sword god would mop the ever-living floor with this beast. But then suddenly he notices something. It's the sword of the warrior who lost his life fighting the boss. And now you guys are about to know why he's called the sword god and not the fist god. Even though the weapon is extremely worn out after the fight, he grabs hold of it, believing that a sword is only as competent as its wielder. With that knowledge in mind and the blade armed in his hand, he walks towards the monstrous snake. The creature propels itself forth to strike him down again. Bursting with incredible speeds, Dojin responds by going high up into the air, proudly declaring that the creature should be honored that he's going all out to kill the beast with a sword. Despite the sword's condition being crap, this guy literally unleashes so many flashing cuts in the span of a few strikes that it leaves the snake's body eviscerated. The serious fight turns into a funny conclusion with the snake dying in the background while our boy's sword is reduced to dust. It's a good thing he wiped the creature out while it was still holding on. With the boss monster dead, Dojin thinks of a smart idea that I don't really see many other protagonists implement. He takes off one of the fangs of the creature, believing it could be used as a nice material for a short sword with a bit of refinement. Considering this as a reward for his journey, he exits the gate. By the time he's exited the gate, it's already a starry night outside. He spent more time at the B-rank gate than he thought, and with the way things turned out at the end, it only pushed him to pursue and restore his strength back to full health. Also, he's a bit happy that his old friends don't get to see this weak version of him because that would be embarrassing. Back from the hunt, he goes to appraise and sell the magic stones. Before him, there's actually another hero who has come to present his great stash of magic stones. The cheap-ass receptionist treats him like shit and points out that the commission rate is the same as 40%. Even the innocent guy can sense the bullshit behind that overly high rate. He even calls it out, stating his concerns and calling himself a normal guy. The receptionist, just like what he did with Dojin, clarifies that their rate is actually the lowest among all the appraisal trades. The gate center is 5%, but that's without taxes. From the perspective of the sleazy appraiser, this is a great deal for heroes to have that earns them good money. The cash is handed to the hero, who doesn't really complain much, except concerningly asking about the dude's messed up face. The funny thing is how this guy is still repeating the same script even after getting his face bashed in. Bro plays it off, stating that a psychopath first obliterated his guards, and then he left him with this treatment. The hero thinks it's actually the fault of the receptionist for keeping low-ranking guards around at the C-rank level. After all, rank isn't the only thing that matters in their world. Skill plays a huge role too. Rank is actually a false representation of one's abilities and only updated to keep the system intact. The hero is wise to mention that the people of the same rank have a huge variance in skills and abilities, so they can't all be treated the same. Then there's also a difference between a lame watchguard who sits all day guarding the shop and a hero out there who is actively hunting down beasts for a living. Even though this guy is actually giving him some solid advice, the joker of a receptionist just wants him to stop yapping and leave already, which he does, offering to help the little dude out if he ever needs something. As he's leaving, our boy walks right past the guy, looking as cold as ever. Upon seeing him at once, the receptionist flinches and bugs the F out. He points at Dojin, shouting that this is the psychopath that made a mess out of him. Turning back to face them both, the hero is actually pretty impressed. He notices our boy's lean physique for his height. Still, the fact that he made a mess of the guards here spirals the man to gear up for a fight, questioning if he's the troublemaker. The one thing I like about this guy is that he isn't offended for petty reasons. He actually believes that Dojin is misusing his powers as a hero by bullying civilians in his normal life. Of course, it couldn't be further from the truth since he only knows one side of the story, but it's still quite interesting to see realistic characters. The receptionist is enjoying the scene, knowing that this guy is actually a 7-year-old veteran hero. If something happens to him here, the guy has plenty of connections he can abuse by giving them Dojin's name. Without really giving a damn about who he is, our boy turns back and simply tells the boomer to piss off. This only spirals the guy into being provoked, because all of a sudden now it's really looking like he's being an asshole. Dojin asks if the guy is looking to exact revenge on him. Hearing those words, the veteran hero is provoked. However, being the responsible hero that he is, and from the experience he has, he knows that it is unwise to take battles against other heroes as it almost always results in deaths. It's actually an even higher rate of death than a fight against monsters. Recalling that fact, Bro literally chills out and turns his back, leaving the receptionist at a loss for words. Dojin turns to the sleazy appraiser and asks if he's got a problem he's looking to address. Before the guy could answer, he tossed a bag full of magic stones to appraise and convert into money. These precious shiny babies are all high-grade magic stones, which really begs the question on who this guy really is from the perspective of the receptionist. Calculating the amount winds up to be a total of 150 million won. It seems like a lot at first glance, but to Dojin, it's far too little for a day's worth of hunting. He asks for the cash, but the receptionist reminds him of the commission rate they have to calculate beforehand, which obviously draws a scary look from our boy. Remembering that the rate is only 1% in their little deal, he cools down and tells the guy to wind up the rest of the amount to him. Now, inside the mind of the hilarious appraiser, he wants to beat the shit out of the guy for having so much audacity, but it's only in his imagination that he can do that. Speaking of which, the receptionist expresses that there has to be approval from upper management for an amount this huge. Without wasting another breath, Dojin demands that he get the approval right this instance. So the guy quickly phones his boss, whispering the details of their situation. But before he can smoothly wind up a deal, Dojin snatches the phone and directly tells the boss to hurry up with the payment. The boss is okay with doing so, but he just wants the phone to be handed back to the employee. Returning it with pleasure, Dojin accidentally, or should I say intentionally, smashes the phone into the wall. The employee is shivering at the sight of his smashed device, as Dojin instructs him to quickly prepare the money now that things are cleared up. And that's how the receptionist prepared numerous bags full of cash for the transaction. By the end, the guy is left devastated at being forced in such a way. Maybe you guys feel pity for him, but remember, he continues to scam nearly half the amount that ordinary heroes earn after risking their lives. He's a scumbag. 10 minutes passed and the boss quickly found himself at his store, enraged at why his employee wasn't picking up the phone. The hilarious part is that the receptionist throws in the towel and embraces an immediate resignation. The boss then sees the guy's phone smashed into the wall, giving him a good idea of what went down. Seeing this, he pulls out his phone to call Juyeon, requesting that she come here at once. Juyeon appears to be a famous young woman donning beautiful purplish-pink hair. She's so recognizable in public that people are celebrating her name as Hyun Juyeon and treating her like a celebrity. Not to mention that she looks dope as hell with that outfit. She arrives at the store and stuns the receptionist with her presence, giving him a nice greeting with a smile. There's a big reason why everyone's making a big fuss about her. She's the country's 4th S-rank hero in the lineup, nothing short of amazing. People have sprouted rumors that she's the niece of the boss, but then it makes him question what she's doing here. Confirming the claims, Juyeon expresses that she was called here on behalf of her uncle's request to take care of a reckless hero. Intrigued about the situation, the stylish S-ranker sits down, ready to hear what's going on. In the next scene, we can find our boy with his absolutely ripped body meditating out in the sun. It's true that he's been hunting for a whole day, and yet the rewards he reaped from it weren't amazing at all. With the way things are going, he's worried about the future. First and foremostly, he needs to get to a level where he can clear S-rank gates on his own. That means he has to train to restore his original strength. You heard that right, boys. It's training arc time. Dojin's biggest challenge in this current life is that unlike the previous world, the mana density of this one is thin. That means that even if he does his best to gather mana with his current rate, it will take 3 years at the minimum to come close to his original strength. Even more if things get rough. On the bright side, he could aim for better equipment for battle. But the issue is, even the most terrible equipment easily runs for hundreds of millions, so that would be wasting money. Suddenly, a chill runs down his spine as he senses the presence of someone dangerous. Fixating his sight on Yunyang, he grabs the little girl at full speed and demands that everyone go inside quickly. Back inside, he shuts the room down while his grandma eagerly questions what's going on. The entire structure shakes with a loud quake, making his grandmother flinch and question in terror if they're having an earthquake. Little Yunyang is in a state of panic, but the truth is something only our boy knows. This isn't just an earthquake, it's something else. Dojin senses the sharp and violent energy outside. A rift has just cleaved open into their world, and it just so happens to have manifested on top of their house. Rushing to take care of the problem, he tells his loved ones to stay inside as the situation outside is dangerous for them. At full speed, he cuts into the entrance of the rift, where the last thing he hears is the cries of his grandma and his sister calling out his name. The scene switches to the Soul Hero Association, where its members are made immediately alert at the sudden emergence of a rift on top of the Mapo region. It appeared after 63 days of the last emergence. Realizing that the White Lion Guild is the closest to Mapo, the manager wants his staff to contact the guild at once and alert the nearby heroes to join in to control the situation. Upon closer inspection of the rift's exact location, he discovers that the rift appeared on top of a residential home. This is a tricky situation even for them, because if on the off chance a civilian enters the rift, they're practically guaranteed their demise. Not to mention that the rift won't allow anyone else to enter after that. And if the person inside dies, it will send out a wave of crashing monsters in 10 days' time, causing chaos and destruction for the people living in the region. The monster wave would become so uncontrollable that Soul's safety will be fully jeopardized. The manager is curious about the person who interacted and entered the rift. Turns out that they know Seo Dojin has taken action as he's the resident of the home. According to his grandma, he entered the rift to protect his family. From this information, they are under the impression that he's not a hero. And that complicates things because the chances of an ordinary civilian returning from the rift is next to impossible. This causes the entire staff to feel despair and helplessness for the situation, as they can do nothing. In the next scene, we actually find Dojin's pissed-off stepmom annoyed hearing the news of his new awakening. She can't believe her ears. Her assistant reports that while he hasn't officially registered with the Hero Association, they've come to verify that he's indeed now an awakened individual from his last gate experience. This makes her frustrated because Kang Cheolwoo was supposed to finish the job, and instead it only made her target even stronger. Going batshit crazy, she smacks her fist on the table, questioning why the hell they couldn't just manage to kill the guy on their own. The fact that they also took money for executing a failing job is also a reason for her to get angry. Roaring at manager Lee, she declares her frustrations with Kang Cheolwoo by sending him a message. If he doesn't kill Dojin personally, he'll owe her 10 times the amount in return. But to her surprise, her assistant surprisingly reveals that they may not even require contacting the guy anymore, sharing the discovery of the new rift just on top of Dojin's house. Having confirmed that he entered the rift, it's clear-cut that he won't be making out alive. Hong Hee-ju is happy to hear the news and the implication that he won't make it out alive. She calms down, appearing normal for once, and tells the assistant to assess the situation until they get more news. As for our boy, he's just arrived in the rift's domain. It's a forest. In fact, it's the same forest that he once used to enjoy his youth in while resting. The forest of Patiswa is exactly the same in its reconstruction down to the very last details of how he remembers it. Even the rich mana inside carries the same weight. Following the pathway, he smiles at his reunion with the all-powerful world tree. This tree exudes mana in its purest form, the most divine structure and the core of the world's stability. So much so that when the old world fell, it started when this tree was incinerated to the ground, forever tampering with the flow of mana. However, in this rift dimension, the tree is fine and just how he remembers it. Though he's unaware of the cause, one thing is for certain. He has a chance to reclaim the mana he lost by absorbing it from the tree. Meditating underneath the excellent flow of mana, our boy is getting his strength clearer and clearer. He's spent more than 3 days sitting exactly like this, forgetting to eat or drink or tend to his bodily needs. 10 whole days passed, and all he could focus was on harmonizing his breathing. By the end of the 10th night, trouble came looking for him and disrupted his meditation. These alien-like creatures are called the Bulkina, and they've come to burn the tree just like how they did it in the past. Only this time, our boy is there to prevent the tragedy from happening again. The creatures lunge forth to attack him while Dojin regrets being unable to have a water element sword to knock them all down with ease. The burning monsters roar to make their way to him, but our boy is replenished with so much mana that he no longer cares about a weapon. He is the weapon. And those hands are rated E for everyone. Extending his hand towards the monsters, he exerts so much authority from his mana alone that it knocks down one of them. The second creature is stunned by his ability. Let's break down what happened just now. What he did there is called mana release, and not exactly telekinesis. It's a blaster-type attack that uses raw mana as a detonation strike. It had been a while since he used this ability in such a way, considering he was low on reserves all this time. Anyway, the Bulkina creatures aren't done just yet. To retaliate, they release charged blasts from their mouths in return. These pulsing laser beams quickly make their way to our boy, appearing the calmest he's ever been. His mana alone is enough to protect him from any damages. Stepping towards the creatures while he's ignited with a burst of mana, he remarks that he's finally protected the world tree. And now, he's ready to play for a bit and enjoy the fruits of his training. The ugly bastards are trying for another energy blast attack, but our boy quickly catches 2 of them and forces their mouths shut. This way, their own ability charges up and explodes inside their mouth, leaving behind a headless corpse of flames. The corpses of the creatures wither away, dropping 2 valuable magic stones for him to use. But that's just a couple of them down. Dojin is enjoying his life, thrilled to unlock something called the Eternal Ember after defeating these guys. Joyfully cutting his way past the monsters and smacking them all down with a grin, he's finally glad to steal a good load of mana stones from them. The one-sided slaughter continues until he wipes out all of them. Dojin has won the lottery ticket with how many stones they're dropping. Among them, he also discovers a small coin or a seed glowing in gold. This is called the Eternal Ember as he picks it up in his hand. With this, he's reclaimed control of more of his power as he crushes the chip and unlocks its flames. The way he's casually playing around with the ember reminds me of Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, in any normal case, the ideal strategy here would be to keep gathering mana from the world tree. However, the current state of his body has reached its physical limit for amna absorption. The second way of doing so is actually absorbing the ember, completely altering the state of his mana and transforming it into fire mana. And he does exactly that as his body produces a rush of flame energy. Now, unfortunately in his previous life, he felt zero need to do this and didn't care about the Eternal Ember at all. However, now it's required for him to fully absorb the embers, and it takes like 10 whole minutes just to get one finished. Luckily, he's got a whole bunch of these collected for him, so his goal is to absorb as many as possible. The appearance of the rift has sparked a public interest. The reporters are all gathered around our boy's house while agents and association staff are protecting the place. Bang Seonggu is pissed off because of one guy's arrogance to enter the rift prematurely. I have to point out that he looks like a carbon copy of Yeonho from Solo Leveling, but with a cleaner haircut, I guess. We also have our protagonist, but with blue hair. This guy is called Kim Hyunwoo, and he sympathizes with Dojin's actions to save his sister. But Seonggu doesn't buy that explanation at all, accusing our boy of heading in like a greedy guy who wasn't ready for the consequences. It would have been fine if he unalived himself the normal way, but if he dies in the rift, the place will become a detonation ground for monsters to come pouring out. And that's the issue, really. Hyunwoo asks for Gilma's input, and apparently Gilma has told them to just do things according to the protocols. Hyunwoo questions the recent emergence of rifts popping all over the world in various countries like the US, China, Switzerland, Turkey, and the UK. That's one reason Gilma is having a hard time managing so many rifts all at once. This kind of phenomenon doesn't really happen every day, and yet some of the nations were able to easily contain the threat with ease. But for South Korea, they're out here pissed as hell, because their situation could very well turn into a disaster because of one guy. Seonggu is so pissed that he wants to beat the crap out of the dude who went in and is begging for the rift to throw him out. Speaking of the gargantuan purple gate, 28 days have passed since its first appearance. The same goes for the number of days Dojin has spent inside. Now, the Hero Association is afraid, and has already cautioned the threat as a level 1 wave. Dojin's identity isn't revealed to the world just yet for privacy reasons, but they're calling him Ordinary Person S for now. While the rest of the world is clueless about Dojin's identity, the boss of the money-lending organization catches on quickly and connects the dots. Even his assistant confirms the report to verify the information of his involvement. Kim Myong-gu plays as the right-hand man to the president Hwang Chang-seob. Chang-seob is curious and wants to know Dojin's chances of survival to make out in one piece. Yes, I said the thing. As a ritual of this channel, the One Piece is real. Moving on, the assistant is pretty damn certain that an ordinary person has roughly less than 1% chances of survival. But the mere mention of Dojin being treated as an ordinary person carves an amusing smile on Chang-seob's face. That same regular so-called person put his men in the hospital and gave them bandages for weeks. From the perspective of the world, they're vastly underestimating the abilities of the one civilian that went inside the rift. Now, Chang-seob is also interested in hearing the chances of someone surviving as an awakened individual. For that, his assistant believes that it would ultimately depend on the level of the hero, and it's tough to make a judgment call without accurate information. Even Chang-seob admits that fighting ability is different from pure surviving ability. And then it introduces a whole different level of complications when you're inside a rift of all things. Anyway, one thing is for certain. The bastard hasn't changed his ways. Chang-seob wants to protect Dojin's family, but not for noble reasons. Nah, this scumbag intends to sell the organs of his loved ones in case he doesn't make it back. And even if he does, he's gonna pin the blame of debt on him for taking care. This guy's the embodiment of a leech. The scene transitions to the mesmerizing world tree. Here, our boy is going full speed into his training arc as his body is now thriving with flame mana. He doesn't even know how much time has passed, but he's been grinding by absorbing hundreds of the firestones. With this, he's acquired so much fire mana that he can use it and manipulate it in any way he deems fit. Not to mention his resistance to the flames has increased as a side effect. Comparing his past self with his current self on the basis of fire attribute alone, he thinks he's surpassed his past self in a small capacity by mastering this ability. Embracing the world tree, he shares a tender moment with it. It's always served him in the time of need, even in the past, and even now. Because of that, Dojin is grateful for everything it has done for him. As for his mana stones, he's made up a small bag using vines to store them all. With the stones collected and stashed, Dojin fully understands that he'll probably never get to see the angelic tree again. But even still, he's hoping for their paths to cross if the divine tree ever finds itself in danger. Because when that happens, he will be ready to protect it with his life. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoyed this gentle scene. That night, Dojin finally steps out into the outside world, emerging from the rift as a whole. Luckily, he doesn't sense anyone to be around, suspecting that most people probably thought he already died inside and that a monster wave would pop out at any time. However, he does detect the presence of someone strong nearby. Deciding to chase them down, he rushes to find the source. Shortly afterwards, he stumbles across the two agents. One pissed off and the other relaxed, both Hyunwoo and Seonggu from last time. Now he understands that these guys probably represent the association from their outfit alone, which means in the off chance he gets caught, things will get really problematic. To combat that issue, he whirls up a ball of flame and chucks it into the air with a forceful lunge. That attack winds up finding its way across the building, resulting in a loud explosion upon detonation. Both Hyunwoo and Seonggu were on red alert the moment they heard the crashing sound. Realizing that it's actually fire, they decide to chase after it. There, they discover a bunch of people standing in horror. Seonggu questions what the hell is going on in the chaos. Meanwhile, our boy is impressed with his flame powers so far. Its precision is good, so it will do him wonders. In the memory of his old friend called Tusk, he wonders if the mage would be impressed by his current level of flames. After all, Tusk was known to be the strongest fire mage on the continent, and they shared a good bond. Suddenly, Hyunwoo's sharp senses alert him to look for the rift. It appears to be acting up and right before their eyes. It disappears into the mist. Both of the agents rush to the site to see what's going on. When they arrive, they can't believe that the rift's connection to their world is no more. As for our boy, he's just making his way to his next destination without any problems. News breaks out the following morning concerning the state of the rift that lasted for a month in Mapo. It is announced that the rift disappeared 29 days after Seo Dojun entered the zone, proving the concerns of the Hero Association to be wrong about the monster wave. They have no idea about the unexpected disappearance of the rift, and they're currently investigating what went down. They also have trouble dealing with the cause of the fire that broke out at the time of the rift's disappearance in a junkyard. Now, this leads most people to believe that Seo Dojun is dead, and that this is just the consequence of his own actions. Unbeknownst to them, our boy is hidden in plain sight, observing the conflicting opinions of the people as some are sympathizing with the boy who lost his life. Unfortunately, the disappearance of the rift is heartbreaking news for our hero. He's devastated that he can't interact with the world tree anymore. Even though he can't protect the world tree, there is still one other thing he could protect in his life. Which brings us right to the HCS capital again. Inside, the idiots are busy celebrating the death of Dojin, believing that they can easily get rid of the old granny and his sister afterwards. Changzob is just the kind of guy to squeeze people to death after all. One bastard is talking about how they should let the little sister grow up so they can use her in other ways. While they're chatting without policing their own words, a familiar voice greets them and demands for their boss. The scene cuts off right there, and we get to see Changseob humming and going about his day, satisfied that Dojun is finally out of the way and dead for good. His assistant reviews their appointments for today. Apparently he's free for the most part except for a lunch with another CEO. Hearing that, he's happy because tonight he can enjoy partying to his delight at a club under Madame Kang. It's basically senseless chatter, until he steps into the building and as he's climbing stairs, he finds his men being tossed around like playthings. Their blood is splattered around, and the cause of it all is someone he presumed to be dead. Our boy throws him to the ground and tells the filthy Changseob to crawl back to him like a dog. That bone-chilling order from him has the president of the company quivering. Our boy acts like the real leader of the group and assumes his place in his chair. He then repeats his command to the ignorant Changseob, who is still processing the weight of the shameless order. Without wasting time, he crawls like a dog. Ruthless as ever, Dojin then orders him to bark as he deserves to be treated like an animal. His loud and clear utterance of the command has Changseob whining in humiliation. It takes a second for him to bark successfully, but our boy is not satisfied at all. Our boy personally makes sure to make an animal out of him by forcing him to bark repeatedly for everyone to hear. The president is reduced to being less than human, just like the people he treats. Dojin points out that scumbags like him only act obedient on the surface, but end up backstabbing you right when they find an opportunity. Declaring his filthy name, he chillingly tells the man that his life has plenty of experiences dealing with second-rate humans like him. Pleading and begging for mercy, Changseob is prepared to serve like a loyal dog if necessary. But Dojin has heard enough and whips a heavy slap across his face. Just that much force is enough to knock the wind out of the guy and spurt out blood. His assistant watches the scene unfold until his name is called. Dojin addresses him as the new boss of the company and recommends that he stop working under a bastard like him. Knowing that these guys are so ready to stab people in the back, he orders the assistant to kill Chang-seob with full permission. Of course, it's a task too heavy for a competent servant like him. He apologizes and objects by stating that their leader has a lot of connections, so things will get really bad if he's the one appointed the boss instead of Chang-seob. On behalf of him, the assistant pleads to Dojin to spare the guy just one more time. However, Dojin doesn't want to play around with simple words in front of them. He suggests wrapping Chang-seob's body in a barrel and removing all evidence by shoving it in the endless ocean. After all, it's just one of the things these guys excel at doing. Seeing as the boss's servants aren't willing to oblige, our boy takes a different approach with them. Dojin threatens the entire group that he'll toss everyone in the gate as monster food if they don't carry out this order. Yeah, the mere mention of that has Chang-seob reduced to a pathetic mess. He can't take it anymore and keeps on begging for his life, promising that he won't ever betray and will always serve under Dojin. Now, this puts the hero in a bit of a contemplation. Although he could kill off Chang-seob right here and get rid of all his issues, something about him has changed in this life. Admitting it himself, Dojin has grown softer compared to his merciless past self. So this time he agrees, offering the guy a hand. I just know Chang-seob is about to become religious as heck after this, praying to God that he doesn't get on Dojin's nerves again. He goes on to shake the hero's hand, promising to serve unconditionally from now on. But wait, something is strange. Why is his hand engulfed in steaming hot flames? Yes, though Dojin has gotten soft, he's still ruthless. Looking at the man dead in the eye, he reminds the scumbag that it's his final chance indeed. Dojin then proceeds to rip his hand off clean, reducing it to a charred paste. By the end of the meeting, he walks away, ignoring the agonizing cries of the president. He does leave them with a final warning. If even a single one of them tries to get in the way of his family again, Dojin will personally ensure their deaths. As for their new job, they are forever deemed responsible to protect his family for the rest of their lives. Now that's how you handle traitors. Officially speaking, the man known as Seo Dojun was just a blip in existence that vanished along with the rift. In reality, he's actually dining in the local McDonald's. The government, Hero Association, and all kinds of media outlets quickly moved past him like yesterday's news. They all treated the civilian who entered the rift as a dead man. Even if he came out and told the world that he was alive, no one would buy it. Furthermore, surfacing after a solo rift mission would only bring headaches and trouble his way. That subdued dog, Hwang Chang-seob, is currently helping him find a new and suitable house so he can afford to move leisurely for the time being. Dojin finally got the chance to feed his sister some delicious fast food. He also informed her of their plan to move out to a better neighborhood, and she could not be any happier. She can now go to kindergarten like kids her age and enter elementary school the next year. When the topic of school came up, little Yoonyoung's mood took a turn for the worse. Dojin was alarmed. He is used to slaughtering abominable beasts, but coddling a kid is not in his arsenal. He was taken aback when her sister confessed how other kids tease her for being an orphan. Hearing his adorable sister's plight broke Big Bro Dojin's heart. If she does not want to associate with the mean kids, she doesn't have to. Those little bastards will get what's coming for them eventually. Finding out that she wouldn't have to attend kindergarten to be bullied anymore, Yoonyoung was hyped. Inwardly, Dojin is devising a plan to send his little sis to a prestigious private school where no one would dare look down on her. That night, Seo Dojin found out that Kim Eon-gu had stashed his grandma and sister in some random motel while he was stuck inside the rift. Glass's bastard almost broke his back trying to apologize. He reasoned that the motel is under the management of their company, so it is safer than any other place. Dojin does not have the energy to mess with lackeys tonight, so he just enters the room and sees his grandma once more. Little Yoonyoung pounced on him with a bear hug, and grandma held his hand with tears petering from her eyes. She's just glad to see her grandson come back alive. At first, the hardened warrior was stunned, but once he felt the warmth coming from his family, he accepted the love they had for him with a smile. Little Yoonyoung has taken a liking to McDonald's, so they've been dining in that absolutely real place a lot. Today, she asked questions about Big Bro's job, being a hero. When asked if she likes having a hero for a brother, Yoonyoung nonchalantly answered that she does not. While it is cool that heroes are strong and cool, they are also constantly in danger when fighting terrifying monsters. Sometimes they even die. And little Eunyoung just wants her brother to live with grandma and herself for a long, long time. Dojin had been so used to mindless bloodshed. Having someone worried about his well-being is quite a new feeling for him. In the harsh world of the past, he was the last human survivor. He fought monsters and creatures beyond your wildest dreams. In the process, he lost a lot of things. Now that he's given a second chance in a different world, Something incredibly precious has appeared by his side. Feelings he had long forgotten are coming back to the surface. In this world, maybe he can live happily. Maybe he can just live a quiet life with joy and love. While he was feeling fuzzy and warm on the inside, Korea's Hero Association was in shambles. Na Tae-hwang, founder of the Korea Hero Association and director of the World Hero Federation, has been stressing over the recent rift incident, or the lack thereof. Their best people have investigated the site, but no new information has been found. Feeling clueless about the state of his territory is frustrating the founder. It's not far-fetched to believe that a spontaneously disappearing rift can potentially reappear at any time. His assistant tried to agree with his worries. She thought it would have been better if a wave had occurred. At least they would not have to worry about unknown variables. Director Taewon cuts her words off before he gets angrier. While he is worried about uncertainties, he thinks it is fortunate that no one was harmed. Na Tae-hwang is one of the top 100 respected and strongest heroes in the world. It is widely speculated that he would easily be elected with the most votes in history if he ran for president. His words and influence could easily topple domestic conglomerates if he wanted to. Thankfully, his interests lie in neither the power of a nation's leader nor the wealth of a conglomerate. The only thing he cares about is the safety of his people. In other words, he's a real one. Even if it takes time, he wants a more thorough investigation covering the rift's perimeter. The residents around the nearby area have already agreed to sell their properties to the association, so that shouldn't be a problem. As a consolation, Taewon wants to offer those people more than the market price for their homes. That's the least they could do after causing such inconvenience. All reliable sources have relayed that multiple rifts have occurred in different countries. No matter how you look at it, something must be going on. The United States and China have already entered the control stages of their rifts. Among major nations, the United Kingdom is facing the biggest problem. While reliable and veteran heroes have been dispatched to clear the other rifts, the United Kingdom's squad was simply doo-doo garbage. Speaking of them, the month-long mission to get rid of the UK rift has finally crumbled in a glaring defeat. The UK rift wave occurrence has officially begun. The city and its people are going about their day like they normally would. Amongst the crowd was Seo Dojin, blending in with the pedestrians. Today, his destination is his favorite shop in the hero complex. When he entered the door, the dude manning the counter gave him a greeting by instinct, but choked upon seeing his face. Every strand of hair in his body stood in terror upon seeing the black-haired young man. Today, his manager is in the store, so he won't have to deal with this sadistic customer alone. The manager promptly closed the paper he was reading and lifted his gaze. His voice was controlled but was tinted with anger. This is the guy who's been forcing his pushover cashier into buying low-grade crystals. Dojin lazily removed his backpack and tossed the whole thing on the ground. It's actually good that the manager is here, so the sale of his magic crystals would proceed faster. Mr. Manager expected another batch of low-grade crystals to spill on the floor. He's not interested in such small-time business. Dojun does not like being turned away when all he wants is fair trade. The manager or any other sane business owner cannot afford to accept just a 1% fee. It would be better if the young man just left. Dojun asserted that refusing to do business with him would be a massive mistake that Mr. Manager would regret. The manager continued shooing the young man away, not even bothering to look at the bag. This is the last warning he will give before things go down. In response, Dojin kicked the backpack down, spilling its contents on the tiles. Being experienced crystal traders, both the cashier and the manager immediately recognized the properties of those rocks. That crude bag was actually filled with Hero's magic crystals, a legendary treasure that money cannot buy. Dojin has a rough idea of how much these things are worth. He knows he's holding premium stuff. You see, the Hero's magic crystal was used by an infamous Mexican drug lord, Corzaman, in New Age drug manufacturing. One night, a laboratory accident changed the course of his life and the world's perspective on such a little rock. The Hero's magic crystal caused Corzaman to awaken as a powerful hero. Since then, the crystal has become a priceless item for hero awakenings and mana enhancement. Such an incredibly rare energy source can be classified as an ultra-high-end product. As a power move, Dojin ordered the schmucks to pack their stuff back up, and he left. Mr. Manager quickly changed his dismissive and arrogant tone into a welcoming one. He even escorted the young man to their VIP seats and offered some drinks while his cashier polished the crystals. Dojin liked reversing the situation in its head. One second he was being driven away. The next, he was sipping on some iced beverage. His opening demand was full price with a 0.5% commission. As soon as the manager expressed a sign of balking, he threatened to pull the deal. In prior trades, Dojin agreed to 1%. Now he's lowering that already abysmal rate even lower. Frankly, he's just doing that out of annoyance. In response, the manager lowered his head and tried to give the sincerest apology he could muster. Well, Dojin is tired of hearing empty apologies. They can either accept his rate or he'll take his business elsewhere. It's that simple. At the counter, the cashier is inwardly cursing Dojin for being such a rude prick. Seeing that his acting wouldn't convince the kid to give him a bigger cut, the manager locked in and gave a lengthy lecture about magic crystal markets and pricing. Dojin doesn't have time to listen to such long-winded yapping, though. He finished his drink and got up from his seat, making the manager panic. Feeling the deal of a lifetime slipping away from his fingers, the manager offered a 9% commission. It did not work, so he proposed 8%. This continued from 8 to 7, 6, and 5. In this range, his shop won't be making any profit at all. While the manager is in the pits of despair, Seo Dojun pounces and agrees to settle for 1% out of respect for their past dealings. Inwardly, the manager wanted to scream and curse the blatant extortionist. He just can't bear to let go of the product. The next words that came out of Dojun's mouth nearly made the manager piss his pants in excitement. Aside from the one he brought today, he has about 7 more bags of those priceless crystals. With that being said, the contract was quickly produced and signed. After a few minutes of officiating the deal, 67 billion won entered Seo Dojun's bank account. That's about $48 million. At this rate, his 110 billion won house doesn't seem so far off. The problem is that getting more high-grade magic crystals through normal gates is a time sink. If he could find a way to freely travel through rift zones, he could easily farm treasures like a madman. While looking at his phone screen, an administrative message was sent out to everyone in the country. The wave outbreak in the southern region of the United Kingdom had been finally announced to the general public. In the meantime, everyone is banned from traveling to the UK. After reading about a real problem in the real world, Dojin lost interest in messing with the manager of the shop. In the past, no matter the country or which association was involved, he might have intervened to seal the rift himself. But he's not that guy anymore. He has more fulfilling matters to attend to. Tonight, dinner is on Dojin, and they are getting expensive meat. Little Yunyong's mouth watered at the sight of pork and beef marbling over the grill. The expensive meat and succulent side dishes just kept on coming to the table. Worried that they were spending too much given the price tag on the menu, Grandma slowed down and asked her grandson if this was okay. 250,000 won for 100 grams is pretty steep. Dojin dismissed her worries right away. After making a killing with his crystal harvest, they could eat as much as they wanted, and it wouldn't even make a dent in his bank account. Yunyong's first bite made her fall in love with the taste of the wildly luxurious beef. Dojun continued adding more and more to the grill as Grandma watched in apprehension. Hell, there's another package of fresh ribs, prime ribeye, strip loin, and skirt meat coming to the table soon. At this point, the scale is just ridiculous. How could 2.5 people even finish that much food? Well, Grandma is underestimating the appetite of a protagonist. To knock her out of her worries, little Yunyong convinced Grandma to give the expensive stuff a try. Unable to refuse the offer of her sweet girl, Grandma caved. One bite of that expensive meat was all it took for all her worries to dissipate into nothing. Afterward, the happy family enjoyed their extravagant dinner filled with smiles and laughter. Unbeknownst to Dojin, an attention-grabbing young woman just entered the restaurant. The necks of the other guests almost broke wherever she passed by. The woman made a beeline towards Seo Dojun and decisively called his attention. She just wanted to talk with him for a moment. Nothing more, nothing less. Before she could elaborate on her reason, Dojin cut her off for interrupting his family's dinner. If she wants to say something to him, she should come back when the fricking meal is over. Hyun Ju-yeon pulled out the name card, hoping that the young man would change his tone upon her name. Much to his dismay, Dojin just kept on grilling and eating meat, disregarding her presence altogether. And so, the renowned S-rank hunter swallowed her pride and patiently sat in the restaurant's waiting room. With a star like her sitting within normal people's vicinity, she naturally became the center of attention. Men and women kept stealing glances at the woman standing at the pinnacle of heroism. She's not only fourth in the national rankings for S-class heroes, but most people would also even place her within the top 10 most beautiful heroes in the world list. Every civilian around was asking the same thing in their minds. Who the hell is making Hyun Ju-yeon wait? Ignoring the blatant whispers around her, Ju-yeon recalled the brief interaction she had just a few minutes ago. As far as she knows, Seo Dojun entered his first gate 2 months ago. He made it out alive and is now under suspicion of becoming awakened. He was widely believed to have died in the recent Mapo Rift incident, but here he is, alive and eating with his family. Aside from all the details that don't seem to make sense, a single sharp look from the young man had an S-ranker like Ju-yeon on edge. A newly awakened guy cannot possibly reach S-rank in under 2 months, right? Even the oil tycoon Kafmore, who spent his wealth on magic stones, took about 5 months to reach the peak. Rationalizing what she felt, Ju-yeon reckoned that Dojin must have some kind of unknown special ability. Finally, Dojin, Grandma, and little Yunyong have filled out with their bellies full and their mood lifted. Near the exit, Ju-yeon walked over to finally have a conversation with the mysterious young man. Before she could open her mouth to speak, another party sauntered into the restaurant with an air of superiority. Dojin's eyes turned sharper than usual at the sight of the man. This skeevy-looking bastard did not expect to see Seo Dojin alive and kicking after their excursion in one of the deadly gates, the lunatic Kang Chil-woo. He's actually quite amused by Dojin's cockroach-like resilience. Even Juyeon seemed to recognize the troublemaker in a single glance. In the middle of the restaurant, tensions rose as silence filled the air. Dojin chose to ignore the bastard's shallow insults and called Juyeon over. Chil-woo was taken aback to see an S-rank hero speaking with the cockroach. Dojin requested that she take care of his family for a little bit. All she has to do is flag a taxi so they can ride away and go home. It would be more convenient if they were far away while he collects an overdue debt with a mongrel. Thankfully, Hyun Juyeon is a very reasonable young woman. She did what Dojin asked and assured Grandma and the little girl that everything would be fine. She waved at them goodbye, but their concern was evident. Juyeon awkwardly stood there as the taxi departed. As soon as they sped away from the restaurant, a resounding and crisp sound of slapping echoed inside the establishment. With his loved ones out of the picture, Dojin can finally drop the PG act and slap a bitch. He moved so fast that Chil-woo did not even see his swing. He only felt the stinging pain in his cheek. Embarrassed by such a humiliating attack, Chil-woo gritted his teeth and charged forth to retaliate. One of the servers tried to break the fight up, fearful that the Awakeners might destroy the whole restaurant if the conflict escalated further. Her reasonable request was met with unreasonable violence. Fortunately, she wasn't harmed too badly. Seo Dojun calmly told everyone to get out and clear the room for their safety. Chil-woo is really easy to trigger. He's a muscle-brained idiot who can't even think of good trash talk. For that, he was punished with another strike to the face. He was completely caught off guard, feeling a knuckle make contact with his head. Kang Cheol-woo is the bastard who locked the original Seo Dojin in a gate, leaving him for dead. Even though he was not the one personally slighted, our MC still harbors a deep resentment for this fuckface, and he wants to talk. Cheol-woo, the goblin-looking goon, snickered as he brought up how that evil stepmother of Dojin's made the whole thing happen. Seeing that extracting info from this idiot was a lot easier than he thought, Dojin pulled his phone out and pressed the record button on the video app. He just needs a clear and concise recording of the confession, and his life will be a lot simpler in the future. Once again, Cheol-woo was insulted by his nonchalance. He gathered power in his fist, called Dojin's mother a whore, and attacked with unmatched intensity. He intends to finish the job that he failed. He wants to kill Seo Dojin once and for all. Unfortunately for the big goon, his primitive attacks are no match against the expert manipulation of Chi. Dojin met the violent punch with a soft touch and sent the enemy's fist flying as though it just hit an impenetrable bouncy barrier. Kang Cheol-woo had never experienced something like this before. Normally, he would just brute force his way through anything and everything to kill. Now it seems like he's going up against someone far beyond what he can comprehend with his tiny little pea brain. Suddenly, he was pushed off his feet. Dojun followed his body's trajectory like a hunter playing with his prey. Sounds of fists cracking a skull echoed throughout the restaurant as the server from earlier tried her hardest to dial the police. Before she could press the call button, a dainty hand pulled the phone away. With a bright smile, Hyun Ju-yeon assured the server that she would take care of everything, so there was no need to involve the authorities. The server was just glad to see a comforting face in the middle of her breakdown. Slaps, scratches, and punches landed throughout Kang Cheol-woo's body, not giving him any chance to catch his breath. As far as Ju-yeon knows, this lowlife is a B-rank hero. With that rank, there are not many people who could beat him up so helplessly. Based on this beatdown, Dojin might be classified as an A rank. Well, even if that's true, the fight still seems a bit too one-sided. Before things could get any worse, Hyun Ju-yeon carefully called Dojin to stop for a moment. She's just worried that Kang Cheol-woo might die if the beating goes on for longer. Deciding to listen to her words, he dropped the goblin goon's limp body on the ground and wiped his hands. Seeing as there's clearly some vendetta between the two, Ju-yeon asked the young man how much he knows about Kang Cheol-woo. Dojin might not know the whole picture, but he knows enough about the bastard to exact vengeance. Hyun Ju-yeon warned him that this piece of dirt, Kang Cheol-woo, is connected to Kang Young-pyo, an S-rank hero. Well, Dojin already knew that fact, and he didn't see any problems. Ju-yeon had never met anyone so reckless and insane. This dude doesn't even care about whatever consequences he might face at the hands of an S-ranker. Hyun Ju-yeon elaborated that Kang Young-pyo is very protective of his delinquent cousin. This restaurant incident will surely reach the ears of that powerhouse. When that happens, blood will be spilled. Dojin scoffed at Ju-yeon's worries. He's the last person who would be afraid of some hotshot S-ranker. More than the problems for the future, he's more annoyed at the fact that Ju-yeon knows so much about his life. Now that the goblin goon is down, Dojin's enmity has transferred to the nosy S-ranker. Face to face, the feral young man stared her down. Hyun Ju-yeon was not a pushover by any means. She won't cave from a simple, intimidating eye contact. Changing the subject, she apologized for the sudden visit and brought up her agenda. She was just asked by her uncle to come by and talk. After she found out about the bag of Hero's magic crystals he sold off, Juyeon wanted to get her hands on the rest. She is willing to buy every piece he has, no matter the price. Dojin warned her that it won't be cheap. He has a lot of precious treasures stockpiled after all. She assured him that the assets of an established S-rank hero are beyond normal people's imagination. Well, it's not like he's opposed to selling his goods. He just has one condition before transacting. It's nothing much, really, just a little favor. At least for someone as renowned as Hyun Juyeon, that is. Elsewhere in the city, the sound of expensive alcohol bottles hitting the floor can be heard. Dojin's evil stepmother is crashing out upon learning new information about his allegedly dead stepson. Her people were so sure that the kid died in the rift, yet now she's receiving word about how the Dojin survived like a resilient cockroach. Press F for bald man here. Having a boss like her can't possibly be fun. You can't blame him for the misinformation. Even the Hero Association labeled Dojin dead. Evil stepmother doesn't want to hear excuses. She wants actions instead. To make things worse, they just received news about Kang Cheolwoo's defeat at the hands of Dojin. At this point, it's safe to assume that Seo Dojun already knows who's really responsible for his attempted murder. Hearing that she might be implicated, evil stepmom gulped in terror. She's not afraid of Dojin. She's more concerned about the hassle it will bring when her father or husband finds out about her dealings. She can cover everything up, but if word gets out to the media, the group's stock price will nosedive. So, she ordered her people to intercept the media. If they mess up, T Group and W Group will surely cut all deals and advertisements. First and foremost, the police must also be on their payroll. In that regard, evil stepmom's people have already moved to cover all bases. Knowing that they have a little bit of competence lifted some pressure off her shoulders. Baldy director Lee then whispered that no matter how many cover-up jobs they do, what they are doing is not a fundamental solution to the real problem. On that note, the bald director might have a plan that can put an end to this headache. They just have to make use of Kang Cheolwoo's cousin, the infamous Kang Youngpyo. Even someone like stepmom here knows about the S-ranker. Kang Cheolwoo might be notorious as trash in the world of heroes, but everyone knows how close he is to his powerful cousin. In reality, Kang Cheolwoo is just a pawn doing all sorts of dirty work under his cousin's orders. They are both sick in the head. If Cheolwoo gets pinched by the police and smeared by the media, it won't be a good look for the S-rank hero too. In fact, he's already taken action to deal with this public relations disaster. Evil stepmom made up her mind. She wants to meet with Kang Youngpyo as soon as possible. In addition, that dog, Hwang Chang-sub of HCS Capital, has blatantly allied with the enemy. He's taking care of Dojin's family now. For that, stepmom wants a prosecutor on the phone in a minute. Those who abandon her camp must pay the price in full. The very next day, we follow a group of heroes entering one of the 37 rift zones in Korea. Among those rift zones, 5 zones are being turned into secured gates. The rest can only be raided by heroes affiliated with hero associations with coordinated schedules. Today, Miss Hyun Juyeon is leading a team herself. With her S-rank ID, she has practically limitless entries at any gate. Among the diverse crowd of heroes equipped with fancy equipment and weapons stood a young man wearing a beat-up hoodie. Hyun Juyeon chose A-rank Jongin-ju's Cleome Guild as a temporary group for the hunt. It's very rare to be a part of an S-rank's hunt, so they are hyped. Juyeon reasoned that she simply wanted to do something fun and stretch her muscles a little bit. In reality, she had to set up this whole situation just to give the young man in the back clean entry to the gate. Seo Dojun agreed to sell the rest of his magic crystal stockpile at market price to Juyeon if she let him into the restricted rift zone. He just wants to earn more money by hunting in higher level zones. While it's true that rift zones house all sorts of treasures, going into such a difficult one for a certain profit without fear is just insane. Well, she doesn't really care either way. She just needs to get her hands on those hero magic crystals. After a few minutes of traversing a dark tunnel, the group finally came out of the other side to a brightly wooded area. Unable to rear her curiosity, Inju started bugging Juyeon about the real identity of the young man shadowing their party. Juyeon just introduced Dojin as someone she knows, but no one is buying that half-assed answer. Inju speculated that he might be Queen Juyeon's boyfriend. Tired of all the buzzing, she gave Inju a partial truth and confessed that the young man was there because she owed him a favor. It's not every day an S-rank hero owes someone. While the party was lost in their respective conversations, a giant shadow blotted the sun from above. Everybody turned their eyes to the skies and saw the beast. Being an A-rank guild, the Cleome heroes instantly responded by drawing their weapons and getting into their respective positions. The first encounter was none other than the fearsome cockatrice. Like the expert raider that she is, Juyeon took charge and barked clear and concise orders. Jinju and Doyeon are in charge of defense, while Sungho aims for the legs. Before she could finish assigning everyone their roles, a figure blurred as he shot past everyone. With a single impactful leap, he closed the aerial gap between him and the flying beast. Seo Dojun disregarded the long-winded group plans and leaped for a one-on-one with the bird. The Cleom heroes were slack-jawed. They have never seen someone so brazen. Gathering energy in his fist, Dojin prepared for first blood. Prior to his charge, Guildmaster Inju is stressing over her bad luck. They are barely inside the gate, and a troublesome opponent has already shown itself. Before the group could organize and get into position, Dojin had already dropped his bag to the ground. While Juyeon was calling the shots, he was bursting through the air like a speeding bullet. He was an absolute speed demon. In one jump, he neutralized the bird's aerial advantage. Up in the skies, he took control of the field without a problem. His fiery energy was thick and burning. The overgrown chicken did not have the speed or reaction time to block the incoming attack. As a result, it was forced to eat a full-powered punch to the beak. The bird is on the ground, and the human is up in the clouds. It was quite a poetic reversal. Dojin landed in front of the group. He did not even break a single bead of sweat. The cockatrice is on the verge of death, the mark of his fist visible on the side of his face. The Cleom Guild people stood dumbfounded alongside their S-rank carry. They bore witness to the brutality of what happened next. Dojin lifted his leg and started stomping on the bird's head until it was reduced to meat paste. It might seem too much, but killing a cockatrice requires a lot of force. With every stomp and kick, the sound of skull cracking and blood spurting mortified the group. Now Inju is really curious as to who that guy is. In all honesty, Juyeon wasn't really sure herself. All she knows is that Seo Dojin is a really strong human. Well, calling him simply strong is a huge understatement. There are only a select few heroes who can do what Dojin just did. Killing a cockatrice in one blow is no ordinary feat. Juyeon downplayed the achievement by bringing up her sister. That woman belongs to that elite list of outstanding heroes. Still, Inju can't just get over the fact that a hidden powerhouse is among them. She watched the entire sequence and was in awe the whole time. Juyeon took note of the young man's monstrous power and decisiveness, her curiosity deepening. She turned to Inju with an impromptu change of plans. For now, she wants to go to the center with Dojin, leaving the rest of the group on the outskirts. Juyeon carefully approached the young man, expertly carving the cockatrice's corpse for loot. Before she could speak, he preemptively asserted that he wouldn't share loot with people who contributed nothing to the kill. Thankfully, Juyeon is not one to eye a few pieces of magic crystals. She just came over to propose that they go a bit deeper into the gate, head somewhere more challenging and fitting to his current abilities. With a smile, he readily accepted the invitation to hunt and loot more. Juyeon knows the layout of this gate quite well, so she will take the lead. All Dojin has to do is follow closely so he won't get lost. Without warning, she sped off into the distance, her speed causing a sonic boom. Dojin calmly watched as her figure vanished into the horizon. After slinging his bag to his back, he took a running pose, storing energy in his muscles. With an instant first step, he kicked an explosion that almost blew the Cleom Guild heroes away. Inju reckoned that if Juyeon is a bullet, then that man moves like light itself. Left by the two powerhouses, the miscellaneous heroes turned to their guild leader for their new plan. Of course, trying to follow those two ahead is utterly impossible. Today they must accept that they are sidekicks and small fries. Nevertheless, this is still a decent gate with plenty of monsters to hunt around the outskirts. In the outside world, normal people praise them as powerful A-rank heroes. But in front of a real S-ranker, they are not even worth mentioning. Juyeon and that man are leagues above the entire force of Cleom Guild. Speaking of those two, their race across the woods is proceeding hastily. While maintaining breakneck speeds without much effort, Juyeon kept on checking her flank for signs of Dojin. Upon seeing no signs of the guy, she started softening up and thinking that she might have overdone the initial run. While she was thinking of slowing down, Dojin suddenly appeared by her side, asking if they could go a little faster. Juyeon's concentration broke and she almost tripped over. She had never experienced something like this before. Someone can actually keep up with her in terms of racing. When it comes to speed, she's in the top 2 in the nation. But that list might need to be updated, given how Dojin is making her eat dust. A few moments later, he made a stop to tease her for being slower than expected when she was clearly running to flex her speed. While the S-ranker caught her breath, Dojin turned his eyes onto the view on the horizon. In front of them was a massive mountain range touching the heavens. When asked what was hiding inside that rocky range, Juyeon's expression turned solemn. That place is the lair of the Thrift's boss monster, the Carcerian. You see, this so-called Carcerian is a giant 20-meter monster resembling the draconian wyvern. Juyeon doesn't even want to entertain the idea of subjugating that beast. You typically need at least 3 combat-oriented S-rank heroes to even stand a chance against such a monster. One thing Dojin knows about Carcerian is that it has a chance to drop the imaginary grade magic crystal, a treasure just below the highest grade possible. Since such an enticing reward is waiting for him, he won't let it slip through his fingers. Obviously, Juyeon is opposed to such a reckless idea. Well, Seo Dojin is fighting that draconic bastard with or without her. Juyeon watched as he fearlessly sped up, aiming to scale the mountains to slay the beast. She felt as though she did not have a choice but to follow him into insanity. Something grim awaits the duo inside the boss monster's lair. Bursting with unfathomable confidence to take down a beast that easily gives 3 S-rank heroes trouble, it really shakes Juyeon to her core. Do you know what's even more shocking? When she arrives at the site, she finds the same creature, the Carcerian, dead at her feet. The fight's already over, and she has absolutely no idea what the hell went down. Our boy casually plucks his knife from the creature's corpse, leaving her at a loss for words. Juyeon reflects her shock. The creature he just downed isn't just any boss monster. On that note, she talks about a prominent hero known as Park Hae-il who fostered a reputation for hunting down monsters like the Carcerians. Though he's an S-rank himself, the first time he went to hunt down the Carcerian, he was cautious enough to take 30 A-rank heroes along with him. And yet, even with all those precautions, the A-rank heroes didn't make the cut and were all slaughtered in the attempt. Park Hae-il was the only known survivor of the group who clung to the edge of his life by the end of the boss fight. From that moment onwards, the guy decided to rematch with the same monster. Only this time he was armed with 1 more S-rank and 100 A-rank heroes behind him. It's practically a small army at that point. The fight was brutal. They focused on piercing the creature's wings and negating its flight. The Carcerian of the time was then overwhelmed by a barrage of attacks from the heroes. This actually reminds me of the whole 100 men versus 1 gorilla debate that has been going around lately. My money is on the men, by the way, and the same is the outcome for the fight with the Carcerian, who ended up getting defeated. Despite this, only a handful of heroes remained from that battle. The rest, butchered by the beast's wrath. The damages they incurred that day were so prominent that Hae-il's guild, the Sweet Life, has yet to recover from it 3 years after the event. And yet, this one average-looking Joe has defeated the same Carcerian monster without much trouble. The funny thing is, with her constant glaring, he reminds her that she ain't getting any of these precious gems for standing around fighting the air. The remark may have annoyed her, but Juyeon is more focused on the ridiculousness of the man before her eyes. If she wasn't there to witness the battle, she would never believe in such a conclusion. The same terrifying Carcerian was taken down and obliterated in a single strike at the hands of 1 man. As for Dojin, my boy has successfully harvested the awesome-looking magic stone from the creature's body. He stares at it and tells her that he no longer cares about having an escort to guide him. From this point onwards, he's fine on his own. He also denies taking the rest of the valuables obtained by the dragon's body, such as its claws and teeth. Showing little to no regard for them, he turns back to reject her plainly, leaving the S-ranker stunned for life. Instead, he'd rather focus his energy on collecting the monster crystals. He even goes as far as to allow her to keep all of those valuables to herself as a form of payment. Juyeon takes a look at the creature for a moment and reaches the conclusion that she also doesn't need anything from the beast. It's evening now, and the rest of his group is shocked that one guy managed to collect 3 bags full of magic stones. It's an unbelievable sight even for the competent A-rankers. For their guild to have obtained the same amount, it would have taken them a minimum of 20 hours. And from the quality of the ingredients, even more than 3 days. It begs the question about the man's identity, and they're all staring down at Juyeon, who brought him along in the first place, and yet appears just as confused as them. Based off of Juyeon's own words, the A-rank guildmaster can't fathom how Dojin was able to beat the Carcerian without any proper equipment. With this accomplishment alone, he stands at the top of the hero ranks in Korea, unparalleled in his might. They really just said our boy is built differently. The A-ranker even thinks that he might be the strongest in the entire world at his level. It amazes her. Speaking of the guy, an exhausted Dojin returns with more bags on him. With just 1 day of hunting, he's already collected so much stuff. At this point, the group is starting to think that no one will believe them if they reported this to the outside world. Dojin's godlike power is the definition of insanity to accept. Speaking of which, they're explicitly told not to drop a word of what happened here today in the outside world, something they have to ultimately accept. The gorgeous S-ranker walks up to our boy and talks about a bunch of things. From a distance, it looks like they're a couple who is flirting with each other. But that's only in the eyes of their group mates. I guess they're trying to convince themselves that this is the start of a ship. They also think that he's the only guy in the world who looks like a proper fit for Juyeon, especially considering their monstrous strength. The funny thing is how the A-rank guildmaster quickly realizes that these guys aren't the perfect couple she envisioned them to be. Instead, it seems like they're having an argument from the looks on their faces. She can't believe that there's a guy in the world with the ability to talk down to Juyeon of all people. The shocking thing is how Dojun hands her a bag and leaves quietly without saying another word. It astonishes the guildmaster even more. As for the state of the backpacks and the contents inside he collected, Juyeon states his own words. Turns out that Dojin fears the possibility that he'll become an overnight celebrity if the outside world learns that he killed the Carcerian. Since that is a clear issue for him, he drops the responsibility of it upon her shoulders. Hearing his decision, it leaves the both of them baffled for words. But the irony in all of this is that the law of manifestation ends up turning true, and Juyeon gives birth to a curiosity to explore more about this mysterious young man. Girl is in love. Over to a different location, we get to explore more about the famous S-ranker mentioned earlier as Hale. He's out here going beast mode on his punching bag. His assistant is in awe of his training because it seems like he's bursting out in rage. As mentioned before, he's the guild master of Sweet Life. The assistant helps him calm down, reminding him that a little bit of endurance will help him go a long way in these difficult times. Even the guild master agrees with that idea, believing that those who underestimate him will eventually suffer his wrath. And before long, there will come a time where everyone will be admiring his strength as the most powerful guildmaster. His assistant goes on to bring up Hyol's streak of hunting down Carcerians, which sets him apart from others, even going as far as to say that his name will be etched in the history books as the hero who defeated the Carcerian with the smallest squad. The funny thing is, that title will never be overtaken from Dojin by anyone unless Stephen Hawking steps out of the grave and pulls a miracle. The guildmaster shares his enthusiasm with the assistant, going on and on about his own achievements. At the same time, their guild has been suffering major losses compared to what it was 3 years back. And yet, the only thing that gives him a smile is the knowledge that he's the only one capable of best defeating the Carcerian, a fact seconded by his one-eyed servant. On topic of discussing high-ranking heroes, the scene switches to Kang Youngpyo's office, who is currently reading a report on Dojin's eventful evening with Cheolwoo and how he annihilated Youngpyo's cousin. Even though Cheolwoo's intentions were to lock the guy inside the gate and trap him for good, a plot twist happened, resulting in an awakening. Also, the client that has tasked them to take down Dojin is actually the executive director Hong Hee-ju, who is basically at the top of the wealthiest people in Korea. It doesn't make sense for her to single out a person as her target in front of Youngpyo's eyes. That's until he learns that Dojin is actually her stepson. Though the boy was welcomed into their family at the age of 7, the moment Hee-ju's biological child stepped into the world, Dojin was kicked out of the family. This fact makes Youngpyo amused as he points out that not even being wealthy can save you from being kicked out. Discussing the payment for the hit, he learns that they're being given 3 billion won for the job, which is tiny in front of him. And then there's the fact that Cheolwoo finds himself at the edge of his own life from his battle against Dojin, suffering numerous burns and bruises. What's even worse is that he completely lost his sight and has become a cripple for life too. It only adds to the ruthlessness of Dojin's measures, to the point even a guy like Youngpyo has to acknowledge his actions. And yet, Youngpyo takes delight in the fact that he would have made sure to chop his limbs off on top of smashing his skull. At first glance, you guys probably were thinking that he's saner than his cousin, but now it's clear why he's even worse. While discussing the scene of their battle, it is brought up that Juyeon was also there and allegedly helped out Dojin in some way. This actually surprises him and he probes for more information about the situation. He doesn't get what's so special about Dojin. Unfortunately, not even his assistant knows anything specific about the meeting between the two as the case was quietly shut down. Pissed the fudge off, Youngpyo grabs his servant and roars at him to do whatever he can to uncover the status of their relationship, suspecting that they may have formed a deal of some kind. The assistant, completely devastated by his reaction, runs away to investigate right at once. Youngpyo is left with a temper tantrum smashing things around, reflecting that Hee-ju's men will come looking for him to fulfill the job that his cousin failed to do. At the same time, he's more than happy to take on the job from her. After all, she's a wealthy woman with Andrew Tate's level of money, so it won't be an issue for the greedy scumbag. And now for the scene with our boy, who is returning home after the raid. From today's experience, he's more than glad to have spent his time in a rift rather than a gate for proper hunting. It also complicates things because he might have to form a long relationship with Juyeon to ensure he stays on the low. Recalling their conversation, she straight up told him that people will become wary of her and ask around for the identity of the person who killed the Carcerian. Revealing them means inviting a lot of trouble. So for now, her plan was to store the valuables. And if he does want to become famous, she can happily reveal their existence to the world. In response, Bro chucked the bag to her to keep all the good stuff. It also means he's got to look for another method to go on and enter the rift zones, because relying on Juyeon creates trouble for her. Still, tonight's sleep will be a good one as he'll get to rest in a luxurious house that Chung Seob arranged for him. But as he steps foot inside the house, he is alarmed by the many shoes right outside. This means some unexpected guests have arrived. Entering the room, he sees a bunch of suited men and their boss having a conversation with his loved ones. The guy looks like a more depressed version of Nanami from Jujutsu Kaisen, and he's just staring Dojin down like an eagle. Yoon-young comes rushing to greet her brother with happiness, while Dojin is baffled by the situation overall. Prosecutor Park Cheol-young makes his identity loud and clear, pointing out the connection between Dojun and Chang Seob. Because of his relationship with the guy, Dojun is placed in an immediate emergency arrest on behalf of partaking in the money-lending organization that is run by the corrupt CEO of HCS Capital. Letting the situation play out, Seo Dojun peacefully surrendered himself to this alleged emergency arrest connected to Hwang Chang-seop's loan shark operation. He was promptly handcuffed and detained in a bare interrogation room. From inside the room, he could hear a pompous voice talking on the phone outside. The prosecutor who took him in is assuring someone that both Hwang Chang-seop and Seo Dojun are behaving like good little boys. Before hanging up, the prosecutor thanked the caller for taking care of his daughter's study arrangements abroad. Then he made the mistake of uttering Director Hong's name within Dojun's superhuman earshot. Walking up to his silent detainee, the prosecutor yapped about the reason he became a man of the law. He claimed that since he was little, he had always wanted to isolate society's trash from the decent and law-abiding citizens. Plopping a thick packet of paperwork on the table, the scummy prosecutor made a show of just how much dirt he had on Seo Dojun. He alleged that the charges listed through their preliminary investigation would be enough to put the young man behind bars for at least a decade. In addition, they have already gathered more than enough statements from Hwang Chang-seop to nail everyone in the operation. Seo Dojun did not even bother to give a reaction to these thinly veiled threats. Since he didn't get the reaction he was hoping for, Mr. Prosecutor resorted to cursing him out. Getting straight to the root of the problem, Dojun callously asked if that bitch, Hong Hee-ju, is behind this weak legality stunt. The prosecutor was visibly shaken, but he vehemently denied such accusations, going as far as to say that he had never heard of that name. Dojun estimated that these crooked bastards must have already worked on Hwang Chang-seop's side. Dojun quietly came along to avoid trouble, but things might get a lot worse at this rate. Refusing to get intimidated by Dojun's aura, the prosecutor bragged that people in his line of work are not pushovers. In response, the young man leaked a little bit of killing intent to shut his goofy ass up. The prosecutor nearly shat his pants right then and there. He felt that piercing gaze at a primitive level, a direct threat to his existence. Ashamed that he was frightened by a handcuffed perp, the prosecutor wanted to man up and slap the shit out of the detainee. Before he could commit the last stupid act of his life, some intern interrupted, asking him to step outside the interrogation room for a moment. They just received word of some wild discrepancy on their file for Seo Dojun. The building's hero detector evaluated the young man as an ordinary person. Even after double-checking, the results remained the same. Based on the incidents Seo Dojun had been involved in recently, how does that even make sense? Maybe they were incorrect about labeling the boy as an awakener in the first place. The prosecutor got all his information from Hong Hee-ju's T-group, so the intel is supposedly reliable. Right now, Dojun is an indecipherable puzzle. How could they charge someone deemed a normal civilian with incidents that involve superhumans? Inwardly, Dojun is mocking the prosecutor for being such an incompetent dog. If he really wanted, he could just break away from these flimsy cuffs and smash the whole place into bits. As for the fallout, he could always just take Grandma and Yunyong somewhere safer. Maybe overseas. Before he could resort to the most brutish solution, Hyun Ju-yeon, wearing a suit and tie, entered the interrogation room. She must have heard about this wrongful arrest and came to check things out. When asked why he was detained, Dojun frankly answered that he's not entirely sure of the reason himself. Thankfully, Ju-yeon advised him not to do anything reckless. She might be the only person who knows what this dude is capable of. The situation is frustrating, but using force now would only make things messier. Ju-yeon didn't wake up today expecting to get involved in the legal system, but she knows for certain that Dojun is innocent of whatever he's being accused of. With someone innocent facing unjustified punishment for false accusations in front of her, she feels obligated to correct it. Ju-yeon reckoned that the Hero Association would start a separate investigation soon. They will undoubtedly find out about Dojun's fake hero license, and will definitely dig into the recent Mappo Rift incident. Dojun asked Ju-yeon how his family was doing, and she realized that she was being treated like some secretary. When the young man glared at her with indecipherable intensity, Ju-yeon gave in and assured the guy that the family would be taken care of. As she walked out of the interrogation room, essentially becoming Dojun's legal representative, he proclaimed that this debt would not be forgotten. She won't show it, but Ju-yeon kind of liked that he's relying on her this time around. She promised that she would resolve this hiccup as quickly as possible. And she was not kidding at all. Hyun Ju-yeon's chosen method wasn't a straightforward legal defense by proving Dojun's innocence. Instead, she exposed Prosecutor Park Cheol-young's various crimes and illegal dealings, resulting in his dismissal. Once that scumbag was out of the picture, a fair investigation flowed smoothly. Seo Dojun was proven innocent with regard to the loan shark operation and other recent incidents. However, he couldn't avoid punishment entirely. As expected, the investigation proved his use of an unauthorized hero license. Thanks to Hyun Ju-yeon's active defense, he got away with just probation. While they were driving back to Dojun's home, breaking news about a previously unseen monster appearing in England and causing destruction came on the radio. The monster was described as a mantis-like creature, 1.5 meters tall, with compound eyes and terrifying jumping power. Based on the description, Dojin identified the creature as a Macasian. Hyunju-yeon nearly crashed the car upon hearing him utter the name. Information about newly discovered monsters is heavily guarded by the association. She only knows what a Macasian is because of his stature as an S-rank hero. You see, monsters are not given arbitrary names by some random bozo. Upon death, they drop magic stones that not only contain condensed energy, but also unique information. By analyzing this encoded data, it's possible to learn a lot about a monster, including its real name. On present-day Earth, they use science and technology for analysis. On the other hand, magic was used in the destroyed world. In other words, Dojin is incredibly familiar with monsters that appear in both worlds. He knows their names and everything there is to know about them. He randomly blurted that Macasians can be easily handled using fluid from the red flower ant. The fluid is harmless to humans but acts as an extremely potent paralytic toxin to Macasians. Spray those bugs and they'll stop rampaging. Hyunju-yeon got serious for a moment. His every move and word just add to the mystique. Who exactly is Seo Dojin? No matter how hard she tried to pry him about his real identity, Dojin never gave an answer. His mind is actually flying elsewhere. He's devising a plan to stop any and all future headaches from happening. The only reasonable solution he could think of was to kill that bitch Hong Hee-ju. Speaking of the devil, director Hong is at her wit's end. Nervously munching on her nails, riddled with anxiety, she tried to devise new plans to deal with her husband's bastard son. With the involvement of someone like Hyunju-yeon, she's feeling even more pressured to deal with the boy. The director's assistant wasn't much help. Even after exhausting their resources, they cannot find out what kind of relationship the S-rank hero has with Dojin. If they make the wrong move and offend someone of that stature, all the money the company has won't be able to protect their asses. More importantly, Hong Hee-ju was alarmed by the prosecution's report that Seo Dojun registered as a normal citizen and not a hero in their testing machines. Based on everything they know about the boy, it's pretty clear that he awakened something dangerous. Maybe he has some ability to deceive the hero detector or something. Hong Hee-ju is hemorrhaging money from this crusade of hers, and the best her people can give are speculations. Absolutely livid, she finally bit the bullet and contacted the S-rank rascal, Kang Young-pyo, bringing 30 billion won to the table to end this Dojin problem once and for all. Upon receiving the call, the rascal greedily demanded double the pay to deal with this little problem. Even his underlings found it a little too unreasonable to demand 60 billion for a simple job. He might be a low-life rascal, but Kang Young-pyo is also a shrewd bastard. He could tell that Hong Hee-ju had no more options. There are no alternative answers left. Besides, her company generates so much revenue that 60 billion won wouldn't even be noticed if it were missing from the coffers. Furthermore, Hyunju-yeon is now part of the equation. Since Kang Young-pyo is taking on the risk of fighting another S-rank, doubling the initial offer becomes a bit more reasonable. The underling concurred that Hyunju-yeon is a dangerous opponent indeed. Hearing his employee give praise to another S-ranker offended Kang Young-pyo's fragile ego. He cursed the underling out for doubting his fighting prowess against someone like Ju-yeon. He claimed that he can end that bitch in about 20 minutes. Of course, the underling had to assuage the boss in fear for his life. With a disturbing smile, Young-pyo changed the subject to his transaction with the Hero Association. He's also negotiating a deal before flying to the United Kingdom as one of South Korea's representatives to help with the bug problem. Unfortunately for Young-pyo, the association is tightening its wallet. Furthermore, those wily bastards already announced the selection process for Hero Dispatch to the public. They're practically making it hard for the S-rankers to refuse being deployed. Young-pyo might be a thug, but he sees the association as a group worse than thugs. The operation will take place in 3 days. South Korea will be sending its best and brightest together with Japanese heroes. At least Young-pyo can meet up with someone named Takashi. Right now, Macasian's weakness hasn't been discovered yet. Being the one to discover such a crucial intel would raise anyone's stock to the moon in the eyes of the public. Speaking of Macasians, those bugs have extended their advance towards Cambridge in the UK. British heroes have been fighting non-stop to stop the relentless invasion of the giant critters. They assembled a decent team of heroes. Since it's the UK, they use a lot of blades in this region. The brave frontliners are struggling to deal with a single giant Macasian terrorizing the public. This mantis has the speed and sharpness to kill slow-moving heroes in one shot. Getting into the rhythm of things, the British heroes retaliated with a coordinated offense. The group of heroes had a balanced lineup, and based on their proficiency, they were nothing to sneeze at either. Some of them used magic to tear through the thick exoskeleton by force. The others would follow up with speedy melee attacks, letting the bug blood flow in the streets. With proper coordination and ample power, they managed to bring down their first Macasian. Just to be sure that the son of a bitch doesn't have a phase 2 or something, they cut its mantis head off. The British heroes finally scored a W, but a single monster took everything they had in the tank to deal with. To utterly crush their spirits, a few more Macasians surfaced to take advantage of the fatigued heroes. That night, the best heroes the UK could offer perished in a brutal and bloody wipeout. They did their best and put all their efforts into trying to stop the inevitable. Without clear information, they were helpless against unknown enemies. The pesky Macassians are now advancing south. The stalwart defense of Cambridge collapsed. There are now about 60 kilometers between the bugs and the capital, London. As the Macassians were about to do their final push to erase London off the map, something luminous rained down from above. When the fluid made contact with the bugs, they collectively seized and felt burning agony. After a few seconds of trying to resist the effects, the Macassians fell one by one. The paralytic flowed into their systems, making all their terrifying weapons useless in the face of biological warfare. Up in the air, the source of the rain revealed itself, a chopper closely following the army of mantises from a safe distance. Aboard the chopper were the heroes of South Korea and Japan for the joint cavalry. Every single one of them was surprised that such a simple solution proposed by Hyun Ju-yeon worked. The red flower ant sap is working better than great. The Macassians cannot endure. They practically turned into useless empty husks. Standing beside Ju-yeon was Kang Yongpyo. In his eyes, there is no way that this woman miraculously guessed and hit the jackpot. Waking everyone up from their reverie, Hyun Ju-yeon took charge and ordered everyone to skydive and finish the job. With newfound respect and awe for Korea's premier S-rank hero, the cavalry swan dived towards British soil to prevent a cataclysmic incident. A few days after that joint operation, the entire world was made aware of what went down in the UK and who the undisputed MVP was. Back in Korea, the media and fans filled the airport, and everyone was eager to get a glimpse of the country's pride. The reporters and their teams are all salivating to get an exclusive scoop about Hyun Ju-yeon, the best hunter during the UK expedition. She was the one who figured out the Macassians' weakness and led the operation to the end. She practically saved an entire nation from despair. It's said that before leaving, she was knighted by the royal family for her heroism. When Hyun Ju-yeon finally stepped foot inside the airport, camera flashes and cheers from the civilians erupted. Like a real celebrity, she had long since been used to the limelight. Behind her was Kang Yongpyo trying to aura farm like he doesn't have a fucked up haircut. Even though Ju-yeon is a public figure, the intensity of today's welcome was still a bit overwhelming. As for Kang Yongpyo, he was credited with killing most of the Macassians on the expedition. Keep in mind that he basically killed paralyzed and helpless bugs. Their entire entourage of heroes consisted of 200 people. The brilliant performance of Korean heroes was the reason the UK still exists today. On the news, details about the Macassian hunt, including the red flower ant sap weakness, were made public. Walking around the city, our boy, Seo Dojun, overheard the news and paused for a second. He was glad that Ju-yeon was able to use his intel, but when they showed Kang Yongpyo on the jumbotron, his mood soured. That smug-looking bastard on the screen is one more loose end he needs to take care of soon. Inside a random high-end restaurant, Seo Dojun is drinking coffee with the woman of the moment. Hyun Ju-yeon kindly unloaded tons of presents for little Yoon-young, grandma, and even our boy. She warned him not to check the contents now. It would be better to open everything at home. Ignoring her words, Dojun found some nice-looking clothes in his pile of gifts. Ju-yeon simply wanted to give him a token of thanks for that invaluable tip. Thanks to Dojun's throwaway intel, she became the hottest hero in the world. Compared to the benefits she received, some nice clothes are practically nothing. So, she promised to buy Dojun a car or anything else whenever he wanted. Bro got a sugar mommy premium? She already knows that Dojun won't cough up how he knew about the weakness of Macassians, but she still asked. As expected, that man is impossible to pry into. Changing the subject, Ju-yeon asked him about his future plans. He's not the type to preach world peace or anything haughty, but if he sets his sights on Hong Hee-ju and Kang Yongpyo, things will get messy. Much to Ju-yeon's surprise, Dojun's only immediate plan right now is to buy a new house. The safe house his family is staying at right now is a rental after all. While the current star hero and the previous sword god were reconnecting, the other hero who stood out in the UK expedition was living it up. Kang Yongpyo enjoyed his welcome pool party with hoes as far as the eye could see. Surrounded by the huz, this rascal cannot take his mind off one specific girl, Hyun Ju-yeon. He knows that the girl wasn't as formidable before. She's changed somehow. He found it sus that she's hiding how she found out the weakness of those bugs. On their flight back to Korea, Yongpyo also tried to rile her up and pry some information about Seo Dojun. He brought up how Ju-yeon swooped in to save the day when Dojun got mixed up with a corrupt prosecutor. She was also present when Kang Cheolwoo was torn apart. Knowing that he's trying to get a rise out of her, Ju-yeon asserted that Cheolwoo the dumbass started that scuffle. Before that encounter, he attempted to murder Dojun and failed. Kang Yongpyo's mouth twisted into a demented smile and agreed. He also blamed the fool for getting blinded by petty cash. Even so, Cheolwoo is still his dear cousin. He can always use their relationship as justification to get revenge on that Seo Dojun fella. For a split second, Ju-yeon nearly slipped and showed emotion while she was being scrutinized by a shrewd bastard. She immediately distanced herself from the conflict and insisted that she was in no position to interfere if something was to happen. Kang Yongpyo was confused. He really thought she was closer to that Dojun guy. Ignoring him for the rest of the flight, Ju-yeon put her sleep mask back on and went back to napping. Still, even after that conversation, Yongpyo still can't shake the feeling that she was not being entirely truthful. Kang Yongpyo's paranoid ass is still maintaining caution with regards to Seo Dojun. Back in England, the original site of the breakout in Long Sutton was the shrubbery. The damage the monster wave inflicted on the place was still apparent. The British Hero Association deployed what little hero force they have inside the rifts to at least secure the magic stones before the second wave flares up. Some of the guards outside are discussing how they could have easily stood out as D-rankers if they just knew that Macasians could be taken down with just a little bit of red flower ant's sap. If their forces managed to block the wave early, they could have easily farmed ungodly amounts of magic stones. You see, once a rift breaks with a monster wave, it can never be converted into a gate. For the second wave, it's highly likely that a different kind of monster would pour out. There are plenty of records about entire countries being wiped out in the second wave. The unknown factor is the worst part. Suddenly, the rift throbbed. The raid team just went in not long ago to harvest stones inside. It's only been 5 hours. It's not nearly the time to pull out. Even so, the D-rank guards tightened the monitoring since desperate civilians trying to steal loose stones are a common sight near rifts. Instead of the usual sequence of people pulling out the rift, the whole thing seemed to shatter. Instead of the mining team, something or someone else came out of the rift. His humanoid face was scarred, and the set of armor he was wearing looked out of this world. This guy is definitely not a hero. His outfit and scars don't even look realistic. Before the poor guards could contact the headquarters, they lost control of their bodies and floated in the air. The man took a single step, and it felt like he teleported while effortlessly lifting the guards. British Guard number 1 tried to fight back using the UK's signature weapon, 3 knives. The flying blades reached their target, but multiple circular green lights made them vanish like they never existed in the first place. With a hoarse voice, the man complained that these guards are way too weak. He clenched his fist and made the green lights move. As a result, the guards were painfully sliced and diced, losing their limbs. Imagine getting turned into a limbless mannequin on the job. A dark miasma flowed out of the man's body. Using that dark miasma, he held dominion over space and grabbed one of the guards' smartphones. He verified the current date and calculated that it's been 10 years since the last time he set foot on Earth. And yet, his mission hasn't even reached 20%. After all his effort to open dimensional rifts, is it finally time to admit his failure? No, he just needs to increase the mana concentration to get back on track. But before that, this planet is due for some decent cleaning up. It's about time to weed out the weaklings. Back in South Korea, specifically in the Paju region, a young man is venturing into one of his routine farming escapades, oblivious of what's happening on the other side of the globe. Slinging nothing but a backpack, Seo Dojin walked around the restricted area. Suddenly, his senses flared up upon noticing abnormal vibrations in the ground. As he had expected, a battalion of disgusting worm monsters surfaced, eager to sample some meat. Their bodies were filled with metallic spikes, their mouths layered with sharp fangs. Dojin stood in the middle of the party, completely calm and unperturbed by the flashy display of power. Instead of looking up to the monsters, he turned his attention downwards, to the holes that the worms made. He measured the hole with a glance, and estimated that there are about 26 worms underground within a 100-meter radius. With a twisted smile, he gathered mana in his hand, eager to test the bugs. He wondered how many worms could survive his initial attack. He sent the concentrated mana blast barreling down to the hole, and an eerie silence followed. After a few seconds of idle waiting, the much-awaited explosions finally spread towards every other hidey hole in the area. Along with debris and sweltering flames, every worm wriggling downstairs was forced upwards to escape being cooked alive. Dojun is a proponent of working smarter instead of harder. With this technique, he doesn't have to get dirt in his drip. While he was busy farming free stones from the disgusting worms, a meeting of grave importance was taking place in the city. Min Hongki, Korea Hero Association's deputy director, and his boss, Na Tai Wang, were discussing a young man who was proving difficult to deal with. Of course, they were referring to Seo Dojin. According to the reports, the guy's strength could not even be measured with a standard hero meter. Other association executives, namely Vice President Park Seong-cheol, found it preposterous and threatening to have a presence like that roaming free in the country. They want Seo Dojun to answer the association. According to the deputy's intel, every bizarre thing about Seo Dojun started with Kang Cheol-woo's evil plan. After awakening in the gate raid where he was supposed to die, Dojin drastically changed. He later took his revenge and handled the new rift in Mapo by himself. Sure, he showed some excessive actions from time to time, but he always had good reason to do so. All in all, Seo Dojin's power can be classified as an overwhelming force. Natewang mused that a wild horse is the hardest to handle. Nevertheless, they have a good horse in their stable, and that's what matters. What spurred this discussion in the first place was Dojin's request for an official hero license. He was granted special privilege to skip the standard procedure since he had a guarantor. Of course, that backer was the S-rank darling of the country, Hyun Ju-yeon. Upon hearing his connection with the Golden Girl, the geezers of the association were flabbergasted. Knowing that they can't afford to offend Ju-yeon, given how hot her name is at the moment, Seo Dojun's request for a hero license was smoothly granted and expedited. He was slotted in as the 8th S-rank hero of South Korea, and he had never even stepped foot in the association. Thanks to his newfound status, he can finally hunt in any rift zone he pleases to his heart's content. It's not a bad thing to have. The way he wreaked havoc in the Paju rift zone, burning dangerous worms to a crisp, quickly reached the association director's ears. That intimidating geezer was quite amused that the country's newest S-ranker is already living up to the title. It's not every day you hear about a hero entering a second-degree rift by himself without any guild members or allies to support. It's simply insanity in the eyes of normal people. The vice president, who was the one so strongly opposed to Seo Dojun, is now advocating to reveal the young man's identity to the public, so the association can start promoting a new rising star. Thankfully, the deputy shut down such a stupid and greedy idea. Min Hongki asserted that they should ask for the man's opinion first before exposing him to the life of being a public figure. VP argued that since they are in an era of unrest, giving the people another symbol of hope in the form of a new S-rank hero would relieve the stress of the masses. Mr. VP tried his hardest to sell the idea to director Na Taiwang, but the geezer chose to be prudent. Before the association makes any move, he wants to meet the boy himself face to face. Speaking of the devil, Seo Dojun is still in his worm-killing marathon. If he wasn't using mana explosions, he's using good old brute force. While he cuts through one poor worm, the rest of the wriggling bastards loom over him. They might be a tough opponent for normal heroes, but their moves are practically telegraphed in Dojun's mind. With his hand enhanced by the burning power of his mana, he unleashed a wide sweep that burned and beheaded a dozen worm monsters in one fell swoop. He landed back on the ground, and dozens of dead worm carcasses dropped around his feet. Dojun stood above the mountain of corpses to aura farm like G. His hands were still scorching from the afterburn of his technique. He sighed and waved the remaining flickers off. As expected, the mana consumption rate of continuously hunting and killing swathes of high-level monsters is no joke. To remedy that problem, Seo Dojun finally decided to get a befitting weapon. As expected, the best place to get some much-needed equipment was the Gasan Hero Complex. Seo Dojun picked an innocuous store and entered. Inside, a bruised-up dude was manning the counter, playing on his phone to stave off boredom. The welcome bell rang, and he didn't even look at who had just arrived as he asked if the customer had a reservation. Seo Dojun ignored the bum's question and dumped his backpack on the counter, demanding to craft a weapon using the materials inside. Annoyed, the bum asserted that they don't service people without a reservation. Dojun had already been rejected by every other shop on the strip, citing that they're all fully booked. This was the only shop that answered his phone call. Still, the bum outrightly refused to entertain Dojun. He's just infuriated that he has to take his eyes off his phone. With patience running dangerously thin, Dojun grabbed the bum by the collar. Ignoring the threats and curses, he asked the little shit about who the shop's owner was. The bum proudly declared that his father owns the business. If that's the case, he'd better call daddy as soon as possible. Seo Dojun came here specifically because of a trusty recommendation. The bum was released. He scoffed, but cowardly retreated to another room and called his father. An old man wearing a modified welding mask came out from the workshop to see what the fuss was about. His name is Choi Cheolguan, master craftsman of hero armaments. Dojun shared that he came here under Hyunjuyan's recommendation. Of course, both father and son knew that name. Hell, the whole country knows that name. Old man Choi was just surprised that an S-rank celebrity knew about his craft. Seo Dojun didn't come here for useless chit-chat, so he just pulled out the materials from his bag. The old master gave the mats a thorough inspection and identified them as a giant black viper's fang. It has been a long time since he had seen one. Well, Seo Dojun wants a decent sword made of this stuff. He wants his weapon to be as long as possible. Don't we all, brother? The master craftsman argued against the request. Stretching non-metal materials too much would be detrimental to their durability. It would be more effective to make 2 medium-sized swords instead. Hearing that weak-ass compromise, Dojun asked if the old man was openly admitting to having subpar skills to craft what the customer wanted. Nevertheless, he doesn't want 2 swords. He just wants to fuse them together into one. All that matters is length. Well, it matters how you use it too, buddy. Aside from absurd length, he wants the mana absorption rate cranked up to the maximum level. Hearing the ceaseless and borderline unreasonable requests, the bum could not stand aside much longer. He is proud of his dad, a man who could craft weapons with at least a grade 3 mana absorption rate. Seo Dojun responded by picking up one of the swords displayed in the shop's forefront. He gave the blade a once-over and evaluated the material as grade 5. Then, he gripped the sharp end of the sword with his bare hands. Father and son stood silent and in shock as their unusual customer performed a miracle. The tightening continued until the death grip made the grade 5 material shatter under sheer force. This product, which the shop was so proud to display up front, was reduced to nothing but sharp dust and debris. The bum thanked his lucky stars that he didn't fuck with the mysterious customer. The old man watched his creation splinter apart. Seo Dojin warned Choi Chil-guan that if he was going to craft garbage with the materials provided, he'd better drop the job now. If these hands can turn a grade 5 weapon into fine dust, imagine what it could do to your face. After finally securing a shop that would accommodate his demands, Seo Dojun set out for another dungeon. Today his target is a green-skinned, one-eyed freak of nature. With his sharp senses, the Cyclops screeched as he felt a hostile presence nearby. While other hunters go for maximum style points with their gear, Seo Dojin solo hunts in his jeans and hoodie. Since he doesn't have a proper weapon yet, these hands will do for now. The Cyclops didn't let him get a free hit in. It tried to stomp him out right from the get-go. When the initial attack missed, the one-eyed bastard fell into a panic. Dojin leaped up into the air, compensating for the difference in size. His sword hand moved as quickly as lightning as it chopped off some juicy shoulder Cyclops meat. The pain made the beast screech in a higher and more annoying pitch. Desperate to hit back, it used its monstrous strength and gargantuan size to uproot a whole ass tree. He waved it around like a madman, desperate to swat the hooded monster out. Unfortunately for the Cyclops, such aimless tactics won't work against this man. He braced for impact, and 2 more deep and gnarly wounds appeared on either of his shoulders. It was a bloodbath. Normally, this would be the end of the hunt if Dojin were facing any other monsters, but Cyclops are a special bunch. They have such powerful regenerative abilities that they could tank and scoff at fatal wounds. Dojin had already taken this overpowered ability into account earlier. If the enemy has insane healing, you just have to keep doing damage. Without giving the Cyclops a chance to retaliate after a fresh region, Dojin scratched, sliced, and diced his way through the tough flesh and grotesque innards. To cap things off properly, he beheaded the giant monster and stuck his superhero landing. It was a clean but bloody victory over the green-skinned meathead. Seo Dojun sighed in light exhaustion. Right now, maintaining a mana sword for extended periods of time is still too demanding and inefficient. He grabbed his bag and retrieved a pitcher. Dojun dipped that thing into one of the grotesque wounds he gave the Cyclops, as if he were just getting juice. This was the exact aim of today's expedition, to grab some of that good Cyclops blood. He returned to the Hero District by sundown. As usual, the bum was manning the counter, so he wordlessly plopped his blood pitcher down. He instructed the Papa's boy to give the pitcher to Daddy. With this, the 2 black viper fangs could be easily fused together. After that short explanation, he refused to elaborate and walked out of the shop. All the basic materials for his weapon have been gathered, but if he wants a higher mana absorption rate, he needs one more ingredient. There is only one place on Earth to find it. While he was planning and mapping a way to find that secret ingredient, his fellow S-ranker was receiving a very important call. Hyun Juyeon was having a relaxing vacation when she picked up the call and heard a country mentioned, Brazil. The sun is up, and the water is just right, but Hyun Juyeon can't even fully enjoy her vacation due to that call. After their recent European mission, the Korean Association had decided to send its heroes to Brazil. That means the Brazilian government and association have given up on shutting down the rift zones themselves. As far as Jong Eun-ju knows, Brazilian monsters are especially violent, but the magic stone drops are unnaturally high. With a lot of money on the line, her Cleome guild is slated to go too. She urged Juyeon to accept the mission and go with the friend she was with a few days ago. Inju reckoned that the country's 8th S-ranker must be that dude they went into the dungeon with, the one rumored to be Hyun Juyeon's man. Inju is all for supporting this budding love. She found it romantic that 2 supremely powerful people hunted a fearsome Carcerian with just the 2 of them. After a lot of goading, Inju finally succeeded in getting Juyeon to agree on the Brazilian mission. However, she has no idea if that guy would even come. Back to the little shop in Gasan Hero Complex, Old Man Choi was looking at his own creation with awe. He never could have imagined that non-metallic materials could be melted and fused together by using Cyclops blood. If it weren't for this young man, he never would have come across such a bizarre technique. With this, he can make the sword as long as Dojin wants. They could go to the upper limit of about 180 centimeters. Seo Dojin wants a 2-handed blade with an adjustable grip for one-handed swings, something that weighs about 5 kilograms. Old Man Choi was surprised to see the rude kid from yesterday speaking so politely. He actually knows basic manners. Maybe his weapon really is just that important to him. Old Man Choi warned that 5 kilos would be heavy to swing one-handed. It's not like you'll swing the thing only once or twice. Dojin knows what specs he wants and he won't budge on that. Old Man Choi estimated that the crafting process would take at least a month, and the mana absorption rate should reach grade 7. He was unsatisfied with just a grade 7 rate. That level could not possibly hold his full power. As expected, he really needs the final push from one particular ingredient. Dojin headed for the door and tasked the old man to just get the shape done for now. The mana absorption upgrade can wait until after he has the rest of the materials. As an experienced artisan, Old Man Choi had some idea about what material the boy was referring to. He couldn't help but shudder. A few days later, Seo Dojun went out to the city to meet with a very important woman. Hyun Juyeon fulfilled her promise and got him a brand new car. Dojun appreciated the gift very much. She assured him that this legitimately was nothing compared to how much he helped her. It's just a $1 billion one car, which is no big deal. When he thanked her with a smile, Juyeon reverted to being a shy girl for a moment. While he was inspecting every inch of his new wheels, Juyeon inquired about what happened to him in the Hero Association. After meeting with the bigwigs, those crusty old men proposed to make his info public, but Dojin demanded a hefty payment if they wanted to do that. He recognized that President Na Taewang is all about the greater good, but politics muddle everything. Anyways, the negotiation fell through. After his external examination, Dojin hopped into his new car. Hyun Juyeon quietly jumped onto the passenger seat. While putting her seatbelt on, she brought up the association's preparation for the impending Brazil operation. After hearing her say Brazil, Dojin muted every other word. He drew closer to her and sincerely asked if she was going. Stunned, she barely managed to stammer that she would be. If that's the case, he invited Juyeon to go together. The S-rank Brazilian Riz is unreal. It made the heart of the nation's hero skip a beat as her cheeks uncontrollably blushed. Meanwhile, another woman is turning red because of Seo Dojin. The rich bitch, Hong Hee-ju, is in the middle of getting scammed by Kang Young-pyo for even more cash. He urged director Hong not to pinch pennies at a time like this. He already has a $3 billion in advance, yet he wants more. This man hasn't even started on his supposed job to finally kill Seo Dojin. Running out of patience, Hong Hee-ju seriously considered just hiring someone else to do her dirty work. She reckoned that there are plenty of lowlifes out there who would kill for tons of cash, no questions asked. Kang Young-pyo just laughed at her outdated intel, so he threw in a free tip. He just found out that Seo Dojun has just become the nation's latest S-ranker. They are practically peers. Director Hong refused to believe that the weak-willed child she drove away from the family had turned into some kind of superhuman. Young-pyo spent a lot of his own money to secure this info. If Hong Hee-ju doesn't want to believe it, she can just wait until Seo Dojun climbs this tower and kills the bitch himself. With desperation and fear for retaliation, Director Hong stopped Young-pyo from leaving. She is out of her depth, and she doesn't want to die. This crazy lady promised to pay as much as it would take just to take Seo Dojin out of the picture. Kang Young-pyo smiled and replied, he changed his mind. Instead of getting more cash, he would rather have a stronger business partnership with the director's conglomerate going forward. At this point, Hong Hee-ju would gladly say yes to any form of payment. In that moment, he received a very important text message. It seems like the heavens are smiling upon the accursed lady. The perfect chance to take out Seo Dojun just came up. A few days later, the nation buzzed with the news of yet another international expedition for the nation's heroes. All the S-rankers that accepted the mission are now aboard a luxurious private jet. In social media, people are excited to watch 5 S-ranks save a country on the brink of annihilation. Korean users were bursting with pride. One of the S-rankers was Jang Sung-ho, who carried the P group to the top on his own. He only agrees to missions if there are tons of money to be made. There's also Park Hae-il. His guild had recently shrunk to nothing, so the cash reward for this expedition is sorely needed. Hyun Ju-yeon, on the other hand, is the country's current national hero. She just saved Britain, and now she's going to Brazil without resting in between. Kang Young-pyo must be going after hearing the word about the tax exemption for every magic stone scored in the mission. Snagging a single mid-high stone could change a normal person's life. While the other S-rankers were praised and talked about on the internet, one figure incurred more questions than rumors. Seo Dojin was seen as a young rookie making a debut on the international stage. Nothing fancy. With these 5 heroes at the top of the food chain, Brazil is about to get rowdy. After a long and uneventful flight, the group finally arrived in São Paulo, Brazil. The Brazilian Hero Association has convened to discuss how everything will go down. They are eager to welcome the renowned Korean expedition team. They are the fastest responders out of all the countries from which they have requested help. A few of the S-rankers didn't even check into their hotel and just jumped straight to action. Still, the bigwigs are worried that the Koreans might figure out something they've been trying to suppress. There is no such thing as an everlasting secret, so they just have to make sure that everything is under strict control until the collaboration is over. Brazil's national treasure hero, Moraes, has been defeated by some unknown entity. It was a gruesome way to go. He wasn't done in by a monster. His black box definitely caught the shape of a human killer. No one knows what exactly happened near the Santarem Rift. Right now, the Korean team is receiving the necessary briefing about the plan of action. While everyone was listening intently, Hyun Ju-yeon was busy texting and looking for Seo Do-jun. As it turns out, he stayed on the plane and got on a connecting flight to a further destination. He's going straight for the Santarem Rift. Ju-yeon couldn't help but worry. She just learned that this man is going to the most troublesome rift by himself. Supposedly, the team will go on a 2-day local adaptation period and will be assigned to the rift zones they applied to be deployed on. After the briefing, Ju-yeon didn't stay for long and got into a taxicab. Kang Young-pyo followed her to ask where she was heading when they weren't supposed to move just yet. Just to get rid of his annoying ass, she spilled that she's going to Santarem for a bit. Young-pyo obviously found that sussy. The Brazilian Association explicitly warned them of the dangers of that place. The rift zone near Santarem had turned to a barren wasteland. Hyun Ju-yeon and the Cleom Guild convened with Seo Dojin to tag along in his supposedly solo mission. Since they went to the trouble of rushing to this forsaken place, Ju-yeon demanded to know why he's in such a rush. Dojin asserted that they were the ones who arrived late. They bickered like an old married couple. Exhausted by her ceaseless questions, Dojin finally answered that he's going for the blue croco. It was an underwhelming answer. Displeased by how casually he talks to her, Ju-yeon insisted that she's 3 years older than him and demanded a little more courtesy. While they continued to bicker, the Cleom Guild just stood back and watched. Guild leader Jong In-ju had never met anyone who had the balls to boss Ju-yeon around. As they got deeper and deeper into the rift zone, some of the Cleom Guild members felt hesitant to advance without a proper plan. But the presence of Hyun Ju-yeon at the party assured them that they'd be safe. There is no denying how skilled she is, but it looks like the newbie was the one taking the lead. While the others doubted the man up front, those who had been present for the dungeon run a while ago were confident in the newbie's leadership. Confused and a little worried, Ju-yeon wanted to know if Do-jun was planning to shut the rift down. He denied having such a lofty goal. He just came here for the materials and to squeeze the zone for all it's worth. After a few more minutes of peaceful trekking, they finally came across the claws of the first obstacle. The Cleom Guild is filled with talented A-rankers, so they skillfully played their respective roles. They had a clear hierarchy and concise shot calling to deal with unexpected enemies. Even so, the blue crocos, barring their advance, were more monstrous in person than in the photos. All they could do was defend, and it's getting a little too dangerous. With the group halted, Seo Dojun finally made a move, drew his blade, and commanded the A-rankers to get out of the way. While everyone's attention was on him, this dude did not miss his chance to aura farm. Old Man Choi knew that he was going after the blue croco's heart, so he lent Dojin a prized sword temporarily. He affixed his sights on the target ahead and sped off like a cannonball. With one clean sequence, he turned the pesky blue crocos into sliced meat. He moved so fast and decisively that he activated the classic anime-slash effect. Dojin was already meters away from the beasts when they fell. Those who wholeheartedly believed in the newbie from the start were vindicated, and those who doubted him in the lead were shocked beyond words. That boy is just insanely strong. After that first hiccup, the journey to the rift zone proceeded without much trouble. The sun had set, and the party had set up camp. Huddled in the campfire, the Cleom Guild could not shut up about how Mr. Seo Dojin took down a group of blue crocos by himself in one shot. He didn't even break a sweat. It's not yet known to the public, but that's how he beat the fearsome Carcerian as well. One thing is for sure, this man is no ordinary hero. While others gossip, Dojin was busy watching his sickly-looking steak cook. Hyun Ju-yeon approached his spot and asked if he had finished organizing the blue croco heart. Well, the coolers he brought with him are filled with that stuff now. Ju-yeon still can't think of what those hearts are good for. Turning her attention to his pan, she asked what kind of meat was sizzling in there. It's certainly not beef. He casually answered that he's grilling some blue croco meat. She could taste his meat if she'd like. There are plenty of provisions prepared for this expedition, yet this man is cooking what he hunted. Ignoring her disgusted expression, Dojin bit into his grotesque meal. He chewed and swallowed like he was dining in a barbecue restaurant. Using his knife as a fork, it was quite a grisly sight. Even Jong In-ju was weirded out. They have so much normal food in stock, yet their leader is chomping on cursed meat. After getting over her initial disgust, Hyun Ju-yeon got curious. She picked up a cut for herself and stared at it for a while. In-ju wanted to stop her friend from doing something she might regret, but Ju-yeon trusts in Dojun's taste. As the piece of blue meat approaches her mouth, In-ju could do nothing but watch in horror. Ju-yeon gently bit on the rancid-looking meat. After swallowing a little baby bite, she was pleasantly surprised by its delicious taste. And so, two people in the camp wordlessly enjoyed a bizarre meal. Curious, Jong In-ju whispered and asked Mr. Seo Dojin about his secret. How could a relatively unknown person charm someone like Miss Ju-yeon? Sure, she's inexperienced and has never had a boyfriend, but she's not the type to easily give her heart to a man. So, what did Dojin do to charm and romance Korea's national treasure into trying his meat? Hearing the mention of romance made him recall his time in the Imperial Academy. It was a long time ago, before he even turned 20. With regards to romance, there was Miss Maisel Grain of the Grain Count family. There was also the youngest of the Lesulian family, Luenda Lesulian, and of course his last sanctuary in the destroyed world, the valiant knight, Veronica. He got way into reminiscing about the past and was brought back by In-ju's whispered shouting. As for his secret, he answered that Ju-yeon is the moth to his flame. In-ju had never heard something more cringeworthy in her entire life. Just like that, the night passed with a very playful atmosphere. Even Dojin was smiling and having fun. Back in São Paulo, Kang Yongpyo is still living it up in a grandiose hotel suite. He's still wondering why Hyun Ju-yeon was so in a rush to move when the proper operation date hasn't been assigned yet. According to his sources, she's moving with Seo Dojin and Jong In-ju's guild. He turned to his assistant and asked about the range of profitable monsters in the Santarem area. As far as he knows, there should be none that would be considered lucrative. Every single thing related to that bastard Seo Dojin is simply too unpredictable. Yongpyo's worries dissipated when the hateful director Hong rang his phone. As always, she's called to ask if the job is done. Hearing how impatient she sounds, Kang Yongpyo prodded if something had happened on her side. Well, she's worried that her father might have found out about the news of Dojin's ascent to S rank. He's telling the boy to come back home. Now that the chairman of T Group is getting involved, Hong Heeju is getting antsier than usual. Yongpyo finds her suffering amusing. Still, he finally met a proper partner who would net him immense profits. He'll make sure that she won't feel disappointed. He assured the bitchy director that Seo Dojin would not be able to return to Korea. Hearing him say that provided Hong Heeju some semblance of relief. Kang Yongpyo marked a spot on his map and prepared to contact someone named Takashi. Now that Seo Dojin slunk off into an isolated place of his own accord, his work has become a lot easier. When the sun rose, the Santarem expedition team continued their journey with Dojin at the helm. Hyunjuyeon held the map as the navigator and warned Dojin about going towards the jungle because of the monsters. Chief among those that warrant worrying is the lynx. Of course, Dojin knows everything there is to know about the lynx. Instead of staying clear of the thick jungle, Seo Dojun immediately headed onto the most dangerous path there is. Juyeon knows that there is no stopping this guy when he sets his eyes on the prize, but she compelled him to at least put some earplugs on. Thankfully, she has prepared some in advance. Earplugs are required when fighting a lynx. Its cries have a bewitching effect that can paralyze the mind. Dojin was aware of that, but he refused to take the plugs. Juyeon did not easily give up trying to convince him to put the earplugs on. The intel and warning came from the Brazilian treasure hero, after all. Ignoring her pleas, Seo Dojun wordlessly and casually traversed the heavy thicket of Santarem jungle. Leaving them with no other choice, Hyunjuyeon and the Cleom Guild were dragged into this treacherous detour. After a whole day of non-stop trekking, they finally reached the monster's lair. Under the bright moonlight, the lynx stared them down like a predator eyeing its prey. It looked like a deranged overgrown cat. As soon as the beast made its presence known, Inju ordered her subordinates to cover their ears. While everyone was panicking, Dojin just stared at the cat without budging. He is not a prey. Two predators sized up each other. It was a contest of who had more aura. As expected, the lynx immediately opened its horrid snout and unleashed an ear-piercing cry. Hyunjuyeon and the Cleom Guild members hurriedly covered their ears while Seo Dojin just stood there and raw-dogged the sound. Noticing his odd calmness, Juyeon wondered why he wasn't doing the bare minimum defense against the lynx. Dojin dropped his hand and conjured a fiery ball of energy. With perfect precision, he threw the projectile on the perched lynx backdropped by the moon. That certainly made the screeching cries halt. Recognizing him as a threat, the beast bolted away in the nick of time. Dojin promptly unsheathed his blade and chased his prey on foot. Zhong and Juyeon, and the rest recovered their step and followed suit, but it was still unclear what the hell was happening. They ran through the depths of the woods, and Dojin's strides came to a screeching halt. The lynx that welcomed them was just a bait to lure unsuspecting victims to the pack's lair. That kitty cat got hit by Dojin's attack in the entrance, so it looks pissed. Suddenly, its eyes glowed with a warm and radiant light. Its gaze scanned the group of humans up front and quickly settled on a main target. Juyeon was picked. Her eyes met the lynx's glare. For a moment, she went under the monster's spell. Thankfully, Dojin moved quickly to cover her eyes. He then calmly explained that a lynx's cry wasn't the death sentence to worry about. What paralyzes the mind of the prey is the monster's magical eyes. The solution is simple then. Everybody should just close their eye holes for a moment and let the MC do the heavy lifting. Dojin confidently advanced with his sword in hand. Perhaps it's time to test his current limits. With a crescent sweep, his energy manifested a burning arc adorned by lumps of power. A technique that can turn a swordsman's Super Saiyan, the Vandeiyan sword skill's first form, a miracle born from a single point. He extended his tip forward and steadily summoned a much more condensed version of his energy blasts. The Lynx pack had never encountered anything like this before, and they didn't know how to respond. As a result, our boy got a free hit with his ultimate skill. The A-rankers of Cleom Guild were slack-jawed and a little terrified. Looking like a mad god, Seo Dojun released the stockpile from his tip, and the burning climax scorched everything in its path. The poor furries crawling along the branches recognized that they were fucked a tad bit too late. The pack took the brunt of the A-miracle born from a single point. They got absolutely nuked. Its impact almost swept the ladies off their feet, and not in a good way. When the radiance of the spell died down, the aftermath it left revealed a ghastly sight. A whole section of the forest had been deleted from existence. The land was burnt to a crisp, and the man responsible for such destruction didn't even break a sweat. The unlucky beasts who tried to pick on the wrong guy were instantly cooked. They hyped the danger level of these things up so much, and they didn't even get the chance to show off their loadout. If Juyeon had to sum up Seo Dojin in one word, it would be unbelievable. Surprisingly, a single lynx managed to survive the blast that essentially obliterated its whole bloodline. Dojin is not one to leave loose ends, so he calmly strode forward to finish the job. With desperation, the survivor lynx frantically tried to paralyze the executioner with its signature skill. Dojin was interrupted by cutting its furry little head off without mercy. It was a clean cut that marked the end of tonight's one-sided hunt. The last thing the beast saw with its blessed eye was the face of the man who swung the blade. Dojin kneeled and heartlessly gouged the dead lynx's eye. Like a true hunter, he's not about to let such a precious part go to waste. After burning the beasts and harvesting their loot, the group walked back to a safer path with an even higher assessment of Seo Dojin. Juyeon was giving him googly eyes from the back. Everyone was thinking the same thing. The man leading this expedition was definitely outside the human level. Some people would put him above the iconic hero, Chavri Alphonse. Some would even go as far as rating Dojin at the same tier as Kane Lester, the world's current strongest hero. The journey back to the normal route wasn't without its obstacles. They had barely broached the swampy area, and some ghoulish humanoid creatures had already come up to hassle them. These monsters cannot read the room at all. The undead don't have brains after all. They're just a bunch of corpses moving with the sole purpose of devouring. Their charge might look intimidating at first, but it was simply too straightforward. A fist extended out and decked one of the ghouls out of the way. Seo Dojin continued his kill streak after a brief break. This time it's via headshot again. He didn't need a weapon or some fancy technique. The undead can catch his hands and return to the underworld. Once he got into his rhythm, it was basically over. A flurry of heads exploding in quick succession rang out as the ghouls fell one by one. Using his bare hands, Seo Dojin ripped every single one out of their bodies. This time, the Cleome Guild members accepted that they're just spectators and stood back to watch the highlights. A few moments later, after looting whatever they could salvage from the ghouls, the group continued their trek. While walking, Juyeon couldn't hold her curiosity in, so he asked Dojun about his swordsmanship, the move that produced the radiant flashes specifically. She's obviously talking about the Vandeiyan sword skill's first form, a miracle born from a single point. He half-heartedly asked if she wanted to learn it, and Juyeon's face immediately lit up. But in a peaceful world like this, he doesn't see any reason to teach someone something so OP. Juyeon could sense that this man was underestimating her way too much. She's still an S-rank hero too. On paper, they are on the same tier. Seeing the defiant look in her eyes, Dojin seriously considered teaching her Vandeiyan swordplay. In the end, she accepted that this brick wall wouldn't give in as she sulked like a child who didn't get the toy she wanted. To keep everyone on track, Inju made the judgment call to leave the rift for now. The last leg of the journey back went without a hitch, and the group reached the exit rift. Thanks to Dojin's hard carry, they cleared the zone without any casualties or even injuries. Next time, they will re-enter with the goal of shutting the rift down. Who knows? Maybe that attempt will go even quicker. Everyone exited the rift one by one, with Inju stepping out on the other side last. Immediately, she heard a heated argument in Japanese. Someone had been camping outside the rift to cause some trouble and throw some grief. The more Inju heard, the more she recognized who the rude voice belonged to. In the middle of the scuffle, Seo Dojun inexplicably had his hand around Fine Shit's waist. In front of them was Ryoma Takashi, an ex-Yakuza S-rank hero and Teikoku's guildmaster. He had his boys with him. According to Ryoma, he was supposed to have fun with Juyeon today, but this unknown little boy dared to block him. He threatened to smash Dojin's face in if he didn't get the hell out of the way. Ryoma towered over him in stature, but he could not look more unbothered by the threats. He even talked back in perfect Japanese. The previous Seo Dojun must have picked up and studied before. Ryoma did not appreciate getting dissed in his mother tongue at all. Sensing their boss's rage, the Yakuza goons barked at Dojun to bow his head and apologize from the bottom of his heart. They keep going on and on about how their master is not to be trifled with. While they can yap their asses off all day, Seo Dojun doesn't give a flying fuck. To put it plainly, he firmly told Ryoma to get lost. Watching the situation unfold, Inju's worry grew by the second. Teikoku is ranked among Japan's top 5 guilds. Ryoma Takashi is a thug infamous for his violent temper. Even for Dojin, it might be better to steer clear of this mess. Trying to broker peace between the two heated parties, she decided to step in and cool the situation down. Jong Inju was calm and respectful with her approach, but Ryoma just labeled her a bitch who shouldn't butt in. This time, her crew flared up. Their guildmaster was being blatantly disrespected. It could have easily devolved into a guild war, but Inju had her boys under control. Despite the insulting words, Jong Inju formally introduced herself as Cleome's guildmaster and proposed that they settle the beef without escalating the situation. Ryoma just spat on her peaceful agreement. He had never heard of the puny Korean guild, so why should he care? Going even further, Ryoma offered to give Inju a turn on his 2-inch beast after he's done with Juyeon. He proceeded to forcefully grab Juyeon, but Dojun's body blocked that grab. Irritated, Ryoma finally showed his teeth after barking for so long. His fist gave Dojun's cheek a little kiss. He thought that would be enough to knock some nobody out, so he could have some fun in the meantime. The dumbass Yakuza also leaked that he has some business to settle with Dojun. One can infer that this stunt is just one big, calculated provocation. If that's the case, Dojin is down to playing along. He immediately got his payback by socking Ryoma on the same cheek. His punch was noticeably more effective. It threw the Japanese cliché flying back to his crew. The hardcore Yakuza glazers who were barking obscenities didn't expect to see their boss in this state. Dojin advised everyone to stand back. Since these assholes struck first, whatever happens next can be reported as self-defense. The Yakuza goons drew their respective weapons and got in position to retaliate, but the boss called the one-on-one. Ryoma got rid of the jacket covering his chiseled physique and ordered his men to fall back. Awakening the power lying dormant inside his body, the ex-Yakuza S-ranker showed why he's one of Japan's best. Before the inevitable fight started, Juyun turned to Dojin with a piece of advice. She did not bother talking him down or any of that crap. She just asked her man to at least leave the poor Japanese gangster half dead. What happened next was what you might have expected. To the boys from Japan it was a shock, but to the expedition group, it was the norm. Seo Dojin is absolutely pub-stomping the trash-talking Yakuza bastard. Ryoma had his head buried deep in the group while the heels of Dojin's shoes bashed him deeper with every stomp. Miraculously, Ryoma managed to get out of the embarrassing position by cowering away. He crawled backwards to his boys while trying to reevaluate his life choices. Who the hell did he mess with? How can he be human? This is not what he heard about from the source. Look at those eyes. Seo Dojin is not a man you are supposed to fuck with. Staring into them felt like a death sentence. Every fiber of Ryoma's being was yelling at him to bail or he's going to die for certain. It doesn't matter if it's shameful to run after declaring and starting the fight. He just wanted to run and never see Dojin again. Unfortunately, he has to finish what he started. The young man zoomed like the wind and appeared in his escape path. Looking down at the broken gangster, Dojin asked if someone had orchestrated this stunt fight. He already has a pretty good idea who's behind these dirty tactics. There's no use in denying. Dojin grabbed Ryoma by his greasy hair, and the hardened Yakuza begged to be spared. From talking shit to begging for his life, the gangster had taken a drastic turn in tone. Dojin was disgusted by the lack of backbone and pelted the guy with hundreds of slaps in a span of a few seconds. Halfway through the slap pounding, he closed his fist to deal some real damage. Seo Dojun proceeded to beat the hell out of the gangster's ugly mug. He pounded that son of a bitch to a bloody pulp. The bystanders were frozen in shock and fear. It's not every day you get to watch an S-ranker getting bullied like a manhwa character in high school. After many punches, too many to count, he let go of Ryoma's limp body. Inju expected that their man would win, but this is even more one-sided and graphic than she thought. After a brief break, Dojin is back on, giving the bastard some more trauma. He carefully placed his heels on the back of Ryoma's head. With everyone watching, he slowly increased the force on his step, silently threatening to crack the guy's skull with his foot. At this rate, one of Japan's valuable S-rankers might really croak here. Inju pushed Juyeon to say something. She snapped out of her daze and pleaded for Dojin to stop before they crossed a line that should not be crossed. In response, he calmly claimed that he'll take responsibility for his actions. Juyeon had had enough of his edginess and dragged that boy out of unnecessary trouble. He shouldn't do something he would need to take responsibility for in the first place. Still, Dojin had seen more than his share of scum like Ryoma. He found that it's better to just kill those types instead of leaving a loose end. But this is the modern world. Inju and Juyeon don't want him to get his hands dirty with trash like this. To convince Dojin that the Yakuza had learned their lesson, Inju prompted the goons to surrender and steer clear unless they wanted to end up like their boss. These pricks immediately got on their knees and swore not to mess with Dojin anymore. But Dojin is a hard man to please. He's not satisfied with some performative kneeling. He wants the head of his enemies on the ground, begging for their puny little lives. Knowing that this kid could probably one-shot 3 of them at once, the goons did as he asked quite convincingly. Dojin also brought up that Yakuza members are supposed to cut off their fingers when they screw up. Afraid of losing their pinkies, the goons banged their heads against the floor even harder and lower while pleading for forgiveness. So Dojin gave them an out. All they have to do is say, "I'm shit and I'm sorry," and they can get off with a warning. Through pursed lips, the gangsters swallowed their pride for the sake of survival. They said the magic phrase word for word. The Cleom Guild spectators admittedly felt vindicated at how Dojin handled the threat. Even the battered S-ranker had to say the humiliating phrase. After settling the beef, they wrapped things up and returned to the coalition's HQ. The next day, in sunny São Paulo, Brazil, Juyeon and Inju found themselves in the office of Brazil's Hero Association to report about what had happened the day before. Reading the events that transpired on paper was a little hard to believe. The report summed up how an S-rank hero like Ryoma Takashi was beaten to the point of being crippled by just one man. There's a bunch of eyewitnesses, but it's still hard to accept. Brazil's Hero Association was really hoping that Korea and Japan would work closely together in the quest to close the troublesome Santarém rift. If the report is accurate, the Brazilian Association won't have to get involved. They'll just hand the case over to the respective hero associations of Japan and Korea for an internal decision. With that out of the way, they move to the part of the report regarding the group's trip near Santarém. For now, everything seems to be normal. The Brazilian Hero Association's representative kept seeing Seo Dojin's name popping up on the reports, so he asked if he could see the guy. But that would be impossible right now, as Dojin is left to allegedly wrap some things up cleanly. Inside a lonely hospital room, a poor patient covered in gauze and barely recognizable with his fucked-up face opened his eyes to a nightmarish sight. Dojin had come to pay his victim a proper visit with flowers in hand. Before Ryoma could make a scene, the executioner commanded him to stay still and claimed that he was here on an official hospital visit. He then reached inside the flower bouquet and retrieved the eye of the lynx stashed inside. Dojin forced Ryoma to engage in an intense and unfair staring contest. With the gangster completely under the lynx's bewitching power, it's about time to dig some information on the man behind the provocation. Dojin stayed in that hospital room, interrogating his victim for quite some time. By the time he was finished, the infamous Ryoma Takashi had been reduced to a bumbling idiot with a fried brain. He kept on calling himself a lowly trash that caused trouble for the Korean guilds. His mind was completely broken, and the loose end was cleaned up. When Dojin walked out of the room, Ryoma had been thoroughly lobotomized. He kept on chanting that the Yakuza are shit. Knowing how to take care of lingering enemies while aura farming is a mark of a truly great main character. Rumors of the clash between Korean and Japanese heroes quickly leaked and spread around every major news publication. Some articles detailed the beating, some showed the aftermath, and most publications were trying to get the Rising Star's statement. Korea Hero Association's president Na Taiwan is tapped into the pulse of the people. He knows that his new guy is sweeping the news cycle. The reaction is explosive. Reports about Seo Dojin filled the airwaves. The association also received news that the Japanese Hero Association had dropped its investigation. Ryoma Takashi himself asked his government to stop it. This was strange, considering that he's known for being a hothead who will always pick a fight at every chance he can. For a whole country to back off, something more must have happened. As for what that something is, Na Taewang had no clue. The old man just could not shake the feeling that with Dojin at the center, the balance of the world had already begun shifting. Right now, only one day remains until the operation to close the Brazilian Rift Zone kicks off. The Korean team that arrived early had just finished adapting and familiarizing themselves with the area. Everyone exchanged and shared joint operation plans, rigorously perfecting the strategy. The rest of the heroes conscripted from all around the world had also gathered around. To encourage success and cooperation, the Brazilian government arranged some sort of pre-battle eve festival. The star of the event was, of course, today's enigmatic media darling, Seo Dojin. Bro bought a trench coat to maximize his aura. In the banquet hall filled with all sorts of delicacies, Dojin engaged the other heroes from other countries in conversation rather well. Word about him wrecking Ryoma Takashi has gone global. It's only natural that everybody wanted the dirty details. Everyone who comes up to Dojin just talks to him about the incident. And yet, he never responded with a trace of arrogance. Inju carelessly remarked that compared to the man of the hour, Juyeon and she are like ordinary people. This was the type of quip that would have gotten a response from the S-ranker, but she stayed silent, seemingly lost in thought. While wondering what put her in such a sullen mood, Inju looked around the room. She saw dripped-out Dojin interacting with some big names in the hero world. Looking at the stunningly gorgeous woman clinging close to him, Juyeon's mood finally made sense. That woman is Gloria Tyler, an American S-ranker voted as the world's most beautiful hero. Inju connected the dots and gave her friend a tight slap on the back. She yelled at Juyeon to stop sulking like a kid, get off her ass and go talk to her man. Juyeon didn't really know how to interact with Dojin outside the rift, but she still came up to him. Granted, she looked way out of her depth, self-consciously looking at the floor instead of her fellow heroes. Dojin noticed the slight hint of blush on her cheeks and couldn't help but smile in amusement. Gloria Tyler took the hint and bid him farewell. Curiously, she referred to Dojin as Carcel, his true name from his previous life. It sounds like he introduced himself as such to Gloria. Even Juyeon was clueless about this Carcel thing. She assumed that Carcel must have been his Western name or something. In a way, she wasn't wrong. It's just a name he used before Seo Dojin. With the sparse information that she has, she wondered if this dude lived abroad as a kid, but that cannot be possible. She already ran an extensive background check on him. Juyeon was evidently upset that another woman found out that Dojin had a different name earlier than she did. While they were casually chatting in the middle of the banquet, some asshole was hovering closely. Inconspicuously holding a glass of liquor in his hand, Kang Yongpyo listened in. In his head, he was cursing his Japanese buddy for failing to handle one guy. At this rate, he'll just hate to step in himself. While his insides were boiling with the desire to rip Dojin to shreds, his big-ass ears picked up Juyeon whispering a word of warning. She reminded her man that even though he's strong, the enemies won't always play fair. Ryoma Takashi had a few close friends in his circle. The one they have to worry about is in this hall. Dojin cut her off before she could name-drop the obvious mastermind. He went on to claim that he didn't need to know who was coming. It's going to be the same shit, different ass. Just like Takashi, the mastermind is nothing but a dirty, arrogant, no-skill clown. Men like those are not even worth worrying about. Dojin really drilled that sentiment hard as he slowly turned his gaze to the direct target hovering behind. Kang Yongpyo quickly turned around and acted as though he didn't hear anything. But he did. This dude is on the verge of crashing out in the function. The icing on the cake of this masterful rage bait performance was Dojin's coy smile, openly mocking Yongpyo. The rage bait was successful. Yongpyo doesn't want to send another hired muscle. He wants to take care of this Dojin problem with his own hands. After the pre-battle Eve festival, the heroes rested up and were deployed the very next night. Inju, her guild, Juyeon and Dojun had gathered outside the rift assigned to their team, and were forced to pause for a moment. The rift zone near Santarem looked murkier, darker, and a lot more sinister than usual. Still, some of the boys found this ominous change negligible, considering that they've got 2 competent S-rank heroes in their midst. They could just rush in and close the damn thing. What could go wrong? With some apprehension, Inju gave her men the command to move in. On the sidelines, Dojin had a grim look in his eyes as he stared into the overgrown rift. He could feel something coming. The ladies had no idea what he was hinting at, but his foreboding words unsettled them. It was faint and hard to notice, but the mana density in the area was rising at an abnormal rate. Inside the rift, floating up in the air, some entity with long-ass nails was eyeing a phone displaying a progress meter currently at around 23%. The holder reckons that 30% is just around the corner. By his estimation, this power level should be enough to kill the worthless bugs calling themselves heroes crawling into the rift. As soon as they entered, everyone felt their bodies bogged down by something heavy in the air. Moving around was extra difficult. The thickness of the air made it hard to breathe. All these issues point to a drastic change in the quality of mana around them. Right now, it's even thicker than the Patisua forest. Juyeon had never seen this man tense up like this. She could not help but worry about today's mission. Nevertheless, they are committed to seeing the job through to the end. Being the capable leader that she is, Inju kept her boys in line and calmed their nerves down. She explained that the unusual weight they are feeling is just a characteristic of the rift zone. With more difficulty in moving, they can't afford to lower their guard. Knowing that the 2 S-rankers are their best insurance policy, Inju respectfully asked them to focus on protecting the formation as much as possible. Until they figure out why the mana density changed, this is the safest move, so they both agreed. Whatever happens, the objective is to close the rift no matter what. The Cleon boys looked like they were ready to follow their leader to hell and back. Around the time Dojin was entering the anomalous Santarem rift, another party had gathered at the rift zone near Manaus, the largest city in northern Brazil. A joint team of French, Korean, and Brazilian heroes has been dispatched. They are failing hard. These dudes are getting their asses beaten and eaten. Solo leveling had overpowered ants. We have killer bees. The overconfident foreign heroes thought they were about to cruise through this mission. Hell, these bees should have been easy free kills for C-rank heroes. Yet here they are, getting wrecked by gigantic insects. Even the A-rank heroes in their midst were falling like flies. The killer bees had no regard for human life. They have killer in their names. What did you expect? The sole remaining hero tried his luck against one of the flying critters, and his fist made full contact. It was useless. His body had gotten so damn heavy that he could not project his desired power output. Normally, he could shred an entire colony of these bees into pieces by himself. In this place, they are not the clearing squad. They are nothing but helpless prey to the real hunters. It's hard to tell how many of these so-called heroes will actually make it out alive. Back in Santarem, Inju just narrowly dodged a heavy axe slam from their first encounter. Posted up before the squad was a battalion of black orcs. They were not ordinary black orcs either. Just like the killer bees, they were abnormally stronger than what their classification denotes. Even so, the Cleon boys kept the pressure up and executed their combos. Unfortunately, landing an attack that doesn't deal damage is not a recipe for victory. Even with perfect teamwork, they cannot breach the Black Orcs' titanic defense. Caught with their pants down, the Cleon boys nearly got decimated by a full axe swing. Juyeon had to step in to drag them back to a safer distance from the beasts. She also yelled at them for rushing in recklessly. Once the noobs were brought to safety, Juyeon hopped back into the fray. The Black Orc tried to trip her up mid-air, but the S-ranker danced around the vicious attacks with grace and mastery. After showing some fancy footwork, she turned the tables and went on the offensive with a roundhouse kick. With an inhuman response time, the monster quickly turned around to defend its vulnerable bald head. Juyeon's convincing feint worked. She avoided the turnaround, and the winding roundhouse kick elevated even higher. From the skies, she descended with the force of a falling meteor. With one of the Black Orcs down, the remaining beasts were intent on avenging their fallen comrade. Using a clever maneuver, Juyeon tricked the raging orc into dealing some friendly fire damage with its hefty bone club. Realizing what he had done to his homie, the orc paused in fright. That gave Juyeon the window to come in from behind with her lightning-quick movement. This time, she didn't need some elaborate movement pattern. All she needed was a straightforward kick to the back of the head. The Cleon boys keenly watched Juyeon in action. Because of the destructive enigma named Seo Dojin, they almost forgot that Hyun Juyeon is also an S-rank, a being cut above normal mortals like them. One last black orc remains. This one tried to act tough with a grating war cry. Thankfully, a fist flew in to break its jaw, shutting it up completely. Juyeon had her time in the spotlight. Dojin is just cleaning up the last bit of the trash. Inju felt helpless. They are barely out of the rift entrance, yet the difficulty level is already this high. Even with 2 S-rank carries, closing this place won't be a cakewalk. After wiping out the orcs, Dojin took a closer look at the corpses to investigate, and Juyeon curiously followed suit. He pointed out the faint black ripple surrounding the beast. It's hard to see with untrained eyes, but it's really there if you focus hard enough. Dojin is now certain that this black ripple is enhancing the monsters to a ridiculous degree. Its presence, effects, and feel were consistent with dark mana, something that should not exist in this world. It sounds like he's in a talkative mood today, as he explained what the black ripple means to this mission. Deeper into the Santarem Rift, they reached a different biome and encountered a different class of monsters. They looked like lumps of goop, a vicious pack of swamp creatures. Against these slimy bastards, the Cleon boys rejoined the fight to prove that they can contribute. They were fast and crisp with their practiced rotations, but the damage simply wasn't there. Perhaps another 2-man combo could break through. Cooperation can only get them so far. They managed to incapacitate one of the swamp monsters, but it wasn't enough to get the kill. They were used to dealing with normal swamp ghouls, but this is a different breed. Thoroughly exposed, the boys were caught in the petrifying sludge. Spear Guy managed to recover, but his shield-bearing partner took the brunt of the force. The attack was strong enough to tear up a high-class combat suit. Every attack is lethal. Desperation, helplessness, and confusion plagued their minds as they continued to resist. A lapse of judgment could put your life in definite danger if you're not paying close attention to your surroundings. Thankfully, Guildmaster Inju was keeping her eye open for any sneaky slime action. With her boys in danger, her combat instincts were tingling. Jong Inju wielded her blade like it was an extension of her body, showing how she got to the top with her own strength. Still, she could not shake the feeling of unease. If the swamp ghouls are this strong, then the Velkara will be even worse. For a moment she entertained a terrifying thought. What if every rift zone in the world undergoes this kind of change? In the meantime, let's see what's happening in the other rift zone near Manaus. Inside this one, the noobs weren't as lucky to have reliable hard carries. The sole survivor of one of the groups is frantically running through the woods with his life on the line. Brazil's Arvado, France's David, and many others have fallen. Those 2 guys were supposed to be invincible. They were S-rankers, and yet they got taken out by just a few Velkara, a ferocious spider monster. While easily fisting swamp ghouls, Juyeon and Dojun broach the topic of the vicious bug waiting for them at the end of the rift. Dojun distinctly remembers that a Velkara infused with dark mana is especially dangerous. If those spiders have been infected by the same black aura, they'll be troublesome to deal with. While discussing the final boss, Juyeon continued fisting the slimy monsters to oblivion. Similarly, Dojin was giving everyone a crash course about highly concentrated mana pouring directly into a monster's body. Juyeon asked if he was talking about the blue bar players used to cast magic in video games. It sounds like he's not going to get anywhere with a lecture. In this world, no one even knows that the biggest difference between heroes and ordinary people is their capacity to house and use mana. Stopping his high-level lecture, Dojin punches through a swamp ghoul's body clean. He pondered the implications of a world that doesn't even have the concept of mana. Now it makes sense why the world was so peaceful relative to his previous world. At this rate, that peace might be on the brink of breaking. But for now, he'll just brute force his way out of this swampy encampment with his bare hands. Dojin easily dispatched the biggest swamp ghouls in the blink of an eye. The Cleon boys looked like they had just gone through a war. Their S-rank babysitters, on the other hand, looked pristine. Since they're now in the clear, Dojin came up with a more digestible explanation of black mana's properties. Put simply, the monsters in this rift are like athletes pumped full of steroids and performance-enhancing drugs. He found the severe lack in humanity's knowledge about this simple concept strange and worrying. Leaving behind the swamp ghoul territory, Dojin took over as the navigator and led the team away from the area where Velkara appears. They also slowed the pace of their advance down to a crawl. A few minutes later, Inju gave the stop signal and the whole team halted. They hit the jackpot and found the place where a Velkara was stashing its feeding cocoons. Wrapped up in the toughest silk, killer bees and black orcs were captured and stored for later use. It's safe to assume that the monster responsible for this ghastly scene is nearby, but according to their de facto leader, they can ease up a little. Instead of looking for the beast itself, they stumbled upon the real danger, and it's a good thing that they did. His hand shot out more of those fiery blasts. The targets were stationary, so you already know the aim is impeccable. Each energy blob exploded, burning the cocoons and the deceased monsters wrapped inside them. Velkara that have absorbed dark mana have the ability to control their dead prey like puppets. Destroying them now would pay dividends in the final fight. Leaving them alone would be a recipe for disaster. With the secret weapon burned down, all that's left now is to take down the ugly spider itself. The The team just looked at him like he was a madman. Considering what they've seen, that's a reasonable reaction. Inju and the rest were just amazed that even in such a seemingly doomed situation, he operates like he knows exactly what to do. They were all blinded by his strength. But at this point, his overall skill set feels beyond human. Juyeon jokingly poked fun at his encyclopedic knowledge and machine-like decision-making process. She coyly asked him if this was his second run in life or something. Hearing the question gave Dojin a genuine chuckle. For a brief moment, he fondly remembered who he used to be. Carcel's go-around as Seo Dojun can really be considered a second life. Changing the subject, he asked Inju how far they are from the core. With the map and their position locked in her mind, she estimated that they were about halfway through the trek after cutting through the next jungle. At their current pace, this would be quite a long grind. But Dojin claimed that they can close the rift before the day is over. This crazy idea might be possible for Dojin, but for the Cleon boys, a one-day boss rush would be too much. Most of them had already burned through their stamina against the swamp ghouls. If they can't keep going, they can just rest up. Dojin can't afford to waste time. He'll just handle the giant spider solo and come back once he's done. Without another word, he took off with a burst, carried by the wind. He left everyone behind without leaving any room for discussion. They all went through hell, yet that man still has the gas to traverse the woods like an unstoppable freight train. As the backdrop of the woods blurred, his eyes constantly darted around to pick up details that could lead him to the final fight. With his expert tracking skills and a vague idea of the Velcara's nest, he finally laid eyes upon his target. The Velcara is one nasty, scaly, and pointy beast. Its abdomen is coated with strong armor and protruding blades. It also bit a guy named Peter Parker once. All of that doesn't matter, though. Seo Dojun leapt into the air and started his swinging motion with his sword still in its sheath. He started the exotic cooking show by slicing up the spider legs with scales thicker than steel. Judging by the bug's ugly screech, losing 3 legs at once sure does sound painful. Enraged, the Velcara opened its maw and shot some sticky silk like a gooner that just gained internet access. It was a big swing and miss as Dojin masterfully hopped out of the web's trajectory. He zipped all over the place with inhuman speed. There's no point in dragging the fight any longer when the gap is this big. With crisscrossing slashes, the exotic cooking show concludes. Dojin sliced and diced the Velcara into multiple pieces, and this dude still had the time to adjust his position to land perfectly and aura farm. The monster that slaughtered a bunch of S-rankers in the other rift zone was squashed in just a few seconds. He stood up, exhaled deeply, and scanned his body for any changes. Surprisingly, his stamina is still at its peak, devoid of any fatigue. This might have something to do with the dark mana he absorbed through his mana cultivation technique. After packing up the strongest monster in the rift, Dojin strode back to the camp like he had just peed in the woods or something. Juyeon and Inju didn't have to ask if he did what he set out to do. They just know he's him. The guy doesn't even look tired in the slightest. His hoodie was splattered with blood all over, but not a drop belonged to him. Since he can't sense any more dangerous monsters nearby, this jungle should be the perfect spot to camp and rest. After the fire got started, everybody sat down to take a load off. Those who sustained injuries were treated, and those who were relatively unscathed chatted. Then there's Seo Dojin, quietly roasting his spider meat on a stick. One of the Cleon boys, the spear guy, peeped at what he was doing, got curious, and approached the unapproachable leader. With a friendly tone, he asked Dojin if he could try his meat too. You know he's packing a whole lot of meat, so giving some to others was no big deal. Seeing their comrade sitting down and dining with Dojin, another Cleon boy popped in. Spear guy wanted to try some of Dojin's meat, thinking that the meat was the secret to his strength. Since they had nothing to lose, the boys gathered around the fire to get some Dojin meat. Everyone watched them put the meat in their mouths with great interest. Dojin was actually pleased to see the boys share his meat. It doesn't do much besides fill the stomach, but he doesn't dislike people who just want to grow stronger. As a small gift, he slyly manipulated his mana to infuse the boys with a little boost on a whim. The effect of the infusion was immediately apparent. Of course, the boys attributed the warm energy flowing through their bodies to the meat. Watching them beaming with smiles also made Dojin crack his deadpan expression briefly. After dinner came more route planning. With the map pulled out, Inju pointed out the straight path towards the rift core. It's been a long day, and everyone's exhausted. It would be safer to head back and resume tomorrow. Although Dojin claimed that the rift must be closed today, their packs are already full of loot, and it would be more prudent to pull out to return later. Juyeon also agreed with Inju's assessment. The earlier fights took a toll on her stamina, and the dark mana-infused monsters are way too troublesome to face. Well, the original plan was to delay closing the rift zone as long as possible in the first place. This way, they could gather as many rare materials as possible, which includes the blue Croco's heart. They were supposed to turn the rift into an infinite resource glitch, but the sudden involvement of dark mana changed that original plan. Drastic changes like this are never a good sign inside the rift. Furthermore, he could feel something off about the dark mana wafting through the air, but he couldn't quite figure it out. Dojin grabbed his sack and emptied his load on the floor. Pause. The sack was filled with the sparkling red eyes of the Velcara. He asked the ladies to take all this legendary loot back to the hotel first. Since they were dead set on retreating, they might as well hold on to his share of the loot. Before heading back into the deep, dark woods, he promised to close the rift and join the group soon. On his way to the rift core, Seo Dojin encountered a lot of pesky obstacles. First were the newly respawned swamp ghouls clamoring around the muddy waters. He must have killed dozens of them at this point. He was just styling on these slimy beasts while continuously moving. When using his bare hands got a little too boring, his eyes sharpened, and the blade was drawn. Swampy monster goop stained his sword as ghouls disintegrated around his kill range. You see, the key to killing them quick and easily was to aim for the core all along. Opposite to where he was headed, the Cleome Guild and Hyun Juyeon took the route heading towards the exit, the second the sun rose. Walking alongside her dear friend, Inju voiced out her concern about Dojin. Juyeon assured her that he would be fine. If he still has the energy to bolt off like a bullet after saying a few words, then he still has the energy to fend for himself. She says that, but Inju could see the gloominess practically painted on her face. Juyeon's head hung low out of embarrassment, not out of concern for Dojin. She feels like a fraud calling herself an S-ranker next to that man. She can't even think of anyone else in the world at his level. Moving gracefully in midair, Seo Dojun's blade came crashing down on a black orc's head. He gave that poor orc the most painful free haircut in the world. Half of the brain and skull were lopped off in one clean slash. Keeping up the pace, he changed targets and bonked another black orc's bald-ass head. His emotionless massacre rightfully enraged the remaining orcs. Seeing them throw their little tantrums made Dojin scoff just a little. A reckless axe swing came his way, and he seemingly vanished into thin air. When he reappeared, this dude had a bunch of pre-made destructive balls of fire in his hand. He threw a flurry of spells at the orcs, burning their bodies down for an agonizing death. By the time he was done backtracking through the den of black orcs, he had already wiped out the population. With every kill he notches, the heavier his sack of loot gets. By this time, Juyeon, Inju, and the boys had finally exited through the rift they entered from. With bags packed with valuable materials, they head back to cash out. While they were heading towards the safety of the city, Dojin was solo grinding the rift. Under broad daylight, he slayed a blue croco without batting an eye. Stained with the blood of his victims, Dojin continued to add to his kill count. While the corpse was still relatively fresh, he cut the heart out of the reptile's chest. After the successful harvest, he threw that big heart into a jar. He sealed it tightly to keep the material in its optimal state. Adding even more cuts to the body of his latest victim, he scored 2 more crystals for the loot bag. Spawn camping the den of blue crocos was surprisingly profitable with such a high drop rate. Once they stopped spawning, Dojin packed up to move to another area. Outside the rift and inside the Brazil Hero Association's HQ Situation Room, the tech nerds of the government have been working around the clock to monitor the joint expeditions. For the first time since the operation started, HQ received a positive notification. According to the map readings, the rift zone in Santarem had disappeared. For a minute, the tech nerds could not believe what they were seeing on the screens. When reality set in, cheers of success resounded in the Situation Room. They quickly looked into what happened in the sector and found that only one Korean team was deployed in that location. The group registered under Cleome Guild's name. But how could that group clear a rift when they just contacted HQ to relay their tactical retreat 10 minutes ago? It just doesn't add up. The people in the HQ were puzzled. You see, 10 minutes earlier, our boy was in the midst of an intense all-out brawl against a fugly opponent, the ravenous twin-headed ogre. By eyeballing the mutated beast, Dojin could tell that this monster had undergone rapid evolution due to dark mana enrichment. The beast stomped its foot, and the resulting tremor almost knocked him out of balance. Behind this final hurdle, the rift core floats above the wide-open land. Itching to finish this long night quickly, Seo Dojin changed his regular stance. Following the stomp, the ogre decided to abuse its arm reach advantage. The tip of Dojin's blade started heating up rapidly. At the same time, the ogre's colossal fist blurred into a full-blown punch. No matter how tiny an opening the opponent makes, Seo Dojin will see a way to break through. With his sword warm and ready, he unleashed Vandeiyan sword skill's second form. With fire that can eradicate everything in its path, Grami Grimora Poera, line-sweeping magic, blazed. The twin-headed ogre could not have possibly prepared for what's to come. A perfectly straight slash lined up against the monster's shoulder was meted out before it could respond. It left a deep and long gash across the ogre's body, making it roar in agony. In combat, Seo Dojun can finally let off some steam and smile like a madman, and he's just getting started. Not letting the monster catch a breather, he charged forth with the fiery blade in hand. He was way too fast to defend against. He was practically butchering the two-headed bitch to pieces. In desperation, the ogre raised its fist and tried to deliver a punch packing the heat of its compact muscles. Dojin masterfully got out of the way with verticality while loading up another attack. This time, instead of just a single slash, multiple crisscrossing lines diced the beast. Even the nearby trees weren't spared by his sharp combo. With no regard for his surroundings and no noob heroes nearby, Dojin can finally stretch his muscles. At this point, the ogre knew that he was cooked. He has 2 heads and 2 brains, which makes the fear twofold. Instinctively, it tried to avoid the deadly attack by jumping out of the way. At first, it looked like the beast could gain enough clearance to evade the carnage. In the end, one of its legs still got clipped by the line-sweeping magic. It went through the skin, flesh, and bones, a clean cut. Both of its heads loudly groaned in agony. With the beast out of balance and one leg short, Dojin's next attack was a guaranteed crit. Vandeiyan sword skill's second form is a brutal stance that can cut even the mightiest foes into little bits and pieces. When the twin-headed ogre landed, it looked like it was raining meat. Dojin took a deep breath and stashed his sword away. He then turned his attention to the dungeon's rift core up front. Staring into the eye of the abyss, he carefully took note of the core's properties. He noticed that the dark mana density near it remained consistent with no change at all. That means the core doesn't have anything to do with the anomaly. It's highly likely that the dark mana is being pumped by an external factor. Someone is doing this purposefully. To flood a rift zone with dark mana at such high levels would require serious power. Dojin estimates that someone at the level of an undead lord or imperial lich must be behind this malevolent tampering. But if a being of that level is really responsible for the anomaly, most life on Earth should already be enslaved as undead soldiers. It's hard to identify an immediate suspect at this point. In any case, closing the rift won't be the end of this anomaly if an external factor is behind it. Dojin clenched his fist and punched the ever-living shit out of the rift core. A single strike was all it took to crack that swirling mass of energy. The cracks quickly spread, and the whole thing shattered into little shards. Dojin has taken it upon himself to investigate and track down whoever's messing with these rifts. Back in Brazil's hero headquarters, reports regarding the multiple expeditions have reached the association's president. Reading through the comprehensive rundown of what's been happening around the rifts made him shiver. Every line of text documenting the expeditions was unbelievable. On one side, they dispatched a 3-nation joint team of experienced heroes, yet only one S-rank hero made it back alive. On the other side, a single Korean team managed to close their rift with 0 casualties. The HQ is still receiving breaking updates from other rift zones. Virtually all attempts have failed, and the traumatized heroes are desperately withdrawing. Even though they curated the teams to at least have one S-rank hero in their midst, the first round turned out to be a massive fail. The only silver lining was the successful closure under Hyun Ju-yeon's Korean team. But according to the reports, it's hard to even attribute the success to the Korean team. Mr. President pulled the file and took a closer look at the Santarem report. It stated that the rift closed after they had already exited the portal. It just didn't make sense. It's hard to comprehend how the rift was closed. They need to hear what really happened from Hyun Ju-yeon herself. Thankfully, she's already en route to the headquarters and will arrive any moment now. From the moment Ju-yeon and Inju's team exited the rift to when they reached the HQ, just over an hour had passed. In that short span, Dojin closed the first rift zone without breaking a sweat. Now he has entered the second rift zone nearby. He quickly determined that the core of this one was underwater. Like the gigachad that he is, Dojin took the plunge into the monster-infested waters. On the other side of the country, the president of the Brazilian Hero Association just got caught up with what exactly happened in the Santarem rift. He found it incredulous. Even though the accounts came straight from Ju-yeon's mouth, it's still hard to believe that a single man-speed ran a rift plagued by this so-called dark mana. Ju-yeon wasn't there for the latter part of Dojun's solo mission, but she is 100% sure that he took care of the problem by himself. The president was forced to come to terms with this fact. He shared some classified info with Ju-yeon regarding the catastrophic failure of the other teams. Multiple S-rank heroes have died in other rift zones. Without mincing her words, Ju-yeon admitted that she would have been part of that statistic if not for Dojin. Based on the current information that they have, it's hard to believe her report. But she also relayed valuable intel about the dark mana that supercharged the monsters to possess power surpassing even S-rank heroes. Ju-yeon was calm. She shared what needed to be shared. It's up to the association whether to accept it or not. To make it even harder to believe, they just received reports that several southern rifts around Santarem have been closed. The president reckoned that those ones must have been spared from dark mana's influence. Ju-yeon warned the president not to think that way. She asserted that every rift's danger level is nothing like before. The first sign was a different entrance color than normal. For now, that's the only way to check if a rift is a death trap or not. Mr. President immediately notified his team to verify every rift entrance across Brazil. While he was coordinating with his people, Ju-yeon stood up and left. Her job is done here. On the way out of the office, she swiftly dialed Chairman Na-tae Hwang of Korea's Hero Association. The old man patiently listened to Ju-yeon's detailed report regarding their expedition and the dangers of dark mana. Thankfully, there are no signs of such a dangerous variable yet in Korea. Na-tae Hwang will be paying closer attention to their rifts. If S-rankers can get mowed down like helpless animals when facing juiced-up monsters, this is a real cause for concern. If a boss-class monster comes into contact with such a malevolent force, the results would be far more horrific. They might be in the clear for now, but but Korea needs to prepare for the worst as much as they possibly can. While everyone else was panicking, Seo Dojin was calmly taking a dip in the serene rift waters. Rivers, lakes, and islands, in rift with these environments, the core can usually be found underwater. Naturally, humans can't breathe underwater. Very few heroes can fight at full strength in these disadvantageous conditions. As far as Dojin knows, New Zealand's national hero, Ivan Looper, is the only decent S-rank hero specializing in underwater combat. Because of his niche specialty, he commands a high price to resolve underwater rifts all over the world. Thanks to his unique underwater breathing trait, he could corner the market for troublesome wet rifts. As Dojun inches closer to the depths, he immediately feels the presence of dark mana getting thicker. Taking a single deep breath, he dove into the unknown. Proficiently swimming through the body of water, the creatures near the surface didn't pose much of a threat at all. Upon reaching a certain depth, all light seemingly vanished, possibly due to the presence of dark mana. He also noticed more vicious-looking monsters circling around with curiosity. As he strays further and further from land, he needs to stabilize himself underwater. He used his mana to form a membrane around his whole body, blocking the pressure and allowing him to move freely. The further he dives, the more he needs to adjust the resistance of the mana membrane. By the time he reached the deepest part of the rift, Dojin had perfectly calibrated his protective membrane, allowing him to move unimpeded. Immediately, he was targeted by one of the gnarly monsters lurking in the dark. It looked like a predatory seahorse that got too big. He's already familiar with this tricky beast, an Arakan. As expected, it looks pumped full of unnatural power thanks to dark mana. Dojin clenched his fist and strengthened his protection by spreading it across a bigger area. In doing so, he lit up the dark depths. The sudden burst of energy was enough to catch the Arakan off guard, slaughtering the beast without using his weapon. The blood, guts, and body parts of Arakan turned the water into a filthy crimson hue. The smell of slaughter also attracted a school of bloodthirsty piranha monsters. These opportunistic carnivores greedily munched on the Arakan's disemboweled carcass. While the first wave was busy munching on the Arakan chunks, the next wave fixated on Dojin. Dojin reckoned that if Ivan Looper witnessed what he's seeing right now, that guy might piss his swimsuit. As soon as the second wave of piranhas entered his kill zone, Dojin dispatched them with ruthless efficiency. Unbothered by the water's instability, he keeps perfect control of his body. He hunted down more Arakans. He even punched a shark on its abdomen. With his feet planted firmly on the bottom, he threw a slew of punches at speeds no different from on land. He was killing fish left and right. As his kill count increases, more hungry beasts gather around his position. Dealing with these small fries is admittedly a pain in the ass. For now, Dojin chose to reposition. He picked a direction and bolted away. While he was running away from his fishy foes, he was struck by a sense of unease. He noticed that he had reached an area where no other creature dared to venture. In front of him, lounging on top of a stone bed, was a peculiar one-eyed fish. Dojin immediately recognized that son of a bitch. This eerie-looking fish is an acromos. Dojin didn't expect to run into a familiar beast here today. It got him excited enough to crack a smile. In the previous world, everyone whose name became etched into legends had one thing in common. They all hunted the infamous acromos when they were just nobodies. For the current him, this is a golden opportunity that he can't let slip by. Coincidentally, the core of the accursed rift zone is neatly hidden underneath the acromos' lounging spot. The flattened fish with a gold and purple eye positioned itself for combat. Dojin did the same by planting his feet securely on the waterbed. These creatures have no natural enemy in the wild. Whatever it faces, it simply creates a subspace and swallows any threat whole. A real throat goat. As expected, as soon as he approached close enough, the subspace expanded in an attempt to suck everything in. Dojin struggled with avoiding the worst-case scenario of getting one tapped before he could even get started. After narrowly avoiding the initial expansion, he scoffed and meticulously moved around the narrow gaps between the subspace. His movement was fluid, avoiding the infinite void on the other side of the creeping subspace. The Acremos kept its singular eye on the troublesome human while Dojin went Super Saiyan. In his current position, beating the fish to death would be quick and easy, but if he goes down that barbaric path, he will not obtain its subspace. The only way to hunt this thing properly is through the use of pure mana suppression. This way, he can kill the Acremos and keep the subspace intact for the taking. Using mana quality and brute force, Dojin pushed his output to the limit and overpowered the expanding subspace. The light and destructive power of his pure mana claimed the lives of other monsters lurking nearby. Those poor fish didn't know what hit them. Dojin didn't give a fuck about the small-time collateral damage. He was more concerned about Acremos' pushback. The more he tried to resist and close the distance, the more concentrated and viscous the subspace became. He's already pouring out a staggering amount of pure mana, and his tank is quickly bottoming out. He's got no other choice but to try and absorb the dark mana from the deep. In doing so, he opened his body to receive the malevolent energy while purifying and emitting it in quick succession. Dojin was clearly pushing himself past his body's limits. He felt a streak of blood escape his nose. Coughing up some blood, he might have overestimated his body's capacity. Meanwhile, the Acromos was staring him down with that enigmatic eye. Refusing to let go of the golden opportunity presented before him, Dojin chose to say fuck it and went all in. A few moments later, the serene flow of the rift water was interrupted by a forceful emergence. Seo Dojin managed to pull the Acromos out of its home court through sheer will. Now that they're on land, the tables have turned, and Dojin swiftly grabs hold of the subspace. In his hand is an infinite void that can be used for a wide variety of purposes. As soon as the subspace was snatched away from the fish, it lost the light in its eye and succumbed to death. Its lifeless corpse dropped back down in the water while Dojun unconsciously slumped on land. A few hours later, before the sun set, curious birds gathered around the passed-out Dojin. He awoke with a sneeze, his body purging out the water that got into his system. The birds were naturally scared away. Dojin opened his eyes, still exhausted from the intense underwater fight. Thankfully, his wet bag and sword were not lost. It would be a huge hassle to go back down that dark water to search. Remembering what he had just accomplished, he sat up and tested his new power. Firstly, he conjured pure mana around his arm and felt the quantitative change it had undergone. It's apparent that his mana capacity has increased by a ton compared to before. Fighting that flat fish and risking it all would have been worth it just for this. But the main prize at the end of that suffocating fight was his newly stolen subspace. This is the biggest gain he scored from this Brazilian trip thus far. Now he doesn't have to lug around his bag and sword. He can just store them in the void. Free from the shackles of carrying his loot and weapon, Dojin happily stood up and stretched his limbs. He's already got a massive haul in this rift. It's time to call it a day. With the boss taken care of, he can just close the rift real quick and head back to the lodge. It's a beautiful and productive day to be a subspace thief. Back home in the Korea Hero Association, Chairman Na Tae-wong's associate delivers a rundown of what's happening in Brazil. Multiple hero deaths have been confirmed. They've lost people they could not afford to lose. A few select rift zones had disproportionately higher mortality rates compared to others. Hero Dojin managed to close multiple rifts without as much as a scratch. That guy's just a walking cheat code. Korea can feel the tightening issue regarding the Ryoma Takashi incident. The fallout for their rising star could be even bigger. Not long ago, Hyun Ju-yeon took the center stage in the United Kingdom. Korean heroes have been taking over the global spotlight recently. As for their domestic rifts, there are no apparent signs of anomalies. Whatever they've been doing to monitor their own backyard, the chairman wants it to be more thorough. They can't afford to get complacent these days. Aside from that, the old man worries for Seo Dojin. Brazil's chairman is infamous for being tight-fisted. That man wrings every hero to the last drop. The chairman's associate thinks things will go a different way. He bets that Chairman Lopez ends up being the one being squeezed down to his underwear. Remembering the bizarre events connected to Dojin, all Chairman Na Tae-wong could do was laugh uproariously. As they predicted, Dojin eventually got called into a meeting with Chairman Lopez. He's already stuttering after the young man laid down his terms of agreement. Dojin is being accused of asking for too much. He doesn't give a fuck. If Chairman Lopez won't negotiate, he'll just walk away and take his leave. Knowing that this one man's leaving could result in the end of his nation as he knows it, the chairman begged him to wait. Lopez tried to guilt Dojin into thinking about Brazil's safety and his duty as an S-rank hero. This absolute demon did not like that at all. He's already cleared more rifts than any team combined. He had already fulfilled his obligation and more. The hometown Brazilian heroes haven't even closed theirs yet. Furthermore, he couldn't care less about this country's safety. If Korea's rifts became a problem, would Brazil even help? According to the data, the situation is now at a critical stage. All rift zones within a 500-kilometer radius around Santarém had just gone dark. If this nightmarish anomaly spreads any further, Brazil will be wiped off the map. But what about all the BBLs? Dojun and the team exchanged glances. Hyun Ju-yeon interjected and asserted that the problem at hand makes the answer simpler. All the chairman has to do is yield to the man and give in to Dojun's demands. Compared to an entire country's safety, the demands don't sound too excessive. As reluctant as can be, Chairman Lopez eventually caved and agreed. From now on, each rift zone Dojun closes will net him $50 million. He's got the number he wants. Now it's time to grind the broken rewards. To make sure that the Brazilians were for real, Dojin demanded a first deposit of $100 million for the first 2 rift zones he dealt with. If this goes public, Dojin will be labeled a money-hungry leech. But the proud Brazilian Association will probably cover this whole thing up to protect their pride anyway. Even if the terms get leaked, this man is not the kind of person who would give a single flying fuck. Ji-yeon likes that about him. Remember, Dojin is going out of his way to squeeze money out of a falling country to fulfill a promise he made with the original owner of his new body. That boy just wanted to build the safest home for himself and his family. Now that the promise is as good as complete, he might find peace. The reluctance of the Brazilian government was nothing compared to Dojun's immovable will and game-changing leverage. They asked Dojun to sign a non-disclosure agreement, ensuring his public image wouldn't suffer. Kang Yongpyo, the dumbass Yakuza guy, all his enemies had no idea that Dojun was making bank. Those who died trying to clear the rifts were given a funeral fit for a hero. Their friends and families gathered and mourned. Even Dojun had to dust off the suit and pay his respects. He just hung back with Juyan and solemnly stood emotionless. Back in the hotel home base of the Rift subjugation team, Dojun, Juyan, and the Cleom Guild were having a nice breakfast. Guild leader Zhang Enju tried to drag Dojun with her team for the next Rift mission, and he showed a rare, reluctant face. He was just weighing which option benefits him the most these days. While he's closing one rift on his own, the Cleom Guild could theoretically start on the next one. Afterwards, Dojun will rejoin them in closing the second paycheck together. It's a good thing Inju catches on quickly. So the plan is a series of rift clears one after another. This way, they could efficiently milk the Brazilian government in their time of need. They could probably do 3 rifts a day. For those cleared by the whole team, the guild will get a cut of the riches. That's enough to get these boys fired up for action. Dojun personally warned Juyan not to push too hard until he reconvenes with her and the team. Safety must be the utmost focus. Given that she's the only other S rank in the roster, a lot of burden will fall on her shoulders. While the two were whispering and Juyan was blushing, the Cleom Guild members were making up fan fiction about their 2 hard carries. As soon as breakfast is finished, the grind will start. Fueled by the hotel's culinary selections, Dojun entered a rift of seemingly endless grassland. He looked behind him after sensing a disturbance and found a naked Cyclops trying to bash his head in. This was just the vanguard. There's a whole swarm of lesser Cyclops gunning for him. So he teleported behind that one-eyed freak like it was nothing personal, kid. Aside from the clear rewards, these monsters tend to drop some valuable loot for pocket money. The quiet peace of the monstrous rift was disturbed. Seo Dojun threw hands with the incoming monster. A single punch eviscerated the face of the beast. The Cyclops ardently caught himself before falling, pissed off at the tiny human. It's been a while since Dojun met an especially tough trash mob. Maybe this is the perfect opportunity to try out a new technique. If he's planning on testing something fresh, he'd better do it fast. The Cyclops is coming for his ass. Dojun flexibly moved his body in midair, effortlessly dodging the incoming punches. He dished out a kick that would pulverize the skull of any unlucky creature. While throwing up blood, the Cyclops vanguard was momentarily stunned in place. He's never been more pissed off at anyone before. Dojun left his back open, and the one-eyed bastard saw the opportunity. With veins bulging all over its body, the monster roared. In response, Dojun extended his hand to try something silly. He opened a space rift big enough to swallow the enemy's incoming fist. Afterwards, he opened the exit to the first one's entrance right behind the monster's bald-ass head. This fool punched himself in the back of the head involuntarily. It was a disrespectful finisher. To be clear, Dojun was just messing around and testing new avenues. This one is not very efficient for combat. It was fun, but the mana consumption was just way too high. Not long after his encounter with the Cyclops, the rift in the southern Moro region was shut down. Chairman Lopez and his men were able to breathe a little better with every rift zone neutralized. Lopez could tell that the guy who just scammed him is about to suck the riches of Brazil. Being an honorable man, he made sure to have his associate on payment duty. They negotiated $50 million, and the deposit was $50 million. Bro is making LeBron money in just 8 hours of work. At this rate, it's not impossible to assume that the government is on the hook for possibly billions of dollars in just a few days. The chairman started devising a plan to stop the young man from bankrupting Brazil. Of course, he's not talking about delaying payments. If Seo Dojun gets pissed and stops working, their country will only exist in history books. So, Lopez called for every A-rank and S-rank heroes staying at the lodge. They'll form a special team to compete with the monster that is Dojun. The chairman set the reward at $10 million for the new team. They'll get all the support they need. They just have to close more rifts than Dojun somehow. Now it's a competition between one Korean man versus the International Hero Alliance, who will close the most rifts and bring the most money in their pockets? Kang Yongpyo was among the first ones to receive the request from the chairman. Rumors of S-rank heroes dying have been quietly spreading, putting everyone on edge. For Yongpyo, 10 million seemed meager, split between a team. At least the hunts will be much easier. He couldn't figure out why the association would lump everyone in a single team instead of spreading their troops out. Yongpyo is itching to go. If he ends up on the same team and same rift as Seo Dojun, things might get a little dirty. Dojun's name wasn't on the list of selected participants, though. Hyun Juyan and Jong In-ju were also nowhere to be found. The liar and cheater in Yongpyo could smell that something was amiss. Well, the man he's been trying to silently assassinate is getting richer by the hour. The association has been diligent in transferring payments properly. Dojun and the gang just received word about the rounding up of heroes from different countries for one coalition. At least the association wasn't too stupid this time. Juyeon was surprised that Dojun wasn't bothered by the competition. Well, he already secured the funds necessary to fulfill his promise with the original Seo Dojun. At this point, money doesn't mean much to him anymore. He's already shifted his focus to something much more important. As the Brazilian Association intended, the rivalry between the two teams quickly produced results. By 1500 hour, the Rift Zone AO35 has been closed by Dojin and the Cleome Guild. At 1700 hour, the spider-filled Rift CO12 was demolished by the Hero Alliance team. It wasn't a clean operation. 1 S rank and 5 A ranks were slightly injured. 2 A ranks sustained fatal injuries. Before 2200 hour, the Rift Zone AO53 followed the streak. The dispatch team on the log was listed in a single line, Seo Dojun, all by himself. This boy got himself a weapon and started moving like a different beast. Several days rolled on like this, a constant grind of killing and closing rifts. None of the association employees had taken a break, let alone a day off. Dark circles are hanging on everyone's eyes. Things have been so hectic that a quick nap is all they get before being asked to go back to their desks. Given the situation, they have to be awake and alert. Rift zones contaminated with dark mana are closing up, yet normal rift zones are being left unattended. Those sectors were supposedly monitored by agents using sensors and surveillance equipment. These days, all hands are on deck while on constant emergency standby. Finally, the big red dot everyone's been keeping their eye on vanished from the map readings. The men who had been in the office for a week celebrated like animals. Dojin and the competing team finally pulled it off. The final nail in the coffin was Rift Zone BO41. This last clear means the country is out of the woods now, and the association employees could finally go home. Word about the massive progress within a 500-kilometer radius of Santarém was delivered to Chairman Lopez. For the first time in weeks, he was able to sigh in relief. The worst fire has been extinguished. All contaminated rifts have been closed thanks to everyone's contribution. There are normal rifts left, but giving his people a day off seemed like the humane thing to do. He plans to throw a celebration party to honor all the heroes and agents who've worked so hard to save Brazil. Good meat was thrown on the grill. They marbled over the smoky fire. Heroes and agents put on their evening's best, ate, drank, and mingled. The chairman was kind enough to provide some live music through a faceless band. Juyeon and Inju dragged Dojin into the shindig to pay their respects to the chairman they just finished robbing. The team is planning to return to their home country soon. Before that, Chairman Lopez really wanted to talk with the young man who saved his country first. He tried to get them to stay a little longer to help with the leftover rifts. But from the start, their team was assigned to the Santarém sector. Technically, their job is already done. Panicked, Lopez dropped the pretense and just asked Dojin to stay behind. Inju could see that this sleazy chairman is up to something. When she tried to get a read on her unreadable comrade, Lopez dragged Dojin away to talk somewhere else, without the ladies. The dude already made plenty of money. He's got loads of valuable materials like blue croco hearts. There's no reason for him to stay. Juyeon says it like that, but Inju could tell that her friend just doesn't want to miss her man. From afar, Lopez looked like he was trying to sell Dojin a proposal. It only took a few moments for him to walk away like it was a bad Shark Tank pitch. Right after ditching Lopez, Dojin bumped into that white fox from the United States, Gloria Tyler. Inju pushed Juyeon to run interference and fast. She can't let her man have a private moment with that woman. Inju warned her innocent friend that no man can resist a woman like Gloria. She's a certified fat-ass white girl after all. If Juyeon doesn't want to lose the boy, she's got to move. The thing that really bothered her was how Gloria referred to Dojin by the name Carcel. Gloria presented him with an opportunity, and Dojin seriously considered it for a moment. Juyeon wanted to get closer to hear more of their conversation. Her mind was going crazy with possibilities. Did the White Witch ask him to move in together or something? Finally, Gloria bade him farewell, optimistic that he would give her an answer soon. While the American hero walked away, Juyeon noted how gorgeous she was. Despite being in the presence of otherworldly beauty, Dojin was unbothered. Juyeon wonders if this guy is into women at all. Maybe he's a pure Sigma, just addicted to the grind. Before Gloria got too far, Dojin came after her to ask for a favor. He wanted to take a look around this year's gold market auction in Las Vegas. For that, he'll need an invitation. Something like this was no problem for Gloria, but she does have one condition. All Dojin has to do is come to her house a week before the gold market opens. Maybe she could show him a thing or two beforehand. Hearing that bold invitation, Juyeon knew that she was outmatched. She could imagine how Gloria Tyler would look naked, and even she was flustered. No matter, it's up to Seo Dojin to accept or refuse. Gloria noticed the young woman looking at Dojin like a helpless puppy on the sidelines. She excused herself and gave Dojin some time to answer. Since she's hoping for a yes, she decided to give the gold market ticket in advance. Without a fuss, she sent him something better than a one-time invitation, a VIP membership. Juyeon watched as two beautiful specimens stood still in time in front of her. It was a nice picture. Before she could wallow in self-pity, Kang Yongpyo interrupted with an inappropriate comment. He saw the top beauties of Korea and the United States crowding around his op. He had to pull up. Yongpyo joked that only a real talent could secure the prettiest flowers in each hand. The banter was unpleasant, but the atmosphere was electric. Shit could go down any moment. Kang Yongpyo is a known troublemaker maliciously linked to Dojin. Instead of throwing hands, Youngpyo simply laughed like a drunken fool, attracting everyone's attention. He assured the people that there's no need to be so on edge. He didn't come here to fuck around or anything. Youngpyo just really wanted to introduce a friend of his. But there might not be any need to do that, since this friend is already acquainted with Dojin, the broken-armed Yakuza, Ryoma Takashi. The whole party collectively held their breaths. Ryoma Takashi looked like he was about to blow the place up. Juyeon was surprised that the hospital let the guy go so soon. Chairman Lopez deliberately abstained from inviting Takashi to prevent this from happening. Of all the times they could, the two had to run into each other at a party. Dojin didn't budge a millimeter. The dude was nonchalant. He broke the silence by commenting on the injury he gave the guy. Takashi surprisingly remained cordial, and even thanked Dojin for the valuable experience. The Brazilian chairman tried to politely mediate and diffuse the tense situation while trying to justify why he didn't invite the Japanese hero. He almost succeeded in diffusing trouble by dragging the injured tough guy to a more comfortable part of the lodge. Youngpyo clicked his tongue in frustration. That old geezer is getting in the way of his childish plans. So he caught up to them and ran his tongue. The delinquent S-rank knew where to poke the Yakuza. He urged Takashi to just rest up since the wounds he got from Dojin must still be throbbing in pain. Youngpyo insisted that an apology was surely in order. Whatever the circumstances, Takashi was hurt. A little sorry doesn't sound too imposing. Takashi recalled the feeling of being treated like a worthless punching bag and clenched his fist. Chairman Leo and the ladies prepared themselves for action. Dojin smirked and asked his Japanese acquaintance to repeat a simple phrase, "Yakuza are shit." Every hero and agent in the party was struck silent. What the hell was Seo Dojin trying to do? The Yakuza are known for their pride and ferocity. Takashi turned his head around and looked at Dojin with his empty eyes. At the top of his lungs, he agreed that the Yakuza are indeed shit. Kang Youngpyo knew this guy. He never could have expected this twist in 100 years. Dojin continued that the Yakuza are trash who contribute nothing to society. Absolute, total trash. Unlike everyone else, Juyeon had seen this trick before. Hearing the poor guy talking wild trash against his own people, Youngpyo implored Takashi to stop spouting nonsense. When he saw those eyes, all the hairs on his body stood up in fright. There was something deeply wrong with them. In Takashi's hand was a phone with a curious audio recording playing on cue. With his one working appendage, he played the recording. Immediately, everyone recognized Kang Youngpyo's voice in a call recording. The delinquent never bothered to hide his tracks. He called to inform Takashi that there was someone in Brazil who needed a good killing. Takashi even played dumb enough to make Youngpyo dump Seo Dojin's name in a recording. The plan was simple. Handle the boy inside a rift and reap the rewards. Other than killing their target, Youngpyo also shared his plans to hook up with some top-notch chicks. He'd love to use this chance to reel in Gloria Tyler at least once in his life. Hyun Juyeon would be a nice prize too. He likes the never-been-touched vibes. Kang Youngpyo's criminal plans and dirty thoughts were aired out in front of his peers on a loudspeaker. Dojin didn't think the lynx's eye would be this effective in shit-stirring, but it is. With Takashi completely under his spell, Youngpyo certainly picked the wrong opponent. From now on, he intends to make the delinquent slowly suffer until death becomes the only humane way out. All eyes are on Kang Youngpyo. How he responds will be on the front pages tomorrow, regardless. Socially cornered, he smiled like a psycho. Completely shedding his cordial front, he blamed the dumbass Yakuza bastard for ruining his brilliant plan. He walked up to his partner in crime with aggression. Things are already fucked enough as it is. If Takashi keeps running his mouth, things will get even worse. To prevent that from happening, Youngpyo took action. His hand tightened and sharpened before stabbing directly into Takashi's chest. He felt Youngpyo took hold of his heart, squeezing it hard. The delinquent pulled out, and the Yakuza fell down with a bloody hole in his chest. Things happened so fast that no one was able to go after Youngpyo as he fled the scene of blatant murder. Chairman Lopez stammered out the catch order to his men, but it's simply impossible. He might be human filth, but Kang Youngpyo is an S-ranker. While the agents continuously failed to close the gap by a long margin, Juyeon was gearing up to join the action. She wanted to run alongside Dojin only to find the guy standing still like a statue. He was just watching the chase sequence like it had nothing to do with him when he could have stopped all this. When Juyeon asked why he didn't move, he didn't grace her with an answer. The events of the shocking banquet spread across the world in an instant. Given the people involved, the impact on Korea and Japan as nations was beyond imagination. Both governments and their hero associations decided to keep their heads down, wary of public opinion. The media dug up and ran stories of Kang Youngpyo and Takashi's past deeds. Chairman Na Tai-wong had no other choice but to commit to damage control just because of some idiotic fuckers. He wasn't the only one having a hard time with this news cycle. The rich bitch, Hong Hee-ju, could feel the walls closing in on her. She took her anger out on the absurdly expensive pottery around her office. Hee-ju swung that gold club like she was in a rage room. Her poor bald manager just watched from the side, careful not to get in his boss's crosshairs. Manager Lee thought he could let the shitty mood pass without getting dragged in, but he was wrong. When Lee entered, All he saw was a spoiled brat and a few million in damages. As far as they know, the Interpol and the World Hero Alliance are working together to capture the notorious Kang Yongpyo. In the best-case scenario for Hong Hee-ju, the criminal gets himself killed trying to resist the authorities. She's already assigned Manager Lee to clean up all the loose ends on their part. The accounts leading to the money have been wiped. The contact network they used to get in touch with Yongpyo was scrubbed, and even the CCTV recordings were cleaned up quietly. When asked if something was still bothering her, Hee-ju tossed her phone to Manager Lee. It was her personal phone. The only people who know this number are family. But the most recent text doesn't read like one that came from a blood relative at all. There was no caller ID. It was a text urging Hong Hee-ju to cooperate or risk an evidence leak. The message was signed by K. It's highly likely that this was Kang Yongpyo's desperate attempt to get out of the worldwide shit list. The fact that Hee-ju was tied to that bastard at all is already a ruinous disaster. Poor Manager Lee had to tank a vase hit on the way out of that miserable office. If his bald-ass head gets dragged into this any deeper, he might get screwed too. Perhaps it's time to cash out of this place and find a way to survive somehow. When Manager Lee opened the door, he was greeted by the imposing figure of an old man. The look in his eyes was the look of a killer. This man is Seo Kyung-chol, T-Group's chairman and Hong Hee-ju's father-in-law. Manager Lee recoiled back at the sheer aura of the man in front of him. He kept himself together, apologized for the intrusion, and got out of the way. Hong Hee-ju's tantrums quickly ceased with the patriarch of the family present. Kyung-chol gave the foolish girl a brutal slap in the face, the kind that you'd see in a power slap. Down on her knees, she trembled in fear of losing everything. Kyung-chol doesn't appreciate being seen as some old man rotting in the company's back room. Hee-ju tried to play dumb, but it only earned him another slap to the other cheek. There was no way the patriarch wouldn't know about the failed plot to kill Dojin that involved Kang Yongpyo. He just found out that his own bloodline had produced an S-rank hero. He wants the kid to come back home by any means necessary. Kyung-chol simply couldn't stand P-Group's grandstanding just because of one Jang Sung-ho. First, they're going to finalize a decision on how to clean up the mess Hee-ju made. While everything around Kang Yongpyo continued to spiral into chaos, Dojin and the group are currently on the way home to Korea. Overall, the expedition paid exceptionally well. He gathered enough materials for the sword and a boatload of cash to boot. Hyun Ju-yeon couldn't contain her curiosity anymore. She bugged Dojin on the plane with a question. She asked why Dojin let a direct threat like Kang Yongpyo go free on purpose. Well, this way, the escape could lead to the next step in his master plan. After a long flight, the Korean team finally touched down in Seoul. Today, Dojin took out his adorable little sister, Yoon-young, for some Burger Kim, Burger King's Korean cousin. She swung her little feet under the table while singing the burger praises. Times like these are not so bad at all. Dojin gets to relax for real. Still, he couldn't shake the disturbing sight that greeted him right after returning home and reuniting with his family. His grandmother's health had noticeably deteriorated. She was practically bedridden. She asked little Yoon-young why he was never notified and why they didn't go straight to the hospital. On the brink of tears, she explained that Grandma held on to Dojin's advice not to spend their money carelessly. It was money earned by risking his life after all. Hearing this, Dojin felt a pang of guilt. Still, going to the hospital because of sickness doesn't qualify as reckless spending. He whispered to his grandma's ear about Brazil and the tons of cash he made from it. From now on, they can do what they have to and what they want to. No need to hold back anymore. Dojin immediately admitted his grandma to the best hospital in Korea, affording her the best care money can buy. He's been visiting her every day with little Eun-young, and they've been grabbing burgers afterward. This has become his new routine. Say what you want about Burger Kim, that juicy Korean meat is tasty. After getting his affairs settled, Seo Dojin swung by the Gasan Hero residential complex for one reason. He went straight to the forge he commissioned to make his sword. The owner and blacksmith of the establishment had never seen a blue croco heart in such perfect condition before, yet Dojin just handed it to him like nothing. Mr. Blacksmith is confident that he could forge an even better blade with this secret ingredient. The process will take about 3 weeks if he gets started immediately. Since the sword is taken care of, Dojin wanted to commission another thing from the willing old man. He slowly took out a Velcara silk and a venom sac pouch, 2 very rare materials. The old man reckoned that the kid wanted armor in his size. Imagine his surprise when Dojin explained that he wanted armor for his little sister to wear. Any equipment made from Velcara parts has absurdly high defense. Plenty of heroes would be lining up to buy the material from him. The blacksmith assumed that Dojin's sister must be a hero too. Nope, she's just a normal little girl. For such an adorable little one, it would be best if the armor were made to resemble normal clothing, not a combat suit. The problem is that kids can grow unbelievably fast. Even if they make the armor now, she might not fit it in a year or two. Dojin already has that problem covered. He has a canister of green juice waiting to be opened. It's Tailapu extract. Mixing the juice with fabric materials increases their elasticity about tenfold. But Tailapu is widely known as a common plant-type monster. No one had ever thought of using its extract for anything. With that, Dojin took his leave, trusting that the blacksmith would meet his expectations. That young man is just a well of knowledge. He even surpasses the masters of the craft in the modern world. When asked how that's possible, Dojin truthfully answered that this is his second life. In the hustle and bustle of the city, a man walks among the crowd. He had slick white hair. He wore a tailored suit and smart-looking glasses. This guy is locked the fuck in. After trudging through the city, he made a turn into a seedy alley and passed a signboard to Paradise Cafe. He was welcomed by the barista while lost in thought. He liked the place. It exuded good taste. Upon scanning the room, he easily found the person who contacted him for a meeting. He was still skeptical about this meeting. The client insisted on meeting in such a secretive manner. Finally, the man introduced himself as Park Sung-wook, a former S-Group Chief of Staff Executive Secretariat, currently a freelancer. The client was none other than Seo Dojin. The young man has been all over the news lately. Sung-wook was curious about what he was being hired for. Well, Dojin got Sung-wook's name and contact details from Hyun Ju-yeon. She vouched for Sung-wook as the guy who helps when the ultra-rich or heroes need to do something low-key. As long as it doesn't cross the line into something legally dubious, he's the best guy for anything. Dojin's task is simple. He's looking to build a house. Since he's asking a shady fixer instead of a construction company to do the job, it's fair to assume that he's looking for something out of the ordinary. Dojin wants to build the safest house in the world. When the coffee arrived, the two discussed the finer details. Dojin would prefer the location to be in Seoul. As for the budget, he has set aside around 500 billion won for the project. Hearing such an absurd figure melted Park Sung-wook's professional mask. He spat his coffee all over the client. Even Dojin was weirded out. Sung-wook hurriedly grabbed some napkins and cleaned the coffee spit out of the S-ranker's face. The issue wasn't the budget. With how much cash is going into this, they're not building a house, but a castle. Dojin liked the sound of that. Maybe they'll go with the castle idea. In that case, he could stretch the budget up to 1 trillion won if necessary. Sung-wook thought he was going to get a normal contract today. Since Dojin is adamant about getting what he wants, Sung-wook asked if he knew which home was considered the safest in the country at the moment. As far as Dojin knows, it's Chairman Oh Young-gun's residence in Gangnam. The home is only valued at 110 billion won in the market. But if you only count land purchase and construction costs, the bare cost is probably just around 80 billion. Budget-wise, Dojin can build something far greater than that. However, the Gangnam district is unrealistic. Even if you have the money, no one is selling land. Not a single Rift event had ever occurred in Gangnam, making the prices of property rise every single day. In essence, they could build the best house money can buy, but securing the safest area won't be easy. Dojin casually dropped that Gangnam is not the safest place in the country. The false safety that those people are deluded with is just wishful thinking. Gangnam being safe from Rift events is an illusion created and propagated by the media. The lack of incidents is just a pure coincidence. He had seen this play out in the ruined world before. The delusions people cling to were only a matter of order. Inevitably, rifts will appear in every region of the planet. So, Dojin suggested that they buy land in the Guro district. Guro had a rift incident a few years ago. Even in Map, a district not that far away, there was a rift event recently. Dojin would know. He was there. Sung-wook curiously asked if there was some special reason to pick Guro as their site. Dojin's reasoning wasn't some 5D chess move. He chose Guro because it was close to their first house. After the meeting with Sung-wook, Dojin strapped up and got back to work. Today's target practice is gosh dang dinosaurs. The first prey sensed him coming too late. Poor Lizard was cut by a brand new sword. Dojin was extremely pleased with the old man's work. It turned out to be even better than he expected. He saw how hard the old blacksmith worked to complete this work of art. The old man even proclaimed it his masterpiece. When it came to payment, the old man refused to take a single cent for his work since the material was entirely provided by Dojin. It was too late. The young man had already scanned the QR code and sent the cash. The blacksmith stood his ground. His satisfaction can't be converted into a few bucks, unless those few bucks added up to 1 billion won for a single sword order. Dojin doesn't like being in debt. He's also generous to people who do him good. For 1 billion won and some material hunting, he was able to upgrade his combat capabilities by a ton. The poor dinosaurs of this rift were experiencing a second extinction event. With the way he was dicing them up, these lizards would probably prefer being wiped out by another asteroid. Having committed to building the house with Park Sung-wook, Dojin committed himself to crack hunting for the next several weeks. He just wanted a 10,000 pyong 33 square kilometers of land in the Guro district. It will cost at least 400 to 500 billion won to acquire everything. Sung-wook suggested reducing the purchasing area to be mindful of the budget. Why do that? Dojin can just raise the money by spilling blood. Another day, another rift was shattered out of existence. By evening, Dojin is back home to play and walk around with Yoon-young. Grandma's getting discharged in a few days. Things are looking up. Dojin has been so busy lately. His little sister just wanted Big Bro home. Knowing how hard he works, Yoon-young told him that he no longer needs to visit every day. She'll do it herself. Dojin felt an ache in his heart, stopping him in his tracks. At that moment, they were interrupted by a random luxury car driver waiting for Dojin in the streets. He claimed to have been sent by Chairman Seo Kyung-chol, Dojin's shitty grandfather. The driver was equally polite and pushy to get him in the car. Dojun put Yoon down to the safety of the curb for a moment. He also asked her to close her eyes for a moment while he walked toward the driver. Seo Dojun leaped into the air and landed a meteor kick on the luxury car's roof, wrecking the whole vehicle. Just to make sure that it wouldn't run again, he gave the sides a quick kick. Mr. Driver thought he could just waltz in here and pick up the passenger. He was sorely mistaken. Dojun warned the guy to fuck off and never come back. Something about his eyes says he's being 100% for real. The lanky driver ran off shakily, and Dojun didn't avert his eyes for a second. When that was taken care of, he told Yoon that Big Bro was just teaching someone a lesson for trying to interrupt their time together. Hell, Yoon wanted to get her turn teaching lessons to bad guys too. Lifting her back up his shoulders, Dojun assured the little lady that there's no need to worry. Anyone who even thinks of messing with his family will go to an early grave. Word about Dojun's land purchases in Guro had reached the ears of other people. Juyeon was the first to know since she knew Sungwook. Inju found out from her and took it as a massive opportunity for her best friend. Inju insisted that Juyeon's next mission should be moving in next door to become Dojun's warm and caring neighbor. She's been saving all her hero money and has nothing to use it for. This is the moment when she should open up that wallet. Dinner with the girls was very passionate and rowdy tonight. If she doesn't make a move, that seductress Gloria Tyler might get the last laugh. She might worm her blonde ass into his life, becoming closer to Dojun. That would be the worst-case scenario for Juyeon, and there's a real possibility of it happening. And that man is not just moving, he is building a new place. That means he's not just staying in Guro for a year or two. Kidding aside, Juyeon can't deny Dojun's magnetism. Inju could see and feel that too. Hell, now she's thinking of moving closer to Guro too. Inju likes seeing her best friend squirm, so she suggested that absurd idea to get a rise out of Juyeon. Well, she was partially serious about it, but not for dramatic reasons. Inju is eyeing Guro for a different end goal. After Brazil, she became sure that no matter where they go, Cleom Guild needs to be on the right side of history. It would be a lot easier to do that if they hitched their wagon to a sports car flying down the highway. You can't deny that Seo Dojun is moving like a sports car these days. Everyone who's seen him in action would understand that he's on a different level compared to other S ranks. There are levels to this shit. So, Inju is thinking of putting up a mixed-use building and running the guild office out of it. If she's going, then Juyeon has all the more reason to pull the trigger on a crazy stalker plan. They already toasted the idea. There's no going back. A few days later, Dojun paid an overdue visit to the Hero Association to talk with the chairman. In the past 2 weeks alone, the young man had cleared 9 rifts consecutively. The payout isn't small, so Na Taewang thought a face-to-face meeting and payment were necessary. He also wanted to hear the reason for the rift hunting spree straight from the culprit. The old man is worried that the kid is rushing in fear that Korea might become a hot zone like Brazil. Dojun was just focused on watching the cash hit his account. For some light work, he was paid 45.2 billion won. With this cash injection, he's fine for now. He should be able to slow down the clears. Still, the chairman wanted a straight answer to quell his anxieties. Dojun asserted that he's just doing what's in front of him. These days, he needs a lot of money, so he works for a lot of money. He shared his plan to build a house, and Na Taewang was dumbfounded. Since Dojun's here anyway, he also brought up something he'd like to ask the old man regarding the construction. After his visit with the chairman, land transactions around the plots Dojun purchased began happening at a rapid pace. The first movers were Hyun Juyeon and Jong In-ju. Then, Na Taewang and the members of Cleom Guild arrived at the same time. As if catching a whiff of something big brewing, a few of the wiser heroes and real estate speculators joined in. Eventually, news of this development reached Dojun's grandfather. As T-Group's chairman, Seo Kyonchil felt proud of his blood for investing in real estate like a real capitalist. He ordered his men to find where the kid was buying and to snap up as much of the surrounding land as possible. Rumors bred more rumors. The rumors drew in those with money to spare, the buyers. And before long, land prices in Guro district skyrocketed to the moon. Before the inflation of land value, Dojun had already secured his 10,000 pyong, or around 3 hectares of land. Now comes the crazy part. Dojun already has a design in mind. It involves a gigantic dome covering the whole area. Sungwook continues to be baffled by his new client's decisions. The plan shows a tiny house that's only about 150 pyong in the middle of a 10,000 pyong site. He's got hectares of remaining empty space to fill. Dojun doesn't see the problem in his design. He just needs a safe house built. It's basically just a rounded outer wall, a really tanky and chunky castle wall in every sense of the word. Since there is no need for elaborate interior construction, the timeline should be pretty quick. As for the property's designated use, they have to figure out how to get this approved by the district office. Thankfully, Dojun has Chairman Na Taewang handling all the troublesome bureaucracy. Having someone that powerful working for you certainly speeds things up. Sungwook would have never dared to imagine a property designation that would require the Hero Association's chairman to step in. Just because construction is ongoing doesn't mean hunting work must stop. Flushed with cash, he's just killing shit for the love of the game. Up in the association HQ, Na Taewang is still working on the Rising Star's bold request. A lot of people have seen Dojin slaughter monsters in droves, but his request to the chairman involves something crazier. He intends to tame monsters. The old man was shocked when he first heard such an absurd idea too. They're barely keeping up with subjugations. Taming had never been a possibility. Most people had long since dismissed the possibility of monster training. A successful attempt would be completely unprecedented. But coming from Seo Dojin, the concept doesn't sound too unrealistic at all. Speaking of the devil, he's already working on fulfilling his ridiculous claim. The chairman had to issue the young man permission to raise monsters on his own land. Somehow, that's not even the most shocking thing in this line of thinking. The monster Dojin plans to tame is none other than the S-rank hero nightmare, the Carcerian. Equipped with his new blade, Dojin felt excited to get a good workout but promised to take it easy today. As soon as the beast sensed the intruder barging into its nest, the Carcerian whipped its tail around to decimate the tiny human. When melee attacks didn't work, it opened its maw and unleashed some kind of nuclear blast. It roared and flew up, its centipede-like body supported by massive wings. 1 hour later, the sounds of combat had subsided in the volcanic mountains. The beast, trying its best to kill him just 60 minutes ago, is now behaving like a spoiled puppy. Carcerian looked exhausted and beaten, yet completely submissive. Dojin patted its snout and promised to come back in a bit if the little monster behaves. He entered this lair ready for combat, and he exited while humming a tune. The beast, notorious for being one of the toughest to hunt, is now down on its belly, purring like a cat. In the middle of the night, Hyun Juyeon was woken up by a phone call from Seo Dojun. Still half asleep and with drool on her face, she picked up. He could tell that he woke her up, but he really needed to ask her something. Dojin wanted to know if they distribute magic stone powder at Stonemen by any chance. It was a strange question. Energy is lost when they get crushed into powder form. No one in their right mind would turn precious magic stones into fine dust. Well, Seo Dojun is not in his right mind, and he needs some powder for something. Slapped out of her peaceful sleep, Juyeon felt like she had to know what Dojun was trying to do with the magic stone powder. He refused to answer and hung up. He'll just continue with his plan A and get the stones himself. Juyeon really started her day in such a foreboding manner with Dojun's inquiry. After dropping the call, he immediately stepped into the rift in front of him. Sungwook is currently overseeing the construction efforts. They established that the most basic thing to make a house safe is the outer wall. After that, they just need a sentinel to protect the house from inside that outer wall. The sentinel Dojin had in mind should be readily transported at the tail end of construction. Another component he's trying to get is a device made to suppress external shocks, such as earthquakes. In that vein, he had to visit a familiar enemy in the rift, the Cyclops. To make the shock suppressor, he needs the magic stone inside their one-eyed heads. Not wasting any time, Dojin switched into combat mode and got to work. One can never underestimate the agility of a giant Cyclops. Be off for just a few inches in your dodges, and you're toast. If you're too slow in your responses, that beast would beat your nuts into paste with their club. Thankfully, Seo Dojin doesn't have any of those problems. At this point, dealing with mobs at this level doesn't pose a lick of danger to him. So, he decided just to do this thing the most efficient way possible and opened his spatial storage. He grabbed onto the handle and drew his sword out. Armed with some crisp metal, Dojin's aura turned sharper and faster. It's time to showcase the swordsmanship of the Vandeiyan family. He readied his body and entered the third form, Spiral Vrex Catus. From up above, borrowing from the brightness of the sun, he rained down destruction upon the unfortunate Cyclops. Scorchingly sharp sword winds cluttered the area, homing in on the target. The hidden spiral destruction within the splendor. Each swirl was like a high-caliber bullet, riddling the monster's body with repulsive holes. Dojin gently landed at a safe distance, carefully observing the aftermath of his attack. This man is all about aura farming and hype moments. That's his overpowered quirk. After dismembering a monster corpse, Dojin retrieved a decent-sized magic stone ripe for crushing. He closed his hand, and the durable mineral turned to countless shards. Without any elaborate machine assistance, Dojin turned that precious resource into a low-value powder with his bare hands. Come to think of it, rifts are a kind of external shock, too. Maybe a suppressor would also help suppress rift activity. That would be a nice addition to his safe house project for sure. While Dojin was busy going between hunting rifts and visiting his sick grandma, some major news broke out to the public. The whole world found out that the newest and hottest S-ranker of the country is the grandson of the T-Group chairman. Of course, the media campaign was a deliberate ploy. It's gotten so widespread that Dojin had to whip up a sudden press conference. Now that the rumor has spread, the old man thinks he's already won the war. No matter what the kid says, people will only see Seo Dojin as the wily old man's grandson. Dojin got cleaned up and suited up for this press conference. Under the flashing lights of cameras, he faced the entire nation on a live broadcast. The populace immediately theorized that the T-Group must have poured tons of money into the young man to prop him up in the public eye as an S-rank. Hell, even the press con itself stinks of special treatment at the diamond spoon level. But everyone had the same question jumping into their minds. Why hold a press conference after years of being essentially invisible? Based on pure speculation, the majority of the populace has soured on the idea of someone like Seo Dojin. To remedy that growing headache, Dojin spilled his guts out on camera. He started off by introducing himself as an illegitimate child, abandoned at a young age. Everyone watching was completely caught off guard by the opening curveball. Afterwards, Dojin slowly talked about his life. No, the life that the original Seo Dojin has lived. In a brief, clear, and meaningful manner, the whole world listened and internalized his experiences. Even those who were skeptical of Dojin's words gradually developed some sympathy for the guy. Accounts from his school friends corroborated all his claims. Interviews with past employers where he worked a ton of part-time jobs were being broadcast on the air. Overnight, the perception about the mysterious S-ranker turned overwhelmingly positive. As a result, T Group's stock price, which had been steadily rising until the press conference, tanked and plummeted by 30% in no time. He gave his scumbag grandpa the only wound that would hurt, the financial kind. The old Seo Dojin, meek and weak, had one simple wish: for his grandma and little sister to live safely for the rest of their lives. Soon, that promise will be fulfilled. The current Dojin is working hard to make it happen. Through his own efforts, he's about to secure the greatest safety of all. He already dealt with loan sharks long ago. T Group quieted down after the press conference tanked their stocks. Kang Youngpyo is still out there, but that dumbass will eventually fall into his trap. The only thing left to be wary of was the rifts that could appear at any time without warning. But once the house is completed, it'll be able to withstand any rift-related incidents. As instructed, the engineers prioritize the outer wall first. The residence itself will be finished soon after. Dojin would like to expedite the construction to move in as soon as possible. The project manager argued that constructing the home of the world's greatest hero will take a bit more time because they cannot afford to overlook even a single screw. Dojin offered to double the construction fee, and the manager's tone quickly changed, promising the compound would be completed within 10 days. Tonight, Dojin gave all the workers a break. No one is allowed to see what he's about to do. Under the bright moonlit sky, he brought out every mana stone he painstakingly gathered. He had to hunt all sorts of monsters to secure the necessary materials for this ancient ritual. Dojin planted each high-grade mana stone deep into the foundation of the compound. Once in their rightful place, they formed an intricate magic encompassing the massive plot of land. The setup came together perfectly. Just to be safe, Dojin added pure powdered mana stones to suppress any unforeseen variables as well. Once the bizarre ritual was completed and the stronghold was ready, he ran off into the night to fetch the guardian. Meanwhile, the rich bitch Hong Heju secretly met with Kang Youngpyo to demand the death of Seo Dojin once and for all. She paid exorbitant sums for his fake IDs, hotel fees, and background checks. Hong Heju was running out of patience. She wants Dojin's head served in a platter as soon as possible. Kang Youngpyo heard that the bitch was recently cast out by her family, so she's taking her frustrations out on him. He asserted that he's put all his businesses and paid hits all so he could focus on taking Seo Dojin down. Heju thought calling him a scaredy cat would spur Youngpyo into action, but she was sorely mistaken. He wanted to turn her into a fine mist of blood and guts right then and there. Usually the easiest way to deal with a fellow S-ranker was to grab some old geezer or brat as hostage for leverage. But Dojin never leaves his family's side these days. Youngpyo is barely holding himself together. Given the chance, he's ready to wipe out Dojin's entire bloodline if he has to. Yet this witch had the balls to call him a coward. S-rank Kang Youngpyo insisted that he's not scared of some little punk. He grabbed Hong Heju by the throat just because his ego got bruised. Youngpyo vowed that the moment Dojin slips, those he holds will become lambs to the slaughter. He threatened to include Hong Heju in the death toll if she didn't shut up and get out of his way. This is not even a job for him anymore. This is a vendetta. While his ops were crumbling, Seo Dojin was busy hunting. He visited a rift where only Death Knights spawn. There is no boss monster in this castle, only Death Knights. As soon as he entered, 3 Death Knights welcomed him with blades in hand. 3 should be manageable. Death Knights are far from easy to take down for several reasons. For starters, they have no true physical form and feel no pain. The only way to beat them is by precisely severing the core of their soul. They also retain the swordsmanship they learned and trained back when they were human. Each Death Knight sports their own distinct style, unleashing unique, dazzling flurries one after another. Against specters who were once respected knights, it would be discourteous to face them barehanded. With a sword in hand, Seo Dojin jumped straight into a 3 versus 1 action. For his opening attack, he decapitated the empty helmet of the nearest Death Knight. The next 2 aggressively charged at him in tandem. It's been a while since he had a proper sword fight. As far as he can remember, he's held a blade since he first learned how to walk. He was destined to be a sword god from birth. The Death Knights did their best to keep the pressure up, but their blades were far too dull. To handicap himself, Dojin elected not to use any martial techniques, just pure swings and fundamentals. With a handicap in place, the hunt should be far more enjoyable and challenging. It also makes every exchange infinitely more exhilarating. The last Death Knight out of the 3 that welcomed him couldn't even get an attack in. Dojin was a bit disappointed. He thought at least one would stand out even among the so-called normals. Thankfully, his wish for a challenging match was answered by a new arrival. The rift must have recognized his level and sent out an elite to give him a run for his money. Judging from her breastplate, this one must have been one hell of a lady knight back in the day. From the first exchange, Dojin could tell that this one was a cut above the last 3 he massacred. The edge of its blade was razor sharp. Keeping up without techniques was a challenge. This was what he was searching for, a chance to let off some steam through earnest combat. He parried a perfect swing, complementing the Death Knight's fine strike. Exploiting the opening made by the parry, he made the busty Death Knight drop down to her knees in defeat. With his blade, Dojin properly christened her to stand as his sentinel. Dojin had inducted 5 elite Death Knights over the course of 2 days. It was a rewarding number for the effort exerted. He could have gathered the same number sooner, but he had too much fun with his handicap. Conveniently enough, the Death Knights are bound to Shadow, making transport a breeze. The recruitment of guards is complete. A security team that doesn't need to eat or sleep and does its job at 100% uptime was locked in. Next on his shopping list is a guard dog. For that, he returned to a familiar rift, the Carcerian's nest. The ancient draconic beast did not welcome him with open arms at all. This particular Carcerian immediately recognized Seo Dojin as the human who wreaked havoc last time he came to the rift. Dojin asserted that he didn't come to play today, so the scaly bastard should just follow along like a good boy. The Carcerian's pride didn't allow for a peaceful surrender, calling Dojin nothing but a bug. But when faced with the threat of bloody murder, even the Carcerian's pride surrendered. The beast looked into his eyes and knew that this human was built different. Those weren't empty threats. For the sake of survival, the Carcerian followed his orders and let the human ride on its back. Dojin instructed the big baby to go outside the gate, and the monster tried to protest against leaving its home. He gave that overgrown chicken a death glare and muttered a single word, "Go." Scared of a painful death, the beast relented and flew out of its territory for the first time in its life. Dojin and his new pet flew over a nearby city, causing a commotion and striking fear in the hearts of civilians. Imagine walking around the city and seeing an ancient beast fly overhead. That beast was being commanded to be careful not to crash into buildings while flying to avoid 9/11 Part 2. This time, a dragon did it. The Carcerian scoffed, and Dojun swiftly tightened his grip and made it lower its gaze, quelling its rebellious nature. The monster finally snapped at the worst possible place. It threw a temper tantrum above a populated city. Its roars nearly ruptured the eardrums of every civilian in the area. Seeing normal humans writhing in agony, it regained its confidence and cockiness, declaring itself a superior existence. Dojin had to discipline the big chicken by giving it a bone-breaking whack. From that point forward, the Carcerian moved quietly and obeyed his every word. Their first stop was Guam, a United States territory in the Mariana Islands of the Pacific. The Carcerian landed on the barren ground of the abandoned state, and Dojin dismounted. Rift zones can form anywhere in the world. One rift tragedy struck the remote island, leading to mass evacuation and total monster takeover. Right now, Guam has become an isolated monster lair. Seo Dojun brought the Carcerian to this chaotic place for one simple thing. In here, the ancient draconic beast could go crazy to its heart's content. And so, the big chicken unleashed its fury and frustrations on the monsters that ravaged the territory. Against some run-of-the-mill rift beasts, Carcerian looked like an invincible raid boss. Dojun just watched from the sidelines and harvested mana stones from every kill. As long as Carcerian earns its keep, he'll make sure it gets its daily walks like a good dog. Eventually, Dojun's new house was completed within the agreed timeline. The house itself had 1 basement level and 3 above-ground levels. The interior is equipped with state-of-the-art tech and home systems. Grandma, Yoon-young, and Hyun-juyeon saw the massive residence for the first time and were overwhelmed by its size. It's not even a house anymore. That shit is a palace. Aside from the scale of their new home, the slumbering beast in the backyard was an even bigger distraction. Seo Dojun simply asked his grandma to treat the Carcerian as a chicken in the yard of a country house. Excited, Yoon-young wanted to run in and take a look inside the house. While grandma and little sis were exploring their new home, Dojun stayed outside with Juyeon. She waited for his family to leave before bringing up the eerie energy rising from the ground she had sensed since earlier. Besides the giant dragon in the backyard, there's something deadly hiding underneath. Dojun was impressed by how sharp Juyeon's instincts have become and assured her that it won't pose a danger to those he cares about. She must have picked up on the Death Knight squad's hidden presence. More importantly, Dojun wanted to thank her for always taking care of his family while he was gone. To return the favor, he invited Hyun-juyeon to have a meal together over the coming weekend. Just the two of them, no distractions. It would have been a romantic move if he hadn't forgotten that he had already promised to go to the amusement park with Yoon-young this weekend. Now he just looks like an ass. Dojun had been so absorbed in gate hunting lately that he momentarily forgot. It can't be helped. Little Yoon-young must take priority. To save him from the dilemma, Juyeon offered to go together. He can just take little sis and waifu to the amusement park together. She's the best girl for real. The days flew by and the weekend arrived. 2 of South Korea's most powerful S-rankers and a little girl went to the amusement park like a happy family. Given their high profiles, they cannot avoid the public eye. From afar, they looked like a match made in heaven couple, and the general public agreed. Dojin made Juyeon's ass hurt in bumper cars. The roller coaster barely had an effect on the S-rankers, but Yoon was having the time of her life. By sundown, the little girl was knocked out cold, drooling on Big Bro's shoulder. On their way back home, Juyeon caught him stealing a glance at her. He remembered how fondly Yoon talks about big sister Juyeon. She would frequently come over and cook for them. It was nice to see Yoon being a normal kid, loved and cared for by many. Once more, Dojin thanked Juyeon for always being there for his family. If possible, he would like to keep that going from now on. She was confused by his words. They already live in the safest house in the world. What could he even mean? Realizing what he was possibly implying, Juyeon's face turned red. She tried to make him clarify what he meant, but Dojin refused to elaborate. Halfway through their drive home, Dojin's spidey senses tingled. He felt the presence of the last bastard he needed to take care of. A familiar killing intent has invaded the house. It would be faster for him to return on foot, so Dojin left Eunyoung with Juyeon. He jumped out of the car and ran back home. Dojin used the skyscrapers as stepping stones, soaring into the clouds like a rocket ship. In just a few minutes, he reached Seoul Gurogu, where his compound resides. When he touched down, he spotted Kang Youngpyo struggling against his death knights. The thug was trying his hardest to break through the tin cans, but their tricky swordsmanship and coordination kept him locked up. To make matters worse, the Carcerian finally woke up to join the party, making it even harder for Kang Youngpyo to resist. He was caught off guard. Who in their right mind would keep a dragon as a guard dog? Dojin expected this bastard to make his move when neither Juyeon nor he was around. If Kang Youngpyo had been a little less cowardly, he wouldn't have gotten caught in the trap. Having seen enough of his pathetic power, Dojin made his army of elite death knights stand down. He called out Kang Youngpyo for barging into his house, only to be pitifully chased away by his guards like a common criminal. Dojin doesn't want to hear any ear-splitting barking today. He wants all the smoke. The angry Kang Youngpyo loaded up an aggressive attack, but his wind-up was met with a fist to the skull. Dojin laughed. He just swung lightly, and this fraud couldn't even dodge a simple punch. While the thug was trying to recover, Dojin kicked him in the gut, rearranging his internal organs. Youngpyo threw up stomach bile while refusing to believe the reality. Sure, they were both S-ranks, but they are worlds apart when it comes to power. Dojin cocked his fist back and offered to be a little gentler on his next attack. It took every bit of Youngpyo's brain power to move his head to the side. A piece of his ear was deleted out of existence. Had he not moved his head, his brain would be blown to bits right now. Although it was humiliating, he finally brought out his final gambit in hopes of leveling the playing field in a head-on clash. Instead of trying to beat Dojin fair and square, he'll use his last resort to go after the kid's family instead. Dojin chuckled as he let the thirsty boy drink his special drink. Youngpyo's body twisted and transformed into something even more grotesque. His left arm turned gigantic, nearly bursting at the seams. He looked like he had just come out of a long goon session. This was the effect of the Okeanos potion, which grants the user the left arm of a titan. It's a valuable one-use item. This thug must have gone into debt just to buy one from the black market. Youngpyo pounded the ground with his titan arm, thinking that this maneuver would put Dojin's grandma in mortal danger. He pounded the ground with enough force to generate tectonic movement, but the house remained motionless. The overgooned thug was banking on the earthquake to distract Dojin with his grandma's peril, but nothing happened. He tried to use his head, but it was useless. The magic stone powder he sprinkled on the land absorbs all kinds of shock. Right now, Grandma Dojin is chilling like a villain in her luxury massage chair. Everything Youngpyo tried miserably failed. He was in despair. From now on, he'll be paying the price for targeting Dojin and his family. Grabbing Youngpyo by the hair, Dojin slammed the shitty gangster to the reinforced ground. He gave that man CTE, knocking him helplessly unconscious. For good measure, Dojin gave that empty skull a good kicking, launching the limp body into the skies. By the time Yoon and Juyeon reached home, Kang Youngpyo was completely out of commission. Juyeon made sure to cover the little girl's eyes. Big Bro looked a little too menacing right now. Kang Youngpyo was barely alive when he was handed over to the Hero Association. That night, Seo Dojin was visited in his dreams by the previous owner of his body. It's been a long time since they first met. The old Dojin thanked him for making all those wishes come true. He has no more worries on his way to the other side. He's done more than what they agreed on at the start. Old Dojin didn't even know how he could repay the man who took over his life. New Dojin was just glad to be of service. These days he wakes up to Hyun Juyeon's beautiful smile every morning. Old Dojin already paid him back plenty. Thanks to him, the sword god finally found his happiness.